To kick off 2024 on this channel, I'm starting off the Ys series. The first two Ys games are some of the most re-released RPGs out there, so narrowing down which versions I wanted to cover was difficult. The individual PC-88 releases of the first two games were considered, but in the end I decided to cover at least one retro and one modern version. So for the retro version I have the combined remake of the first two games, Ys Book 1 and 2 for the TurboGrafx CD. This is done through an emulator as there is no legit way to get this version anymore with the shutdown of the Wii Shop channel, and as much as I'd like to buy the physical hardware and software, that is way out of my price range at the moment. This choice will bite me later on. For the modern version we have the most recent, Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus, the Steam update of the PSP update of the PC remake of the first two games. I am very thankful for the existence of this version as, like the Turbo CD version, the physical PSP copies are now ludicrously expensive. As a side note, this was the first game I've ever bought and played on Steam. In 2023. I've just never really had a good enough computer until then. I felt like such an old man trying to get this thing that's been around nearly half my life to work and cooperate with OBS. As for my history with the Ys series, I became aware of it when I discovered the YouTuber Happy Console Gamer in early 2010. I thought to myself, I should try these games, and finally did so 10 years later, when I got Ys 8 in 2020. That's a weird trend with me, starting Japanese RPG series with the 8th game. Ys, Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem, Dragon Quest, you could even fudge things to claim Phantasy Star Online 3 as that series' 8th game. It's not an intentional thing, it's just how things turned out. I've also since played Memories of Celceta and Ys 9 too, and have had a sealed copy of Ys Origins that I've been holding off on until I played these first games, as I heard they would help me appreciate it more. As for why I'm not doing individual versions of these games and counting these remakes as a single game each, there are very few individual versions of Ys 1 and Ys 2 out there on the same system, due to a lack of many individual Ys 2 parts. Plus the games were intended to be one, and only split into two games when the developers ran out of either budget or time, I forget the exact details. Counting these as a single game each is due to the fact that Ys Book 1 and 2 is contained on the same CD, and does its best to merge both games into a single experience. Chronicles Plus is based on the PSP remakes which were also both contained on the same UMD, but I do admit that it's a little tougher to justify, as the Steam version has them launch as two separate games with two separate sets of achievements. In this case, it also helps make things neater. I am open to covering any other ports in the future people may want me to look at, as long as they're different enough for me to consider spending the time on. But let's actually start the game. This first video will cover the section of the game containing the first, Ys, Ancient Ys Vanished, Omen, also called the Vanished Omens in some parts. I'll cover a section of the game on the TurboGrafx CD first, and then we'll go over the Chronicles Plus experience. Book 1 and 2 add an opening cutscene before the title screen, explaining the history of the country of Ys. Basically, it's the bestest, most peaceful, most prosperous country out there, and it's better than all the others. It was ruled by 6 powerful, beloved priests, and above them, protected by 2 goddesses. Not that that all helped them at all, because Ys still vanished 700 years ago along with any memory of it. Until now. Starting a new game gets you another cutscene. No narration this time, just letting you enjoy that sweet CD quality music in 1989. We get a series of clips alongside the names of the game's characters. We get a boat, the site of 6 books, our main character Adol Kristin on that boat alongside an emulator glitch, a girl playing a harmonica in the rain, Adol cutting, an army of demons led by a sinister blue blondie, Adol deciding fuck those guys and cutting through them, bloke with a knife, girl with the most watery eyes in the world, fact, man looks slightly bemused at tower. It's pretty ambitious to have a go at your own anime opening on a console this early on. I could see why so many would be impressed by it back in 1989. I would be. I'd be like, I won't be born for another 3 years, what the hell is this? The cutscene ends and we see Adol's ship dock. Another emulator gaff is the gameplay part of the screen poking out of the border and ruining the lovely presentation, plus the top of the border repeating at the bottom of the screen. Let's just cover those up. As I step off the ship, I am welcomed to the country Esteria. Before Adol can walk off, this woman shouts over to him. She introduces herself as Sarah, a fortune teller. She tells Adol she's been waiting for him and asks him to follow her to her shop. She takes me there in the town Minia. I follow Sarah inside and she tells me that bad stuff is going to happen to the country and Adol is the only one who can stop it. But he lacks any equipment, so she tells me to go buy a sword, shield and some armour. Then when I can actually defend myself, she'll tell me what she wants me to do. So I look around the town. A little girl tells me she found a silver shield, but a weird guy in a black cape mugged her for it. Apparently Sarah has been talking about the end of the world for a while, but at most, people just find her strange. There's a shrine, and thieves have stolen from it and stored them in their hideout. There's Dr. Klaus, who claims he's in a hurry as his patients are waiting for him, but all he's doing is wandering in circles. I enter the bar, where I have 3 people to talk to. I start with Ormond, the bartender, who tells me that there have been a lot of robberies recently. The bearded man, Garrick, has been hired to hunt down the thieves and offers me a drink. I take the offer and he tells me of the Rhoda tree, which sheds a mystical seed. He says those seeds are the most prized delicacy in Esteria, and he would like to try at least one during his life. Then there's the one-eyed man, Donis, who offers to tell me his story. He lost a very expensive sapphire ring that he bought for his wife. Now he doesn't dare go home and assumes the thieves have taken it. Right around the corner is a guy who tells me that he saw the owner of the trading shop pick up a sapphire ring. I'm told he's a very dodgy guy, but in this case, if he found it on the ground, then it wasn't stolen. Donis is just an idiot who took his wife's expensive jewellery out and dropped it in the street. So I check out this pawn shop, ran by Pim, where I can see he is selling the sapphire ring for 1,000 gold, which is the exact amount I'm starting with. I buy it and return it to Donis, who pays me back 1,500 gold for it. It also grants me the 50 XP I need to reach level 2, before I fought a single enemy. Wandering around town some more, there's another person complaining about a creep in a black cape. One woman tells me that the thieves have their hideout on the edge of Clifton's Cliff, a ridge all the way to the northeast from here. The equipment shops are in the southeast corner of town. Obviously I won't be affording the more powerful longsword or katana just yet, so I settle with the short sword for 500 gold. In the armour shop I buy a set of chain armour for 400 gold. I can't afford a shield yet, so I equip what I have for now. Another civilian says that her father is the mayor of Zeptic village and has been troubled lately. She wants me to check in on him to find out what's wrong. Said village is found by following the gravel road out of this one, as another woman tells me. I check in with Sarah, and despite being armed and wearing armour, it's not good enough without a shield. The only place I can earn more money is outside of town, so I leave to the north. Out in the plains my first enemy is a basic Curloid, the blue ones, with the brown oak rots further north. This game uses the bump system, in that to damage enemies I simply have to bump into them. Of course I have to get my aiming right, otherwise I might bump head on with a stronger enemy or have one manage to nip me in the side. Health is restored over time by standing still. There's a bit of jank in that it's easy to get an enemy to stand inside you and lose health quickly, and the 4-way movement is a little limiting, but I still found it enjoyable to steamroll through enemies just by walking into them. I follow the gravel path north and find a bridge going east, but for now I play it safe and hang out here, getting used to the game and slowly building up the gold I need, even reaching level 3 while doing so. I return to the armour shop having built up more than I needed, with 700 gold getting me the small shield. With myself fully equipped I return to Sarah, who asks me if I know of the Books of Ys. She explains about Ys being a lost country, and that its history was recorded across 6 Books of Ys, but the books vanished when Ys did. Her crystal tells me that one Book of Ys is located in the shrine. She asks if I think I can recover it, and when I say yes, she gives me the crystal so that it can help me find my way. Obtaining it grants me another 100 XP, bumping me to level 4. I leave town once again and cross that bridge, meeting the dog-like Rebol enemies, the strongest found in the Asterian plains. There's a big tree here, where I learn how the bump system can mess you up with faster enemies when 2 Rebol juggle me to near death. After healing up, I keep moving east past that tree and come across a cave entrance. That's not what I was looking for. I get moving a large distance south from the tree until I spot another large one. About halfway between the 2 trees, I move east to find this pond and inspect this spot to see something sparkle in the water. I dive in and come out with a golden vase. I return to Minia and Pim's pawn shop to sell it to him. It was his own lost vase and he offers me 2,000 gold to get it back. It has no other purpose, so I go for it. With 2 grand I can return to the weapon shop and spend it all on a longsword, making sure to equip it. In the northeast corner of the town is the woman who played the harmonica in the opening. She introduces herself as Lair, but to avoid confusion I'll refer to her as her more modern localised name, Rhea, which she will be called in Chronicles Plus. Her most prized possession, her silver harmonica, was stolen and she is pretty miserable over it. That's 2 silver items known to be stolen already. Not I can do about it just yet, so I get following that gravel road out of town again. Crossing the bridge and sticking with it all the way east takes me to Zeptic village, from here on referred to as Zepic village like in Chronicles Plus. Speaking of Chronicles Plus, now is a good time to swap over to that version. We get an entirely new opening for this version. We start on Rhea playing the silver harmonica. We get a few glimpses of the ancient country of Ys, then 2 naked blue-haired women, one of which cries, which gets a load of demons rising from the water. A glimpse of the future villain and the two women are now dressed and staring at the big tower. They pray and get wings, but who cares about that? He has Adol on his boat. It's much smaller than on the Turbo CD, and he's travelling alone. A few shots of places on Asteria, and little Adol and his dad before showing him leaving home to start his adventure. Back to the present, Adol's boat is caught in a storm. One blue-haired woman is jailed, and Rhea stops playing as Adol is shipwrecked as the camera shows off that huge tower once again, but now the top is obscured by clouds. So yeah, we get a new opening section just before Minia in this version. Adol wakes up in a clinic being looked over by Dr. Bluto. Adol checks himself over to find none of his injuries are serious enough to stop him travelling before Bluto has him get more rest, telling him he is at Barbado Port. Then comes in Bluto's son, Slaff. They chat for a bit and the two introduce themselves to Adol, Slaff being the one who found Adol on the beach. Adol shows gratitude the only way a mostly silent protagonist can, through narration telling us he did it. He also explains that he set off from Promolog. That's not where he's from, it's just the last place he visited before journeying to Asteria. Slaff says that Adol is the first person he knows of to make it past the storm wall surrounding Asteria in the sea. That's when the nurse, Ayla, comes in and gives them a telling off for keeping Adol from resting with their endless questions. Slaff gives in but tells Adol he wants to speak with him again once he wakes up. Adol rests and recovers in no time. He's up and out of bed in a few days. Leaving my room, I talk to Bluto and Ayla. They say I'm free to go but recommend I take it easy, figuring a walk around town should do some good. Bluto lets me know that the portside warehouse is where the town's militia is based, which means Slaff should be there. So I leave the clinic and look around. Apart from the graphical upgrade, which is expected considering the years between the versions, the most obvious change to me is how much faster Adol moves in this version, along with having diagonal movement. The game keeps track of every NPC in it, so I have to talk to everyone at least once to gain their entry. Next to the clinic is Old Man George, who puts my health down to Bluto's skill as a doctor. Down the stairs and to the west is Asha, who tells me that monsters started appearing 6 months ago, keeping her from seeing her friends in Minia. North from here is Old Man Pastol, who tells me about the Picards in front of him. They have a series cute mascot, like slimes or moogles. Fran is north of him near the town gate. Thanks to the monsters and the storm wall, she says all they can do is fish for themselves thanks to the loss of trade. The house slightly southwest of her contains Granny Daria, whose son and daughter-in-law live in Minia and want her to join them. But Barbado is her home, so no. Outside the house is Marco, whose job at the harbour has been put on hold. He wanted to try the silver trade next, but a creepy caped man nicking it all has put a stop to that too. Checking the note in the menu lets me see who I have yet to speak to and has a little blurb for every one of them with little bits of lore mentioned nowhere else. I'm not going into all that. South from here I can enter the bar. In here is Karen, who isn't much bothered about the storm wall making her poor, but more about it making her bored. Behind the bar is Gerald with nothing interesting to add. East of the bar is another house. In here we have Cheryl, who doesn't want her dad to move them out of Asteria away from her friends. Her dad is Mason the trader, who's annoyed about the silver trade he works in being ruined and now he just wants to move back home. His wife, Sylvia, says that most of Mason's fellow traders were wiped out by the storm wall when they tried to leave. Another house slightly southeast has 3 more people in it. Torrance worries if Slaff has what it takes to defend the town and wonders if everyone will be better off moving to Minia instead. Danny thinks the storm wall is cool and wants it to stay so that Cheryl can't move away. His mother, Rebecca, doesn't want to move but is considering it for her son's safety. Running west along the harbour takes me to the port house so I can speak with Slaff. He asks Adol what people overseas are saying about Asteria. Adol tells him that he's heard Asteria is cursed, to which Slaff tells him that isn't true, but it's not true either. It makes him realise that help from other countries is unlikely. I have a few things I can ask him about. Asking about Barbado has him tell me that it's Asteria's only port town and was once a small fishing village until the discovery of silver made it boom. But with the appearance of the storm wall, no one can get in to actually trade with them. Asking about Asteria itself gets me told it's a small island country with only 3 towns: Barbado, Minia and Zepik. There was a 4th town, Rastin, but it was destroyed by monsters after their mine closed. There's also Dam Tower, the one that goes up into the clouds and is so tall it can be seen from neighbouring countries. Any other tourist attractions are filled with monsters after the storm wall appeared. When I ask about the storm wall, he tells me that it appeared 6 months ago on a night fair trade ships carrying silver set off, resulting in them all being destroyed. With everyone in Asteria now being trapped there, everyone has just kind of accepted their new life. Finally, the militia. Monsters appeared when the storm wall did, starting from the road up to the mountains and soon reaching the towns. Minia was safe thanks to already being walled, and Zepik kept their attackers out using a mystical bell, but Barbado was hit hard, resulting in the militia being formed to fight them off. Also in here is Drake. One common thing I've seen characters claiming in this series is that red hair like Adol's is incredibly rare, and this is in a world where people have natural blue and green hair. Speaking of green hair, up the stairs and out onto the roof is Jacob, who is currently keeping watch for any approaching monsters. Right outside the port house is Fisherman Batello, the one person benefiting from the storm wall, as his recent hauls have been much bigger than they were before it appeared. There's a weapon shop west of the bar, but it's closed. Now I have one last NPC to find in this town. It takes a few minutes, but I eventually spot Stephen wandering around the town gate, warning me about Curloids out on the plains. That's everyone in Barbado entered into my notes, so I return to Slaff. Listening to everything he has to say and talking to everyone in town, Slaff thinks Adol may be what Asteria needs and offers him a spot in the militia. Adol wants to travel Asteria and see its state with his own eyes. Slaff is still impressed by Adol and tells him that Minia is to the north. He also gives me a short sword for free. Getting this sword unlocks the Sword Details achievement, but since Steam achievements don't appear in the game's window, OBS doesn't pick them up. I'll show them all obtained once I have them all. This sword is missable, by the way. If you leave Barbado unarmed and then buy a sword in Minia, you can no longer get this one. I can check in on Bludo and Ayla, who tell me to be careful and will offer me free healing if I'm injured, but with that I can leave town in the northwest and enter the Asterian plains. The bump system has been updated since the 80s, and the game explains to me now that it's better to hit the enemies slightly off centre, as running into them straight on, face to face, runs a higher risk of you taking damage as well. This new section to the plains is a winding path north filled with Vocrots and Curloids. It takes me a little bit to get used to the new bump system here, but once I did, it feels so good. The combination of Adol's upgraded speed and the invention of moving diagonally makes it so satisfying when you end up on a roll and just plough through several enemies in a row, seeing them explode into pieces. Of course, the game's soundtrack was redone, as it has in just about all of the game's millions of re-releases. And while I do prefer this version of the soundtrack, the Turbo CD one is pretty great too. Head north enough and I hit the outside of Minia's southern wall, so I run around it west and then north to find the town entrance, but trying to cross the bridge going north has me stopped by Julius. He says it's too dangerous for kids and asks where Adol's parents are until he realises Adol doesn't look that young. Everyone who isn't a single digit age looks the exact same age in this art style though, so I don't know how he can tell. He still warns Adol that it's dangerous ahead and he'd be safer in Minia though. So I head on in and now have to talk to everyone to get their entries. Straight away is Prim, who lets me know that Sarah is looking for me since that meeting with her off the ship was cut. To the east from here is Fana, who tells me of a huge crater past the northern pass known as Bagyu Baded, which is where she believes the thieves are hiding. Raya is in the corner, and the important characters have artwork show up on screen when you talk to them. Directly south of Raya is Arshel, whose brother was attacked by a monster in the mines. Outside the clinic, Dr. Klaus, with a K now, runs out and I quickly get his entry before it becomes missable. Inside the clinic, I chat with his nurse, Lisa, who will also offer healing. She says it's been busy since the monsters attacked, and Klaus has gone to make a house call in Zepik since they have no doctors of their own. Back to the town entrance and south has me running to Hans, looking like Ken Masters from behind, who gives me a hint towards Pim finding the silver ring. South from him is Boss Bangoa, looking for Donis, now with just one N, as he's one of Bangoa's employees and has been dodging work since he lost his ring. South a little more is Cornell, the guy who told me about Sarah banging on about the world ending. Julius is outside the bar and is the one who tells me about the creepy blue guy. The bar now has more than 3 people inside. First is Ricardo, who's obsessed with Raya, and across from him is Caesar. There's Nikki the dancer. Orman, Garrick and Donis are still their own menu though. The 3 of them have basically the same stuff to say. To the right is Old Man Franz, who also points me towards Sarah. There's Chest, the tall guy drinking away his sorrow after being named Chest, and also the Stormwall taking down tourism and leaving him with no work. He does mention one old man who wanted to take a look at Darm Tower recently, foreshadowing for later. Finally, Miner Doug is out of a job with the monsters overrunning the mines. To the southeast we have a normal house. There's Effie, who says her mum and granddad are miserable because they can't move back home. The mother, Charlotte, says they used to live in Rastin village before it was destroyed. Then the grandfather, Old Man Harrison, warns me of the bats in the mine. South some more to reach the weapon and armour shops. Outside is Haystack, who is very impressed at how his ancestors built something as huge as Darm Tower. There's also Aurora, who says that the price of everything has vastly increased since the mine closed. Into the shops to talk to Dios, owner of the armour shop, and Rossetti, who owns the weapon shop. Another house to the left of them containing Mayor Marcel and his wife, Pamela. Back to the town entrance to check out the western side starting at the north. The first house contains Tabitha, the daughter of Zepik's mayor, along with Buck. Outside the pawn shop is Johan, who talks about playing under a giant tree. I go inside to talk to Pim and find out that he isn't from Asteria either. He travelled here from the mainland and got stranded when the storm wall appeared. South of his shop is another house where I can add Martha and Freddy, who turn out to be Granny Daria's son and daughter-in-law. To the south is Sarah's house, and outside is Luca, who tells me about the fairy tale of the silver sword that was once used to defeat an army of monsters. But there's still one more house next to Sarah's, and inside I can add Old Man Bettel and Lydia, the only person who finds the mysterious blue man in a black cape attractive instead of menacing. Until he looked back at her, that is. Now I can finally talk to Sarah. They have a different introduction since they're meeting in a different place for the first time, but it's basically the same. She's been waiting for Adol to appear and wants him to get fully equipped. I check my notes to find I'm still missing some Minia citizens. Next to Rhea, I find there's some stairs added to this version that let me climb up on top of the town's walls, but there's no one here, for now. I visit Pym and buy the silver ring, since I've already saved money getting a free sword. I return to Donit and give it him back for that 1500 gold. I find I missed a house west of the bar. Inside is Charm, but she's not the last person I'm missing, there's still far more. They turn out to be in the clinic. When Lisa said they were busy, she meant it, as all 4 beds are full. That's Bron, Theodore, Kane and Old Man Mash. The first 3 were attacked by monsters out in the field, but Mash was attacked from behind in his own home. He was the owner of the Silver Shield in this version, so we know it was Mysterious Blue Man what did it. With every NPC and Minia added to my notes, I can now leave town. On the Turbo CD, the plains were one big screen. Here it's been split into a few separate screens and some locations have been moved around a little. Zepik Village is still found by taking generally the same route though. I head north to the next screen and cross this bridge. I reach level 2. Leveling on the Turbo CD in Ys 1 is different to every other version, but I'll get into that later. There's a new bridge going east a little earlier than the one to Zepik, but all it takes me to is a wall keeping me from this newly added chest. As I keep moving north, I take out my first Rebel. North to the 3rd screen and finally reach the bridge that leads towards the path to Zepik, which is another new screen. The huge tree and the cave entrance that used to be in this corner of the plains have been moved to the west instead. I cross another bridge to the east and go south to another screen. To the south is the lake where the golden vase is found, and here it's actually visible so it's easier to find. Heading west from there takes me to another screen where I can find a chest containing a bestiary potion. This will allow me to catalogue the enemies I defeat and show the display for Adol's stats. But first I have to equip it as an item and drink it. It also shows me how much XP I have left until my next level up. So the way the bestiary works here is that simply killing an enemy once only adds them to it, but not their stats. You have to keep killing more of that enemy to add more and more stats to their entry. A slight pain in Ys 1 is that not all unlocked stats are listed in gameplay when you kill one. There's a couple that you must enter the bestiary screen to check see if they were unlocked. So I head back to Minia and kill everything in my way. I go to Pym and sell him the golden vase. I have 3700 gold and so I buy myself a longsword, chainmail and small shield. I then return to Sarah and have her fill me in on the books of Ys and give me her crystal. In this one she makes my directions a little clearer by telling me to go to Zepik Village, which is on the way to the shrine, and speak with Jebba, her aunt, who has a lot of knowledge of the history of Ys. The XP obtained from accepting Sarah's request gets me to level 3. First I return to Pym and try to buy a ring from him, which lets me teleport back to town. He charged 200 gold, but I refuse. I refuse 7 or 8 times in a row and he knocks the price down to 180. Haggling with Pym unlocks the Pym's Lower Approach achievement. I also buy a mirror, a limited use item that stuns nearby enemies. But I didn't buy it for my enemies. I go straight outside and use it on Johan to confuse him, getting the some kind of sorcerer achievement for using a mirror on a civilian. Interestingly enough, using it on Rhea doesn't confuse her. She knows what you've just used. I leave town and get killing enemies, quickly completing the Kerloid's Bestiary entry. The Red Ball is completed next. From the bridge leading to the screen to Zepik Village, I move northwest to find that moved cave entrance and the ruins of Rastin Village. From here I head southwest to find a new screen. As I move west through this screen I complete the Okrot's entry. Just one new enemy left in this area. At the western edge of the screen I go through this narrow path south to another screen. Here is the last enemy, Wild Picards. It feels wrong making the cute mascot explode into bloody chunks and several smaller Picards, but it's for the 100%. This screen is very maze-like and after a few minutes of aimless wandering, I've killed enough to complete their entry too. With that I cross the bridge towards Zepik Village. From that first bridge I have to move northeast to find it, as the village has been moved slightly further north in this version. Before moving back to the Turbo CD, I'd like to also say that I did a third playthrough on the hardest difficulty, Nightmare, for one of the achievements. The character art also looks different since this version adds the option to use art from the 2001 PC remake Ys 1 and 2 Complete. I'll probably just be talking about the bosses, but just to show how much harder the game is, it takes 3 hits from enemies on the first playing screen to kill me, while the enemy itself took far more than normal. You must master the intricacies of the bump system to get far here. But back to the Turbo CD now to cover Zepik Village. To compare how much more I had to do, I'm just under 20 minutes in on the Turbo CD, while in Chronicles it took me over an hour to reach Zepik. The first person I talk to is hearing voices out in the plains. Another talks of a strange room in the mine with statues of the 2 goddesses. That won't be relevant for a long time. The first house moving east from the entrance belongs to the mayor. He wants to ask me a favour, but first I have to tell him that I can keep a secret. The villager's precious silver bell has been stolen. I agree to get it back and he tells me the thief's hideout is in the mountains. He also begs me not to tell anyone else that the bell is gone. An old man tells me that the hideout is also right next to Dam Tower. He believes that's why the tower was installed with a one-way entrance that lets you in, but not out, in case they decide to steal from it. Another old man says that despite them not being well liked, they are very knowledgeable, so I could always check in on them if I need any advice. And despite the mayor trying to keep it a secret, one old dude already knows the silver bell has been stolen. How did you find out? This town is mostly old men. Another one says he's seen the suspicious blue guy carrying the silver shield off towards the shrine. There's a house in the southeast corner belonging to Sarah's Aunt Jebba, or Jeva in this version. She recognises Sarah's crystal and knowing that I'm after the Books of Ease, gives me the shrine key so I can get inside. To the north of Jebba's house is the exit to the mountain path. It starts off with just a narrow, straightforward path mostly going north. The only enemy on this screen is a new one, the Unugun. They appear just as the shrine comes into view, with there being a path off to the west and east. I hang about killing Unuguns until I reach level 5. I then enter the shrine. And I'm already going back to Chronicles Plus, as they added some new stuff to do between Zepik and the shrine. One notable thing is that on the Turbo CD, Zepik shared the same town music with Minia, but here it has its own theme. There's a new house directly north of the entrance. Inside is Linda, Granny Edda, who tells me that there are 2 giant trees out there in case I didn't discover them before, which on this version I haven't yet. And there's also Mark, who gushes about the pier, hinting at an optional scene a little later. Outside the house is Granny Lucia, who is aware of the problems that come with this village being mostly elderly. But thanks to that silver bell, monsters don't attack. Further east is Elbert, the man who saw our mystery man with the silver shield, and there's Old Man Corvo next to him. He was the old man who told me about the thieves' smarts, but here he also gives me their leader's name, Gorban, and says that he is actually a great man who saved his life when Corvo was under attack. To the south is another house, and outside is Old Man Cronin, the one who saw the statues of the goddesses in the mine. But here he adds that one day, one of the statues just disappeared. There's Clive, who says that a guy named Luther has disappeared yet again and left his wife worried. From his neighbour's disappearance, all he takes from it is that he wishes he had an attractive girlfriend who would worry about him. Right in front of the house I find Palmer, who is finding the mayor's recent attitude suspicious, muttering about bribing the thieves with everything he owns. To the east by the pier, I talk to Demi, who says that Jebba once told her that all of Esteria was once ruled by 2 goddesses. Old Man Pablo is asleep at the end of the pier. West of the house I last mentioned is Granny Tobe, who is the one to tell me about the thieves' hideout. In this version she says the hideout was built there specifically to block the entrance to Dam Tower. I finally enter this house to find it's where the mayor's house was moved in this version. Here, Mayor Robles only finds me trustworthy because I tell him I know Dr. Bludo. The conversation is just about the same. There's another house south of the mayor's and inside is Iris, Luther's wife. She thinks he sleepwalked off somewhere, as that's a regular occurrence. Of course this means his house is empty. Next is Jebba's house just right of the mayor's so she can give me the shrine key. She makes it more clear in this version that one of the Books of Ease should be in there in the lower levels. She tells me that Sarah's crystal should be able to help get to those levels. North of Jebba's house is Granny Sawyer, who says the shrine is haunted. Around the back of the mayor's house is Old Man Lahan, who talks about the goddesses once saving the country from some cataclysm. That is everyone I can talk to in Zepik, but before moving on to the mountain path, there's a missable side quest relating to the missing Luther. I travel all the way back to Barbado, reaching level 4 just as I make it back. Luther is found in Dr. Bludo's clinic, where they're offering the town's militia to escort him back to Zepik. But Luther declines, saying he can make it back alone. As we continue to listen, it is confirmed that Luther has a chronic sleepwalking disorder. As he leaves and passes me, a portrait appears and gives away that Luther will be important, also revealing his surname, Gemma. Luther Gemma is a character I will meet later on in the Turbo CD version. This added side quest just lets us meet him earlier than we normally would. I talk to Bludo and he says that Luther sleepwalks all the way here often. You may think that will be the end of this little quest, but no. I return to the northwestern screen of the plains with the Picards in the maze to find that Luther Gemma is not just a chronic sleepwalker, he also has no sense of direction. If this was a regular occurrence, you'd think he'd know his way home by now. Adol says that Luther's wife is worried about him, and I learn that the sleepwalking is actually a recent condition. It started, like most problems in Asteria, 6 months ago when the storm wall appeared. Saving Luther unlocks the achievement That Wacky Minstrel, and we warp him home to Iris. She thought Luther was definitely dead this time, and when Luther tells her that Adol saved him, she asks how she can repay him. But then Luther interrupts, saying they have business to attend to and they walk off inside. Oi! Your apology sex can wait, where's my reward? Oh, you done already? It's been seconds. Luther wonders if there's a deeper meaning to his sleepwalking and tells me that in his dreams he can hear a young girl's voice calling to him. Maybe the real reason his wife is so worried is because he's constantly sneaking off in the night to pursue his dreams of a younger woman. Iris is considering tying him down to his bed. Too much information? And where's my reward? For a minor bit of foreshadowing, Luther is listed in the character notes at the very end, separately from the other citizens of Zepik Village. With that distraction dealt with, I head off north into the mountain path. I hang around outside the shrine taking out Unaguns to complete their bestiary entry. The western side path leads nowhere in both versions, by the way. Going east of the shrine takes me to another screen. Still just Unaguns appear as I cross the bridge and reach the Thieves' Den. I completely forgot to do this on the Turbo CD and just went straight into the shrine. By the entrance is the quiet Morgan the Thief. Lugan the Thief in the back also won't talk to me, so I talk to the boss in the middle. Gorban mocks the idea that I might have come here to take them down myself. When I choose to negotiate for the Silver Bell, he has no idea what I'm talking about. They don't have it. Gorban knows of the importance of the Silver Bell, and his brand of thievery draws a line at robbing a place of its only protection from monsters. Now I've spoken to Gorban, the others will speak to me too. Morgan says that Darm Tower has been completely taken over by monsters. Lugan complains about a bandit he can't reach who keeps showing up in the weirdest places. The chest in here is empty, by the way. There's a passage in the back, but nothing I can do in it just yet. I return to Zepik and tell the mayor that the thieves don't have it. He doesn't believe them until he remembers the much talked of blue guy going towards the shrine. I mean, if he's so particular about stealing a silver shield, it's not too out there for him to steal other silver items too. Consider Ray has stolen silver harmonica as well. Back to the Thieves' Den, Gorban can't believe the rumours that they've been going around stealing silver items from people. He says that their group only steals from the rich who profit from the suffering of their workers. Even their own silver was stolen too. That just leaves the shrine to inspect, but first I have a few leftover Unaguns to kill for that entry. I reach level 5 doing this, which I achieve at the same time I complete that entry. Now for that shrine. The TurboGrafx version of it first. There's a row of blue statues here with a gold one at the end. With Sarah's crystal equipped, touching it will warp me to another room. I would like to map out my route through the dungeons like I've done with other RPGs in the past, but I can't actually find any maps ripped from the game on the internet. This first room has several doors leading to smaller rooms. I start by going through 2 doors to the east to the northeast corner of the room to find a chest containing a ruby. Then back to the start and through another doorway west to find a second chest that is locked. To the start again, I go south through 2 doorways, west through 2 more, then west some more and north through another to reach the door requiring the shrine key to open. Through that door is the game's first boss, Genocrez. Genocrez is a wizard that teleports around the arena, but the arena has 3 flamethrowers on either side that release a flame that reaches halfway across the room. It's in a specific pattern though, so you can work it out. When he's in a safe enough spot that you can touch him without being burned, just get in there, run into him, and watch that health bar plummet. He's a pushover, even if I did die first time because I wasn't expecting the flames to be that damaging that quickly. Next time I only have to make contact a few times before he's dead. A door opens in the back and I gain 150 XP, going up to level 6. Going through the door takes me into the first basement. It's another maze-like screen that really makes me wish I had a map I could draw on. First new enemy in here are the sword-wielding Unos. To start with, I stick to the western wall and go all the way south, through a couple doors into the second basement, running into my first Bulner, these green insects. East a little to 2 doors and I first go through the western one and through another to fight the fiery looter that are guarding a chest. The chest contains a prison key. I ignore the second doorway and go back to the first basement. As I reach the entrance I came from, I reach level 7. South from the entrance, I keep moving generally east until I find a pair of jail cells. The western one just has a looter inside, while the eastern one is holding the blue-haired girl from both versions' openings. She introduces herself as Fina, and Adol actually speaks. He tells her to flee to Zepik Village while he keeps the monster's attention. Freeing Fina gives me some XP and gets me to level 8. Before she leaves, she has a key I could make use of, the treasure box key. She's fine for me to walk off now, she'll get to the village off screen. To the south of Fina's cell, in the southeast corner of the floor, is a chest requiring my new key to unlock. It gets me a necklace. From there, running west all the way along the southern wall, and then north when I hit another wall, takes me to another chest containing the Mask of Eyes. This one is actually important, the previous two treasures are just for selling to Pim. I next return to the previous floor and use my new key to open the chest I couldn't first time to get an armor ring. There are a few rings in the game and I can equip one at a time. It reduces all damage by 50%. I have no other rings to use, so there is no reason not to wear this. Rather than explore deeper, I instead leave the rest of the shrine for now. I go back to Minia and Pim's pawn shop. I sell the ruby for 1200 gold and the necklace for 500. To the armor shop next for a 2000 gold set of plate armor. With my extra defense, I head back into the shrine depths. Back to the second basement and the two doorways. I finally go into the eastern one and then through the tunnel on the right. Moving east again, I go north through another tunnel and then west. I take the first southern turn to another chest containing that silver bell. Back east and south the way I came and east some more, past the tunnel and up the end one, following around north and south to the stairs leading down into the third basement. I go all the way west and north a little to fight my first Rescoid. This was guarding a chest containing an ivory key. I go back to the start of this floor and then head south until I hit a wall, then all the way west and then south. As I head east again, I pass another gold statue and meet my first Leos, these lion men. They are strong right now as one takes a huge chunk of my health. Following the path north and around takes me to another gold statue. This one teleports me into the northeast corner of another room. Go west, meaning south through one doorway and north through another. I meet the last and strongest new enemy of this dungeon, the Dinvel, but Elias left me with so little health that I had to avoid it. Continuing west gets me to another chest containing that silver shield that the mysterious man mugged that little girl for. It's very strong, with me skipping over 2 other levels of shield when equipping it. With my low health and me being so close to a level up, I decide to take on the 2 enemies blocking my path back out in the hopes that a level up will fully restore my health. I do so on the first try, reaching level 9, but no, I'm only healed by the 5 new HP I gained when leveling. I teleport back to the third basement, backtrack and take the gold statue I passed first. This one sends me to the opposite side of that room. Going south through the door has Adol notice a nearby blue statue's eyes glow, but first I move west and through another door to find a chest containing a heal potion. I absolutely need that, so I use it right then. Now for that statue. I can see the outline of a doorway next to it. I equip the Mask of Eyes, which reveals hidden passages, but the downside is that you can't see any enemies while wearing it. Through the doorway and to the north is another gold statue. I leave it for now and keep moving roughly east, moving north and south through several more doorways until I find another statue. This one teleports me to the southeast corner of the third basement for another chest containing a marble key. I leave the shrine once again to return to Zepik village and give the mayor the silver bell. He's confused over where it was found but doesn't care as long as it's back. He gives me 80 XP and the power ring, which doubles my strength when worn. I gained a lot of money in that visit, so it's back to Minia. I go into the clinic and meet Lisa for the first time in this version to buy another heal potion for 1000 gold. The remaining 5000 goes to the weapon shop so I can buy the stronger katana. Now I can go back to the shrine and take that other statue I skipped, reaching level 10 on the way. The statue takes me to a room with a long walk to the west and then north to a big door needing the ivory key to unlock. Then behind it a bigger door needing the marble key. There's a chest here, but when I go to open it, the statue of a centipede on the wall comes alive. This is the second boss, Nigtilga. This is the easiest boss in the game. It can only be damaged by striking any segment except the head, which damages you, and there's a lot of those, so at my level and with my new katana, I easily destroy it. I also gain just enough XP to reach level 11. The chest reappears and I get my first Book of Ease, the Volume Hadal. That's everything I can do, so I can leave. All of this was done in a few minutes less than it took me to reach Zepik for the first time in Chronicles Plus, which we are going back to right now to cover 8's version of this dungeon. I take the gold statue further in, grab the ruby, and use the shrine key to take on Genocres. The flames don't quite meet in the centre in this version, so it's a little safer. They're also less damaging, so I can just run in, hit him 3 times to take him down quickly, and open up the depths. Nightmare mode is a lot tougher here. Doesn't help that I showed up a level lower. Genocres is barely on screen before he teleports away, and he likes to stay away from the middle of the arena to make it harder to avoid the flames. The flames are also so much more damaging that a split second in them takes just under half of my health. It takes many attempts. After around 10 deaths, I go out and come back at level 5 to make it a little easier. Even still, he takes more hits than a normal and you can't be too cautious with the flames. You'll just have to risk it a few times and hope you got the timing down to avoid being burned. On my first try at level 5, I just barely got that last hit in before the fire grazes me and finishes me off. Back to normal mode for the rest of the shrine. I start by hanging around the beginning and killing a few Unos to get a start on completing their bestiary entry. Down into the second basement, I kill my first Bullner and Looter on the way to grabbing the prison key. However, rather than being given to you by Fina, the treasure box key is in one of the dead ends in the northeast of the second basement, so I can also grab the silver bell while I'm down there, and soon after I reach level 6. I also get the now named shield ring on the way out to heal. With that, I go and save Fina from her cell. I should bring up that while the Turbo CD version had voice acting in some scenes, Chronicles has none. What Fina tells me here that she didn't in that version was that the dark-caped man I keep hearing about put her in here and seems to be the one controlling the monsters. I can choose whether to leave Fina or help her, but I still have to help her. The choice is there because instead of Fina escaping off screen, I have to escort her back to Zepik Village here. The Mask of Eyes is now in the chest in her cell. She says that her kidnapper put the mask in there with her. So yeah, I have to get Fina out of here and to the village alive. She's level 1 with 17 HP and dog shit stats. But before I help her out, I have to mess around with her a bit for some achievements. First I have to level her up, which is a fun concept when contact with most enemies will just kill her dead. But that's what the mirror's for. If Fina walks into a paralysed enemy, she will damage them. The hard part is getting the positioning down and the timing so that they don't start moving right before she touches them. It takes a while and ends with a few dead Finas, but I eventually nudge her into an Unos trapped in the corner and force her to kill it for a level up and some more HP and strength. Though she stays at level 1, hence the achievement name, Forever Level 1 to me. We're not done with her in here yet though. There's this one narrow corner in the northeast of the first basement. If I get Fina in front of Adol and push her all the way up it, then put the Mask of Eyes on, Fina will comment on the dead end and Adol being scarily close to her with that mask on. Fina's measurements are now listed next to her level and I get 2 achievements at once. Hey baby, what's your width? It's for getting the measurements. Doing so while wearing the Mask of Eyes gets me I can't see you, but I can feel you, for getting them in the creepiest way possible. When I played the 3 games I did before this, I didn't expect Adol to be into that sort of thing. Now to lead Fina out. Don't run too far ahead, she can't run like Adol can, so it's easy to leave her behind. At this level, once you're at the mountain path, she's easy to defend on the way down. But for a fun extra, you can take her to the Thieves' Den instead. Morgan teases you, Lugan asks Fina if she'd rather ditch the guy who took her to a place like this and get a drink with him instead. Gorman also tells you off for bringing her, but comments that she doesn't look well. He also reveals that he's Jebba's grandson when he recommends you take Fina to her, meaning he's also related to Sarah. Taking her into the back passage also scares her. After dragging the ill woman around for my amusement, I take her down to Zepik Village. Fina finally collapses from exhaustion and despite claiming that she's just tired, she passes out. Adol carries her over to Jebba's house who gives her medicine and lets her sleep. Jebba is also concerned by the state of the shrine, having been undisturbed for centuries, now being filled with monsters. I leave Fina in Jebba's care while I give the mayor the silver bell back and get the power ring. Before returning to Minia to sell my ruby, south from the exit on the plains leading to the chest that had the bestiary potion, I follow the edge of the screen east to another exit going south. I move west, past the southern giant tree, the game confirming it to be a Rhoda tree, then go north to another screen and west to another where I find a chest containing a piece of paper. I return to Minia and by refusing to sell the ruby to Pim enough times, I can sell it to him for an extra 120 gold. To the armour shop next to buy plate mail and another 2,000 for a middle shield. I next return to Barbado and talk to Slaff, who notices Adol's exhaustion as Adol tells him of his adventure so far. On hearing Adol's story, Slaff leads him to the weapon shop that's always been locked. He opens the chest inside and gives me a free Talwar, this version's name for the katana. Getting this free one is also missable if you buy one in Minia, and obtaining it gets me the achievement Seriously Sordid Details. Stopping by Minia on the way back to the shrine, you can show off your Talwar to Rossetti, who notes how rare they are. I can also fill Sarah in on what I found in the shrine. When I pass through Zepik on the way back, Fina is now awake. She needs some more rest and is embarrassed at fainting in front of Adol. Jebba promises to look after her, saying that she's already become the obsession of too many dodgy people in town. It's been 10 minutes. Fina can't remember why she was imprisoned either. She remembers only her name and the prison. Now for the rest of the shrine. Not long on the first floor and I fill out Unos' bestiary page. Then a few minutes in the second basement taking on Bullners and Looters. I reach level 7 during this and a minute and a half later, Bullners is complete. Then Looter another 40 seconds later. Basement 3 and I take out my first Rescoid and grab the Ivory Key. I take out my first Leos, which looks slightly threatening now. 3 minutes in this room is all it takes to complete Rescoid's entry. I take the second gold statue down there to kill my first Dinvel and get the silver shield. Since this room has a single Leos and Dinvel that I can get to respawn quickly, I use it to fill in their entries, during which I reach level 8. 2.5 minutes for Leos and another minute for Dinvel. Returning to the first statue on basement 3 and taking that one, I grab the heal potion and use the Mask of Ice to progress. The second statue here and I grab the marble key, then the first statue to reach the room to the boss. When using the marble key, Adol can sense that a great power has been awakened, then the ivory key to the boss room. Neek Tilga is much larger in this version and faster. He's still just as easy though, about 4 hits in the sides and he's done for. Rather than the chest disappearing and then reappearing, I have to knock through the weakened wall the boss broke from to find the chest in a hidden room. That's the Book of Hadal obtained once again. Now to leave. I forgot something here, I'll come back for it later. As for Nightmare mode, Neek Tilga is still pretty easy since its movements are still easy to predict so you can hit him and avoid damage yourself. He just takes several more hits to defeat, that's all. Probably Nightmare mode's easiest boss. Back to the Turbo CD version and I return to Zepik Village from the shrine. I check on Jebba and Fina for the first time in this version. Fina just says that Jebba is letting her stay with her, while Jebba starts telling me about people hearing voices in the plains and being able to communicate with trees. I show her Volume Hadal and have her read it for me. It says that Ys's prosperity began with creating Cleria, a magic metal. The Solomon Shrine, not to be confused with the shrine I just visited, was on top of the highest mountain to symbolise their massive wealth. As we know, it was ruled by 2 goddesses and 6 priests, and that's where it ends. Having obtained a Book of Ys, I return to Minia to show Sarah. But her house is empty, leaving just a letter from her. She figures she has learned too much and someone is now out to kill her, so she is going into hiding. She left something important for me with Rhea and tells me to retrieve it from her. Her last tip is that her crystal ball told her that another Book of Ys is in the abandoned Rastin mine. And that's it for Sarah, we're not seeing her again. She gets off lightly in this version compared to Chronicles though, as we'll see soon. So I go talk to Rhea, who refuses to give me what Sarah left for me until I recover her harmonica. Did Sarah agree to that part, or am I being extorted? There's no clue as to where it is, so I just buy a 2,000 gold wing from Pim and leave town. My only lead right now is a book being in the mine, so I enter that cave in the northeast of the plains. The cave of Rastin is dark and so my view is very limited. Right away my first enemy is the Nubbro. I move west and take the first split south, meeting my first Griel, a tall pile of slime. I take the first eastern split and then the next one, turning north to find the first chest. This one gets me a very good set of silver armour, once again skipping over a level. I backtrack through those last 2 eastern splits and go south some more instead. Ignoring the forks and going all the way south is my first off-cross, the large toothy worms, and a chest containing a timer ring, which when worn makes all non-boss enemies move at half speed. Not one I get that much use out of. From there I go north, skip the first west path and take the second, going further north for another chest with another heal potion inside. I next get heading back to the eastern edge of this floor, where I find the silver armour, reaching level 12 on the way. I go all the way south, sticking to the wall until I pass through a doorway. I follow this path around to the west, crossing through a mine shaft, then north through another doorway to the stairs down to the second basement. The start of this floor introduces me to the Dynic. I stick to the northern wall and go all the way east, then south and turn west a little first chance to find a doorway guarded by another new enemy, a Menon. I charge through it and find a chest with the heal ring inside. This one allows me slow healing in dungeons and speeds up my normal healing when out in the plains. At least now I don't have to escape the dungeon completely if I don't want to use a potion. Back out of that little room, I go west some more until I can turn south and go all the way, passing several east and west turns. On the way down I fight my first Charon. Once I hit a wall I go west to find another chest, getting me Rhea's silver harmonica. Next I head back north, skipping the first western path but taking the second one. I follow it west and south through a doorway to finding the third and final chest on this floor, containing a Rhoda tree seed. I return to the fork I turned at and go north again and west at the next split to find a door to the third and final basement of this mine. Right away I meet the fiery bat, Chelasken, and take one out to reach level 13. The path on this floor is one way for a while, the main road going anti-clockwise. I discover how strong the Chelasken are right now when a pair of them kill me. I instead use my wing after a couple more deaths to escape the mine and walk back to Minia. I give Rhea the silver harmonica and in return she plays me a short song. The experience gained from returning it gets me back my level 13, but also bumps me 2 more to level 15. Rhea also gives me the book Sarah left with her before she went into hiding. It's my second Book of Ys, Volume Toba, or Tova in later versions. While I already have the silver armour, I do want to complete my inventory screen, so I spend the 6,000 gold I've built up in the mine on some reflex armour. With my new Rhoda Tree seed, I inspect the giant tree in the northeast just south of the mine. With the seed, I can understand the Rhoda Tree. It tells me that there is a silver sword buried in front of its brother, and we've seen the brother, it's just south from the first one. This tree tells me that Ys will face destruction once again, and that now it's time for Adol to begin his journey. Then what was everything before? I'm already about halfway through Ys 1. The silver sword comes up from the ground in front of the tree and I take it. It's good to get this now considering what's coming up in the mines, and I build myself up another 8,000 gold. Back in Minia, I buy another wing and the remaining 6,000 goes to a large shield, just need the middle shield now. Back to the bottom of the mine with my new stronger sword and 2 extra levels. The Chalasken stand no chance now. As I exit the middle of the floor and start moving anti-clockwise around the path, there are a few splits in the path. The first one has nothing and past it I reach level 16. The second splits north and is guarded by my first Brazal. It leads to a chest containing the Dharm key. As I move around the northwest corner of the floor, I meet the final enemy in this place, Lemende. The next split in the path goes off to the west and then south to the final chest on this floor, a heal potion. The rest of the path is straightforward and takes me to a big door opened by the Dharm key. Through it is another chest that disappears when I approach it to reveal the boss, Thargulion. And I die in seconds. I despise this boss in this version. Fighting Thargulion on the Turbo CD was by far the least enjoyable experience I had across both versions of both games. Thargulion will split into several bats that move along the screen, each dealing massive damage on contact individually. Then when he reforms, you have a split second to hit him before he splits apart again, and you must hit him in the perfect spot that the game does not tell you or you're taking more damage at the same time. Not to mention the range of his bats and how easily you can get pinned in a corner surrounded by them. After 50 minutes straight of 10 to 20 second long attempts, I decide to run around the bottom floor until I reach level 17. Still doesn't work. I finally found a guide that gave me a good enough strategy to fight him with, as just watching playthroughs on YouTube wasn't doing it. So after an hour of trying total, I finally got my win. I have to try and lure Thargulion into a corner when he's a load of bats so he'll reform. Then I have to hit him in one of the corners of his sprite, basically his shins or shoulders, but the shins feel safer. You want him in a corner when he splits apart as that gives them less distance to cover so you can get out of their range easier. Even then the strategy isn't perfect as he can split across a larger area anyway, but the strategy does work despite how close it gets. I gained 500 XP from his death, bumping me 2 levels to level 19. The chest reappears and I gain Volume Dabi, my third book of Ys. There is another door in here leading to an empty room. One civilian did say there was once a pair of goddess statues down here, but they look to be missing. I can't be asked to walk out, so I use my wing. Back to Chronicles now, where I've just returned to Zepik from the shrine. Jebba will tell me to take the Volume Hadal to Sarah without giving me the chance to read it. Returning to Minia and Sarah's house sees Old Man Franz waiting for me instead of a letter. In this version of the game, currently the canon version, Sarah never got to go into hiding. Whoever thought she knew too much managed to reach her and she was murdered. Rather than leaving the volume Tova to Rhea, Franz has it instead. Franz says that with her last breath, she said that Adol needed to look in Rastin Mine. Visiting Rossetti, I can learn that he can't sell you a Tolwar right away as his shipment was destroyed, but pestering him and talking to him about it will eventually make them available for purchase. Of course, I already have one so I don't need it, but I still wanted to get this done. I have 19 grand right now, so I finish off the armour shop sets with reflex armour and a 6,000 gold large shield. Before I head on to Rastin Mine, I can tell Jebba that her niece is dead. It seems both of them had an inkling that was going to happen. I can get some extra detail here and learn that Sarah and Jebba are descended from one of Ys's 6 priests, Priest Tova, which is what Jebba believes granted Sarah her fortune-telling powers. Now I can have Jebba read the books. Volume Hadal has a new Easter egg, mentioning that the demons that attacked Ys also destroyed the country Celseta, the setting of the Ys 4 games. All Volume Tova says is that the 2 goddesses of Ys represent order and freedom. Meanwhile, Fina can be found out on the pier for a new cutscene. She's still thankful to Adol for being free, and still can't remember anything other than her name. That's about it. I can also visit Gorbin and tell him that his cousin is dead too, why not? That just leaves travelling to the northwest of the plains to enter Rastin Mine. I take out my first Nubro and Griel on my way to grab the silver armour and the heal potion. Right after that I take out my first off-cross too, just before getting the timer ring. With the first floor's treasures found, I decide to fill out bestiary entries of its free enemies. A minute into this task I reach level 9. It takes 6 minutes to complete Griel and off-cross, with Nubro just missing its HP, which I fill in on the way out to heal. Down to the next floor, my first Dynick and Charon are right next to each other. I also take out my first Menon. I find the Rhoda Tree Seed and hit level 10 just as I find the Silver Harmonica. Level 10 is actually the level cap in just about every version of Ys 1. Only the Turbo CD version has a higher cap, as it's the only one to keep your level going into Ys 2. It is a bit strange to have a level cap that you're likely to reach before you even get to the final dungeon. I also grab the heal ring before I get to work on this floor's enemy entries. 2 minutes to finish off Dionyk's entry, 2 more for Menon, and another minute to kill enough Charon. Once again I leave before taking on the bottom floor. You can offer Garrick the Rhoda Tree Seed to eat, but he's content with just seeing one, worried he'll develop a taste for such a rare food. In this version, simply owning the seed isn't enough to speak to the Rhoda Tree, you have to eat it this time, as Jebba will tell you if you speak with her now. I go to give Rhea back the Silver Harmonica, but now she's up on top of Minia's walls. Rhea playing the harmonica is a slightly more elaborate cutscene in this version, along with showing a shot of the Rhoda Tree to hint to what you should do next. I can also give her the piece of paper I found in the plains. It's a poem Rhea wrote a while ago. Once I leave, Rhea will recite that poem while staring at the Dharm Tower. Listening to her poem also gets me the achievement, Poetry in Motion. Honestly, I had a struggle reading it with that combination of colour and font. Rhea gives out one last cryptic hint about destiny and wishing someone else's dream could have continued, but she and this other person both have their roles to play. Next I visit the Rhoda Tree, move to the northwest corner of the screen west of the mine entrance. It's much more impressive in this version. The brother is in pretty much the same place it was before. They both say about the same stuff and I get myself the silver sword. Back to the mine and down to the bottom floor. My first Chalaskin goes down, followed by first Lemonday and Brazel before I get the Dharm Key and the next heal potion. 5 minutes later, Chalaskin's entry has been completed, then Lemonday a minute and a half later, and finally Brazel a couple minutes after that. That just leaves Vagulian, who is much improved in this version. For one, Adol's increased speed makes his bats easier to get around. Second is that while the window to hit him is just as strict as it was before, when you do hit him, you bounce off him so that you can no longer take damage just from being inside him. With the 10 level cap, he does take quite a few more hits to defeat, but I manage it first try here. I grab my volume dabby and leave. I was dreading facing Vagulian on Nightmare, and he was just as difficult as on the Turbo CD and took as long to kill. It's just that on this mode he deals more damage and takes less, and it feels like his bats may be faster and the window to hit him is smaller, but I'm not entirely sure there. Despite the same amount of time taken to defeat, I still probably died less than I did on Turbo CD as the attempts lasted longer here. Back to Turbo CD and I get another wing and buy the middle shield I was missing. I next return to Zepik Village and have Jebba read me Volume Dabby. It says that Ys was engulfed in lava, which the priest put down to the creation of Cleria. So they buried it deep underground with the assumption that if the Cleria was unearthed, it will all happen again. Jebba feels that the remaining 3 books must be inside Dharm Tower. She tells me to see Goban, who is called her son in this version instead of grandson. And so I head east of the shrine for the first time in this version. Outside the Thieves' Den, an old man says that his comrade Colin has been lost in Dharm Tower for a long while. As I meet Goban for the first time here, he's already aware of me and what I want to do. The door to the tower only opens in one direction, so once I'm in, that's it. The entrance is through the back passage, and since wings don't work inside, Goban offers to take it from me. I go through the passage and enter Ys 1's final dungeon, Dharm Tower. This place is huge, as in, half of the total gameplay time in the Turbo CD version is spent here. Chronicles only takes a smaller percent thanks to all the NPC and enemy notes I had to fill in. Heading south, my first enemy is the Rifligan. To the west is an empty room with 3 jail cells inside. So instead it's south and east, where I skip the first fork north and take the second one up some stairs. This takes me to a balcony on the outside of the tower. There's a balcony screen like this at the start of every floor, and they act as a good place to rest and heal. I run west to find a door onto the second floor. To the west is a room guarded by 2 Rifligans. There are 4 chests in here, first an evil ring, which will slowly kill you when worn. I get a free mirror since I never bought one in this version. 1 chest is already opened, and the last one is a heal potion. This route is now a dead end, so I return to the first floor and go north up that first fork. This one has 2 sets of stairs and takes me to another balcony leading to a room on the 3rd floor. Here I head south and then east to find a hall of statues and the enemy Jestona. They're easy to fight in this cramped space, and so I hang about and kill a few to reach level 20. Then I get cocky while I'm healing and one kills me. And when I get back, I die again. Next time I use the Mask of Eyes in the middle of all these statues where there's a small crack to reveal a hidden room. Inside is another old guy who asks if I know Colin. Since I don't, he wants nothing to do with me. He's lost his eagle idol, so I don't have time to talk. So back out where I regain my level 20 and go east a little to go up more stairs, another balcony and a door leading to the 4th floor. Moving south has me meet my first Accumate. The exit is in the northeast corner of the room, but in the middle is a pair of doorways going north, but it only leads to an empty chest. So I take the exit up the stairs to another balcony leading to floor 5. This one has 2 more sets of stairs, one in the middle of the room and another to the far west. Both of them lead to opposing sides of the floor 6 balcony. I start with the one on the far west, which takes me up to the northern half of floor 6. The second I enter, I'm zapped by these statues and teleported to one of the jail cells back on floor 1. Along with that, my silver equipment has been stolen. So I settle for the weaker Talwar, large shield and reflex armour. Those empty chests I've passed would have contained the 3rd level equipment had I not bought them before I got here. I do have company though, it's Looter Gemma finally making his first appearance in this version. But thanks to an emulator glitch, his audio cuts off just as he begins his story. Basically, he sleepwalked into the tower and got captured. All I can do in here is wait, and eventually, through the wall bursts a new character familiar to anyone who played a later game. It's Adol's future travelling companion making his big debut, Colin? That's who those guys were talking about? Ignore that, he's Dogi. Speaking of name changes, Dogi tells me an old man named Rasta here, and Rabba everywhere else, can tell me more about the secrets of the tower. That's the old man who wouldn't speak to me earlier. We do a trade. Dogi takes Looter to safety, and I take Rabba's eagle idol back to him. I escape through the hall and have to retrace my steps back up the tower. Fucking Colin. The trek back is only slightly tougher with my weaker equipment as I am still at a good level. I return to Rabba in the hidden room on the 3rd floor and give him back the eagle idol. In exchange he gives me the blue necklace, which I must wear to avoid certain traps. Like, for example, the one that got me jailed. Continuing back up, I return to the 6th floor and pass through those statues unharmed. Nothing else to the floor, a straightforward path to the stairs to the floor 7 balcony. With floor 7, the stairs to the next one are right next to where I enter, but there's a lot more of the floor to explore. To the west of the stairs to floor 8 is Dogi once again. He's been talking to Jebba, who told him to tell me that there's a brooch in this tower that allows me to use mirrors, actual mirrors, not the item, for more than just seeing my reflection. I go south, east a tiny bit, and up through a doorway. I follow this path northeast to find a chest guarded by another new enemy, Genoids. They're pretty strong and the first one kills me. Next time I just barely bump myself past it and rush to the chest to regain my silver sword. I try it out on one of them and drop dead again. I die next time trying to fight them again, so next time I decide to just leave them and sneak off to heal. The rest of the floor is a dead end, so I head up to the floor 8 balcony next. On floor 8 I once again have the stairs to the next floor right next to me. Instead I go south, follow the path all the way west, and then north to find a big door. Behind it is the first boss of Darm Tower, Pictimos. He moves around the back wall of the room and throws his pincers at me, strong enough to take me down in a few hits. So I leave him for now and go up the stairs to floor 9. There are 2 doorways below me and I take the western one, going south, west and then north to find a room guarded by a Genoid in the middle of the floor. Behind him is the chest containing my stolen silver shield. However, it activates the 4 statues around me, Normus, who wipe me out. Next time I heal before opening that chest and hold down so that I run right out of their path. I put that shield back on and take some out while I'm escaping, reaching level 21. Normus give good XP, so I stay here and keep killing them to reach level 22. I next return to floor 8 to take on Pictimos again, but only hit once before still getting killed. It takes several attempts to defeat him, so he sounds pretty hard, right? I even go back to floor 9 to level myself to 23 and then level 24 on the Normus, but it still doesn't work. The solution turns out to be to just stick to the walls and run along them in a circle. As long as I keep moving, the projectiles can't hit me and I just pass through Pictimos. This turns a potential roadblock into a pushover. Defeating Pictimos bumps me 2 levels to level 26. The door in the back opens to reveal 2 chests, Volume Mesa, the 4th book of these, and a hammer. Back to floor 9 I go south of the silver shield room to find a doorway that takes me to the other end of this room, which is where the stairs to floor 10 are. But this is a long dungeon, so let's break it up by covering that section in Chronicles. I check its version of Volume Dabby with Jebba, but it has nothing new. Also, Jebba calls Goban her son here too, but Goban called her his grandmother when I took Fina to him. So what's going on there? Talking to Fina one more time has her tell Adol that she'll be waiting for his return. I check my inventory and finally notice I forgot to grab the necklace, so I do a quick detour to the shrine to grab it and sell it to Pim. I can also return to Barbado and tell Slaff I'm heading off to Darm Tower. He's all, yeah, I suppose you can do it. Though he does do the, come back alive or I'll kill you, like he's important to me. Looking him up, I don't think Slaff ever appears in the series again. That's just about everything I can do, so I return to the Thieves' Den and talk to Goban. Now he's also changed his mind and decided Jebba is his mother. He gives a bit more backstory in that when the storm wall appeared and Darm Tower was filled with monsters, the thieves tried to deal with it but suffered huge casualties. Instead of an old man outside asking about Dogi, here he's Goban's right-hand man who got trapped inside with Goban not knowing if he's still alive. This time Goban escorts me to the door, where he tells Adol he should be fine for a day and that he'll open the one-way door at sunrise to let him out. This is where he takes my wing off me. He gives no reason on the Turbo CD, but here he clarifies that Darm Tower has a magic barrier around it that will make the wing crush Adol to death in the walls if he uses it. I haven't spoken too much of the game's soundtrack, because it would be an endless repetition of, I like this, but I really like the theme of Darm Tower. You're in here for a long time uninterrupted, and they came up with a track that's just catchy enough that I never got bored of it. I kill my first rifle again and head to floor 2. A neat change is that the camera on the Turbo CD faces towards the balcony walls, while in Chronicles it's the other way around so we can see over the balconies. On floor 2 I get the heal potion, mirror and the evil ring. This room is a good one for grinding Rifligans, so in about a minute I've already completed their entry. Floor 3 next for my first Gestona. While grinding their entry, I hit the gold cap at 99,999, getting me the gold is the new silver achievement. Not long after, the Gestona's entry is complete. By the floor 4 balcony, where before I could only see forests, the view is now much wider, so now I can see plains and lakes too. Floors 4 and 5 have nothing interesting, but southern floor 6 is where the Acumates show up. A couple minutes spent dealing with those until their entry is completed. Now for northern floor 6 to activate that trap, get arrested and have my silver confiscated. And since I've already met Looter Gemma, he remembers me and is ashamed to admit he sleepwalked here. But that's overtaken by his shock at me coming here by choice. He gives me a hint towards Rabba's hidden location on floor 3 too. Then I wait for Dogi to break in, let me out and give me the idol. Rabba can wait. First I run all the way back to floor 6 and trigger the trap again. I get put inside another cell and have to wait for Dogi to break me out again. Equipping the idol makes me invisible, so when Dogi breaks in to free me again, he's confused. Doesn't even react when I reappear though. There's still one more cell down here though, so I run all the way back up and trigger the trap a third time. Having an exasperated Dogi break through all 3 prison walls gets me another achievement, Adol, the Wall Crusher Enabler. Finally I go see Rabba in floor 3's hidden room and give him back his idol. I learn he's been here for 6 whole months, using the idol to avoid the monsters. Rabba rattles off quite a lot of knowledge about Ys, but the first lot of it is nothing we haven't already learned. What I do learn is the fact that scholars have debated Ys's former location for years, with Rabba certain it was once in Hysteria. At the time Ys disappeared, something resembling the current storm wall appeared. Storms covered the island and when they disappeared, so did Ys, leaving just this tower. Monsters slaughtered half of Ys's population in a single night while they couldn't escape through the storm. The monsters built Darm Tower and then disappeared until recently, 700 years later. Add to that all the lava that was mentioned and Ys really got fucked up everywhere by everything. Rabba and Adol can sense that there's someone in this tower manipulating events and Rabba gives me the blue necklace. Rabba is also the final character entry in my notes, getting me the achievement, Hello, my name is Adol. Now I can finally get past that trap and explain to Dogi on floor 7 what I'm even doing here. We learn how Dogi knows Rabba in this version. Dogi was pinned down by monsters after he got trapped in here and Rabba made himself visible to save him. In return, Dogi has been scouting out the tower for him. He tells me about the brooch, now a rod that resembles Sarah's crystal in this localization. I take out my first Genoids, recover the silver sword and spend another 3 minutes killing the Genoids in that area to complete their entry. Next area of note is the floor 9 balcony, where to sell how long I've been fighting up this tower, it's now dusk outside. I get the silver shield and take on the Normus. With just those 4 in that room, it takes 4 minutes to complete their bestiary entry. And back to floor 8 for Pictimos. The Darm Tower bosses in Chronicles have a new boss theme too, as on the Turbo CD, all bosses except for the final one shared the same track. The old strategy doesn't work the same here thanks to Adol bouncing off of bosses on contact. I give him a bump on one side, run away to lure out the projectiles, then around and bump the other side. It takes longer, but it works. It works so well I take him out without losing a single point of health. I get Volume Mesa and the hammer before moving on to floor 10. Pictimos is made harder on Nightmare by having a tougher projectile pattern so that the old timing doesn't work, as he's ready to throw them at you when you get in close to hit. But you just have to space your attacks out more to make sure he fires off every projectile before you go in. It just leaves you with less time to safely get in and damage him. But it only takes me between 10 and 15 minutes, which is nothing compared to Vagulian's hour previously. Back on the Turbo CD now for floor 10. Another new enemy here, the Shomak, a stronger relative to the Akimate. The stairs to floor 11 are just west of the entrance and I take them, saving the rest of the floor for later. The balcony is slightly more menacing now with gargoyle faces in the pillars and the purple colour scheme. What I can, and need to do, is use the hammer I got from Pictimos on the third pillar west of the entrance to break it. The door on the other end takes me to the northern half of floor 11, where Looter Gemma can be found. While escaping, he met Rabba, who told him that a girl has been captured and brought to the tower to be killed soon, so he begs me to save her. So back to floor 10 where, from the stairs to floor 11, I go all the way south and then east to find more stairs to the southern half of floor 11. This room looks sinister. That's because it was cursed to cause continuous damage when I'm inside it. Destroying that one pillar with the hammer shut it off. So I'm free to go all the way east and through the door to reach the stairs to floor 12. Here I go south and then west, then south and west again to go north and reach the stairs to floor 13. No enemies here. Now we reach the mirror rooms. Floor 13 is huge. To the east is an injured Rabba, who tells me that the girl has been taken to Rado's annex at the end of a long catwalk at the back of floor 16. He tells me a strong black magic protects it, and so I need to wear an evil repellent to get inside. Can't do anything else on this floor yet, so I go up the stairs to floor 14, which are right next to where I entered from. Floor 14 is a short path south, east and north to another big door hiding a boss. Here we have Konsklad, a big rock with a gem in the middle shooting smaller rocks at me. I die first time, but see that I dealt huge damage only walking through it twice. Next time I stay inside it and get even closer to killing it, but still die first. Third try, I just sort of run in circles around it while trying to avoid the rocks, and this time it dies first. Another 2 levels gained to level 28. The chests I gained from it contain the Brooch/Rod and Volume Gemma, confirming Looter as one of the priest's descendants. That's 5 of 6 books of these obtained. Back to floor 13, and with the Brooch equipped I can touch a mirror and warp to a different mirror. Floor 13 is actually a huge teleporter maze. I take the only one available to me to start with and get ambushed by a Vilvan that almost annihilates me. I move south through a couple doorways and when given a choice I go through the western one. There's a mirror here that warps me to 2 more. The western one puts me in the northeast corner of the floor. South through 2 doorways, west all the way, and south to another mirror, and I end up at the beginning. That second mirror I used, I needed to ignore it and continue south and use the mirror there instead. Ignore the one it dropped me in front of and take the one southwest of it. Another new enemy here is the incredibly fast and strong Wilewearer, one of which kills me. And they don't even give me good XP. There's a mirror east of where I teleported in that takes me to a tiny room with a Wilewearer guarding a chest. I get him to a hit from death, but then he touches me twice and kills me. Next time I use the fact that I can save anywhere to my advantage so I don't have to repeat the mirror maze again. 2 more attempts to kill him and get that chest and regain my silver armour at last. The mirror here warps me back to the start, but to continue up the tower I need to go back into that maze. The second mirror is the correct one this time, but I take the next mirror on the east to reach another mirror to a set of stairs to floor 15. After going south a little, I can continue south or go north. I continue south and go southwest to find a chest containing a battle shield. The silver equipment isn't the strongest in Ys 1, but it is still required to beat the game. I next take the northern fork to find the stairs to floor 16. I go down the long corridor west and then south where I meet the first Eyebolg. At the north or south fork, I go south down a long winding path. In the southwest corner of the screen, through here is the exit to the catwalk that leads to Rado's annex. All the way west and I end up inside. Moving south from the entrance, the next new enemy is the Molfes. The path turns west and then north as I reach level 29 and the door that requires I equip the evil ring to get inside. Through the door is Rhea. This early on in the series, Adol's name is still being pronounced Adol in English, and it's weird to hear from me after the games I've played before that pronounced it properly. Rhea allowed herself to be captured knowing that Adol would save her. She has a pair of glasses that allows the wearer to read the Books of Ys, and since I picked up 2 more in here and can't return to Jebba to have her translate them, it's appreciated. She also tells me that Dark Fact's cape is protected against anyone not wearing the full set of silver equipment, which is why I needed to recover them despite there being one piece of equipment stronger for each type. This is also the first time we've heard the name of the mysterious blue-skinned dark-caped man who's been causing all this trouble. That's not a title by the way, that's his legal name. First name Dark, second name Fact. Volume Mesa talks of a creepy stranger stalking the villagers fleeing from the monsters until they were hauled up in the Solomon Shrine. Then the goddesses disappeared and the next day the monsters and stranger disappeared. The stranger is not Dark Fact by the way, as will be made clear later, this would be centuries before he was born. Volume Gemma talks of ancient blue jewellery passed down the Gemma family that protects from evil. but it's not the blue necklace I already own. Returning to floor 16 and the north-south fork, the north fork takes me up to floor 17. Within seconds I'm attacked by the irritating scorpions, Kelmarel. They come rushing up the one tile wide corridor, so you can't avoid them. That includes from both sides when you get deep enough too. Somehow I managed to phase through one at 1 HP and get ahead. At the bottom I turn west and take a north fork halfway to a chest with a heal potion inside. That heal allows me to run the rest of the way to the stairs up to floor 18. I start in the centre north of this floor, taking out my first Selnarg, all the way south and at the fork, east and all the way north to the stairs to floor 19. This one is simple, all the way south, east a little and north through 2 doorways. This puts me into contact with my first group of Crayolos and to the strongest armour in these one, the battle armour. I return to floor 18 and go all the way west at the fork and north up some stairs that skip me ahead to floor 20. This is another simple south, east, north to the stairs room. But as I approach the wall in the south, it breaks open and spawns some very fast, very strong Twarth. The first ones I fight get me to level 30. I go through the hole and take out more of them to reach a chest with the strongest sword of these one, the Flame Sword. That's all equipment obtained for this section. Good thing I saved then, as the second I stepped out of that hole, the respawn Twarth killed me. I'm prepared next time and make my way to the stairs to floor 21. But let's check in on Chronicles again, it's been long enough. Floor 10 and I get taken on the Shomak. They're placed in a way that it takes just over 2 minutes to get all their stats registered. On floor 11, here's a quick look at it before destroying the pillar, the cursed room even having its own music. If you just take the damage and run through to this door, I can find Rabba, who has been imprisoned here by monsters. They destroyed his idol so he can no longer turn invisible too. He tells me that this part of floor 11 is the Devil's Corridor. The music actually exists within the events of the game too. Rabba says it sounds like a pipe organ and gives you a hint towards the pillar you need to break. To the northern floor 11, I break the pillar on the balcony where I can also get a view of Minia from here. The northern floor 11 has a trail of blood lead me to Luta. He was hiding with Rabba when the monsters found him and injured his leg escaping from them. He says it isn't as bad as it looks though. The part about the kidnapped Rhea is the same though. Through the uncursed Devil's Corridor and Rabba has moved too. Since I broke the pillar first on the Turbo CD, I missed him being there at all my first time through. Floor 12 has nothing, but when I reach floor 13 I get to see that they added a new song to the game for the mirror mazes. As much as I like Darm Tower's theme, it's nice to break it up, and I really enjoyed something more soothing after the fighting it took to get here. Rabba's face is bleeding to convey his injury better. Without his idol, he got beaten up on the way here, which is impressive considering there are no enemies between the Devil's Corridor and here. Maybe he killed them all. On to floor 14 next to take on Consklad, who is much bigger than before, but I'd say it's easier as I beat it first try. Adol isn't pushed back on impact like the previous Chronicles bosses and can attack inside it, and since it's bigger it's a larger space to run around in and give me more time to avoid the rocks it shoots. I get the rod and volume gemma before returning to floor 13. At this point I've been in Darm Tower so long that it's become night. Consklad is harder on Nightmare, but only to the point it took about 5 tries, less than every other Darm Tower boss. There isn't really any special strategy, you just take more and deal less damage, so you have to be more mindful of its rock throwing pattern. Back in floor 13's mirror maze, I defeat my first Vilvan and Wilewearer on the path to regaining my silver armour. Enemies are spaced apart more here, so it takes a little longer to complete their bestiary entries. Well, Wilewearer takes 3 minutes total, but Vilvan takes me a massive 5 minutes. Hitting floor 15 gets another new track playing to signal that we're getting close to the end. It definitely gets you pumped, but I think I prefer the tower's other 2 themes over it. I get the battle shield and take on the swarm of Irebolg that followed me to it. Just under 3 minutes later, its entry is complete. Rado's Annex is next. The bridge there now has a very nice background showing the 2 moons, and inside the annex I get taken on the Molfes. The stairs leading to the door requiring the evil ring have been changed to have this isometric view. It's one screen that you're barely on, but since it's the only one in the game like it always stuck in my head even months after playing the game. The door even has a big monster head to make it more menacing. But for whatever reason, I forgot how to unlock the door and just went about slaughtering the Molfes while I tried to remember. About 3 minutes later its entry is filled in, and so is my dumbass memory as I remember the evil ring and open Rhea's cell. Except for the fact I forgot to also wear the blue necklace and drop dead as soon as I left the menu. Rhea says the same stuff she did before, but now with added clarity. The books of Ys are powerful enough that if Dark Fact ever gets them all, he has the power to conquer Esteria and probably the world. She gives me the monocle, what the glasses are called in this version. Volume Mesa adds that its writers decided to abandon Ys for a safer home. Volume Gemma had words added by taking the Dark Stranger part from the original Volume Mesa and putting it there instead. There's a mandatory bit of backtracking you have to do here that I won't discover on the Turbo CD until later. but since I've already experienced it by my Chronicles playthrough, I do it now. I run all the way down to the northern floor 11 to talk with Luta, who talks about being terrified for Rhea's well-being despite not knowing her. Then he notices I own the Book of Gemma. It was passed down through his family, but Luta lost it as a child. He says that his father once told him that the one who holds all 6 Books of Ys will gain the power to bring peace to Asteria. Luta decides to grant Adol his family's other sacred heirloom, the Blue Amulet, what the Book of Gemma was actually hinting at. Luta's leg is worse than he thought, so he's just going to stay here and wait. Floor 17 and I take on the Kelmarels, which thanks to the rebound when you hit them, are far more annoying to get past in Chronicles. I get the heal potion and a couple minutes later, the Kelmarel entry is complete. Just in time for me to start work on the Selnags of floor 18, the Kriolos of floor 19 and get their battle armour. Only I forget to equip the blue necklace and wonder why the chest keeps warping me down a few tiles until I remember and get it. 2 minutes later, the Kriolos entry is complete, and another 2 minutes later, so is the Selnag entry. Floor 20 next and the Dwarfs are very tough. This time I need the Flame Sword first to do any decent damage to them. Even then, they're still tougher than anything else so far. That defense stat means they take 10 minutes to fill out the entry on, longer than any other enemy. Then we're on to floor 21. But back to the TurboGrafx CD for the last stretch. Floor 21 is another mirror maze that introduces me to the enemy Eucreus. The mirror to the east of the entrance only warps me slightly south of the entrance. Of the 2 doorways to the south, I take the eastern one and follow the path all the way around and north to another mirror. On the way I meet the Boardish, the final enemy in Ys 1. The mirror warps me to a room with 2 more where a Boardish runs up and kills me before I can react. Next time I'm ready for it, and I take the western mirror, then follow that path around to the centre of the room, reaching level 31 on the way. There's a big door here and a good spot in the corner to heal in. Through the door to another mirror that warps me to floor 22. When I try to go through the next door, another boss appears. It's a pair of floating Oni heads, Yoglex and Omulgun. Each head has 4 projectiles spinning around themselves that cause damage on contact. The heads also move and then swap places whenever they take damage, and since their projectiles rotate in opposite directions, it's easy to run right into one after the swap. So I don't last long. I give it quite a few attempts, but it's the same story every time. I get 1 or 2 hits in, but I'm destroyed. After about 10 minutes of back-to-back deaths, I decide to try leveling. Outside the big door, I get myself to level 32 and try again, but I only last slightly longer. So I level myself to 33, now past the halfway point to the level cap. What doesn't help is that you can clearly run right through one of the heads, but they can just not take any damage like they should. But my next try is the successful one. All you can do is be careful, try to run through their shield, and don't go too fast so you can change course after they stop and avoid the shield again on the way out. It's still tough, and that collision issue I mentioned makes it harder than it should have been, but it's still not Vagulian hard or anything. But it does get easier near the end as their projectiles start disappearing one by one as they get lower health, making the last few hits no problem. The XP gained gets me to level 34. Through the door is a long set of stairs taking me from floor 22 to floor 25. The door at top damages me on contact, it's so evil. It's here where I discover I need to backtrack to loot a Gemma for that blue amulet. And since I'm finding this out now, it's a long trek back to floor 11. He says the same stuff he says in Chronicles, just in less words, and gives me the blue amulet. Now for the long trek all the way back up. On the way through floor 20 again, I reach level 35. I've also hit the gold cap on this version, 65,535. I hang around on floor 20 a bit longer and get myself to level 36 just to be on the safe side. Back at that door to floor 25, I equip the blue amulet and all my silver equipment, which is required for this next fight. In the top floor I can see the long hinted at blue skinned dark caped man, Dark Fact. I run around and take this teleporter to him. Dark Fact is already aware of my quest for the Books of Ys and is impressed that Adol made it all the way up here with 5 of them. But Fact is pretty confident that Adol has no chance and that his name will be feared throughout the world. Probably more confusion from people who think Dark Fact is a title. He brags that I can't even harm him without the silver equipment. Well, good thing I had them. And so begins the final boss battle of Ys 1. Fact flies around this small arena summoning down fireballs that split into 8 more fireballs when they land. Hitting Fact will have him target the floor tile you made contact on and delete it. So you're constantly losing space to move around while he is free to float where he pleases. Standing on a tile as it's deleted is an instant death, and you must also make sure you don't delete tiles in a way that traps you in a small space, or you have no chance. I knock him down to a third of his health, but I'm just not good at dodging his fireballs and die first. Then, on my second attempt, I suddenly become amazing and bring him down to a third of his health without being hit once. Then I take 2 big fireballs to the face together and lose 2/3 of mine in a second. He ends up ahead in the damage race, but with just 4 HP left, not enough to survive another hit, I manage it. Dark Fact is killed the second the electric guitars come in on his boss theme. Inside his cloak is the final book of Ys, Volume Fact, meaning that Dark Fact was also a descendant of one of these 6 priests. Volume Fact finally reveals to us Ys's fate. After the attack stopped, the priest thought it best to raise Ys from the ground, far above the clouds to keep it out of harm's reach, but with the hope of returning to the surface someday. That's why the Bagyu Baded crater exists north of Zepik village. It was where the landmass that made up Ys once was. The power of Ys was placed into the books in the hopes that a brave warrior would one day be able to rid Ys of the demons. Having read all 6 books, a light engulfs Adol and he disappears. And that's where we're leaving it here. In the Turbo CD version, the game then immediately continues into the start of Ys 2, but that's for next video. The rest of this video will cover the finishing of the Chronicles version. There are no treasures left to collect now, so all I do with floor 21 is take on the Euchrius and Bordish. 4 minutes after entering this room, the Euchrius entry is completed. Then 20 seconds later, with the addition of the Bordish HP stat, all non-boss entries have been added, unlocking the achievement Monster Masher. That just leaves those last 2 bosses, starting with Yoglex and Omulgun. This boss is both easier and harder in different ways, but on the whole I'd say this version is easier. What's harder is that the shield projectiles are larger, which combined with Adol's speed here and the diagonal movement actually made it harder for me to get to one of the heads unharmed. However, the shields also deal far less damage than they did on the Turbo CD, and so I was able to defeat this boss on the first attempt. This time the door leading to the stairs to floor 25 is behind a mirror that breaks on the boss's defeat. But as I run up there, let's check in on the Nightmare difficulty version of this boss. It's harder than even the Turbo CD version. The shields are now so damaging that you must do better to avoid them when you go in. Since you reach the level cap before you even enter the tower here, there's no grinding to a higher level and coming back with more HP and defense. This one takes about 15 minutes of trying before I got better at the timing. Even then I was still only a hit or 2 away from losing when I got in the killing blow. But back to the main playthrough to take on Dark Fact again. I'd say he's more purple than blue in this version, at least in his portrait the sprites have him definitely blue. He seems to know Rhea personally, as he learned about Adol from her when he captured her. Dark Fact is a far harder boss in this version of the game. Not only do his fireballs land more frequently and faster, the resulting split fireballs also move faster. Even the amount of floor he destroys when he's hit is larger than on the Turbo CD. He's definitely the hardest boss in Chronicles, including all of the Ys 2 bosses. I just cannot avoid the millions of fireballs on screen at once and regularly trap myself in small corners just trying to hit him, leaving the fight unwinnable. It takes me a total of 15 minutes to defeat him in this version. I try my best to hit him around the edges of the arena to avoid leaving small spaces I can be trapped in. My thought process is to just ignore the fireballs and get him killed first instead of wasting time running into one fireball while trying to avoid another. Sometimes you get a moment where you hit him a few tiles in a row at once and that feels great. But in the end I still feel like my eventual victory came down to luck more than skill. I even trapped myself in a corner but was safe because Fact himself was a hit from death. Defeating Dark Fact and clearing the game on any difficulty unlocks the achievement De Facto. In this version I have to manually inspect his cloak to find Volume Fact. It's been rewritten to remove the mention of Ys being lifted into the sky, just that it was sealed away and that its power was left in the books. The books surround Adol and teleport him away. I get a small ending cutscene showing a text scroll over Dam Tower. It goes into Adol's thoughts at the top of the tower after realising that Asteria has been saved but before he disappeared. He gains a vision of the 2 goddesses from the books and finds that they look familiar to him. He can see Jebba's house from there and wonders if Fina's memory returned, deciding that the first thing he would do on his return is tell her everything he'd seen. That's when Adol disappears as the camera pans to show us a floating island hidden in the clouds. I get the credits and then an ending screen saying that Adol's journey will continue in Ys 2. I don't actually have much to say about Nightmare Dark Fact other than he's hard as hell. It took me half an hour, with most attempts ranging from 20 to 30 seconds. It's not awful hard like Turbo CD Vagulion, but probably the hardest boss that's not badly designed. I never figured out a strategy for this one. My solution was to just keep throwing myself at the boss fight until luck was in my favour and I took out his health first. Completion of the game on Nightmare difficulty gets me the Into the Sky achievement. That just leaves Time Attack mode. I was prepared to rush through all of Ys 1 a 4th time, but this is actually just a boss rush. Thanks to Dark Fact, it took about half an hour of attempts. I'll just show a sped up clip of my successful attempt. Completing Time Attack gets me the achievement Bump Master, and then Esteria We Hardly Knew Ye for obtaining all achievements. With that, the Ys 1 half of both games is completed. I honestly thought this video would be shorter, about half the length it turned out, since Ys 1 is such a short game. I'll give my thoughts on the whole package when I cover the end of Ys 2, but both versions of Ys 1 I played were a lot of fun. It's only 3 dungeons, and the Rastin Mine isn't the most memorable out there, but the shrine was enjoyable and there was a real satisfaction with Darm Tower. Just this huge endurance fighting your way up this tower that's so long it takes up half the game. Plus the little twists that make you do the odd backtracking and juggling the NPCs there, which thanks to your movement speed doesn't feel too much of a time waster at all. I can safely say that between the 4 big Japanese RPG series from the 80s that I've had exposure to, Ys, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest and Phantasy Star, Ys has my favourite first game of the lot. So there's a slight spoiler if I ever get around to Final Fantasy 1. Although some would probably compare it more to the first Legend of Zelda, in which case I vastly prefer Ys 1 to that too. But of course we're not done yet. Adol vanished at the end and we still have a lot of unanswered questions about the country of Ys, which will be answered in the next episode when we start the section on Ys 2. Continuing my look into Ys Book 1 and 2 and Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus, this episode will see me starting the section that covers the second game, Ys 2, Ancient Ys Vanished, the final chapter. The title screen here is the Chronicles version since, as I said last time, there is no Ys 2 title screen in the Turbo CD since the game continues right into the Ys 2 parts after defeating the final boss of Ys 1. Last time, Adol killed Dark Fact at the top of Darm Tower and collected all 6 books of Ys. Reading the final volume had him engulfed in light and disappear. We next see this strange thing, and a man in blue robes teleport in front of it. He says that all communication to Darm Tower has been cut off, and asks what they should do to stop Adol. A light in the thing shines, and states that Adol's bravery presents a challenge, and that it is interested in how far Adol can make it before they crush him. The robed man accepts this and teleports away. We then get the iconic Ys 2 opening, starting at Darm Tower and showing what actually happened to Adol at the top. When the light covered him, he was shot up into the sky. Sadly, the emulator glitches ruined quite a few segments of the Turbo CD opening, but one thing it didn't ruin is the song To Make the End of Battle. I'd been aware of this song for almost a decade before I'd ever touched an Ys game, and I knew it was a big deal. My biggest surprise was to learn that it was actually an opening theme. The name of it and just the way it sounds always had me assume it was a final boss or at least final area theme. I know it's updated over the PC-88 original, but even in its original form in 1988, I can imagine this whole segment being unlike anything most players would have experienced at that point. After Adol flies high enough, we see a girl running through a field until she sees the light stream carrying Adol. We finally get a look at where he's heading for, and it is Ys, the lost country floating in the sky. The girl sees the light crash on the island near her and drop Adol off. She checks on Adol to see if he's alright and introduces herself as Lilia from Rance Village, or Lance Village to be consistent with how Chronicles will localise it. She says she felt compelled to come here, and that's when she saw him covered in light. When Adol asks where he is, Lilia tells him that he is on Ys. She says that there are many monsters patrolling, so she takes him back to her village before they're seen. When I fade into gameplay, I can see that despite keeping my XP and levels, my money and all of my items were lost on the journey here, except for the Books of Ys. I also now have an MP counter next to my HP. I start next to this entrance, which the guy guarding it says is a shrine. Talking to Lilia will have her say that she's had a fever for days but doesn't want to worry her mother over it. Foreshadowing for later, a man says that they often hear the song of the bell ringing when the monsters gather for a meeting. One guy says that they no longer have the raw materials to make new armour. One woman says that everyone is on edge because they're constantly hearing strange screams. Another tells me of a hollow basement in the ruins that I can't visit without the village elder's permission. In the northeast corner of the village, a man tells me that a dove delivered him a letter from his brother Flair Ral, saying that he's trapped in the mine after a cave-in. One talks about Jira and his haunted basement. Another tells me that Rhoda tree nuts can be found in the ruins. The house in the southwest corner belongs to Jira, who asks me if I'll investigate the strange noises in his basement. I don't bother because there's nothing I can do about it now. The southeast house belongs to Lilia's mother Bernice, or Benoa as she'll be referred to from now on. She tells Adol that Lilia has spoken about him a lot. She tells Adol that she knows of Lilia's illness, and despite looking healthy, Lilia is unaware that she is deathly ill, with only about 3 months left to live. She says that Dr. Flair might have a cure, but no one can find him. This is the same Flair Ral that is trapped in the mine. So I have one objective already. She gives Adol a letter to take to him if I do find him, and since I lost all my equipment, she gives me 300 gold to get started with. The equipment shop, run by Guido, is north of Benoa's house, so I buy a short sword for 100 gold. The remaining 200 goes to chain armour, the only armour available at the moment due to the lack of materials. When I go to equip them, I can see that the ring section of my inventory is gone and replaced by a magic section. To the west is the Elder's house, but his wife says that he isn't in and should probably be at the ruins. So I take those stairs up in the northwest corner down into a cave. It's just a few steps north and I go through the exit into the ruins of Moondoria, so we can get Ys 2's first amazing action theme. I start by going south, then all the way east and north through the doorway. Continue north through the trees to another doorway that leads to a chest guarded by 2 immobile Godargo. The bump system is not as powerful on these 2 enemies, so trying to kill them nearly gets me killed. But this doesn't count as a dungeon, so I can still heal by standing still. A couple minutes of poking once and waiting to heal later, I manage to kill them both. The chest contains the Wand of Holy World. This is going to be my main form of defense for most of these 2. Continuing north all the way to find an old man who recognises the wand. He says that a goddess statue in the back holds that wand, and that legend says that only goddesses and the 6 priests can use its magic. He then says that touching the statue with the wand will allow me to use its power. I touch the wand to the statue and gain the ability to use magic. I gain an equal amount of MP to my HP. The thing is, I have MP, but I don't actually know any spells yet to use it with. I head back the way I came and take the next doorway to the west. Here is a gate guarded by Astal. He tells me that the village elder came by recently and asked if he'd seen a pair of girls. After Astal told him he hadn't, the elder went back home. West a little more and north again has me fight my first Krace, the blue zombie, and Korkshan, the red demon on all 4s. The 2 gang up and kill me, with my lack of magic and being back down to the weakest sword. I hadn't saved since Lance Village. At that last doorway I went through, I go west, take the first turn north, and follow the path around to a chest containing an ancient slate. But then the Korkshan by the chest kills me. I regain the slate and return to the spot I died first to pick up a Rhoda tree nut from the floor. And I die after again. Once I get it back, I return to Lance Village and go back to the equipment shop to buy a 100 gold wood shield. The Elder still isn't back yet because I didn't talk to Astal again after dying and reloading to trigger his return. So I do that and the Elder is now outside his house. He apologises for making me go look for him and compliments my collecting the Books of Ys. The volumes were left behind when the 6 priests disappeared, their souls merged into the books themselves. He tells me that in the basement of the ruins of Moondoria is the Divine area. There are 6 statues to represent each of the priests in there. He asks me to return the Books of Ys to their corresponding priest statue, and that Astal will let me inside. I return to Astal and he opens a door to let me in. Now is a good time to swap over to Chronicles Plus, as a lot was added here. This time I'm going to start with Nightmare difficulty, thinking I'll only need the 1 playthrough then to get 100%. Once again we get the mysterious figure telling the other mysterious figure about Adol. Once again no voice acting like on the Turbo CD. And then we get to make the end of battle again, starting with Adol being shot into the sky from Darm Tower. We get flashes of random sentences, and this time Adol's travel to Ys is witnessed by Fina and Rhea, showing much earlier than on the Turbo CD that we haven't seen the last of them yet. Adol's landing on Ys is a lot more violent than it was before. While Lilia runs to Adol, we can see her staring at this big temple at the top of the mountain. When she finds Adol, we can see the books of Ys on the floor around him. But it doesn't stop there, we get a flashback to 700 years ago when Ys was still in the ground. The two goddesses pray at this orb, and they should look pretty familiar by now. We see Ys rising from the earth and Darm Tower surrounded by demons. The final shot showing where in the sky Ys is relative to Darm Tower. Adol's first talk with Lilia is basically the same, but with the screen blinking in and out as Adol passes out. We get a shot of them at the end of this cliff, showing just how high above the earth Ys is. Adol hears a conversation about his condition and that he'll be fine with some rest. He soon wakes up surrounded by Lilia, Benoa and a guy named Leonor Rahl. Leonor is the brother of Dr. Flair Rahl, the guy who got the letter from the doctor on the Turbo CD. Leonor tells him to let him rest and goes off to see if his brother is back at the clinic yet. Adol's crash destroying the rest of his Ys 1 inventory feels more satisfying to me than, I guess, him dropping it all while zooming up to Ys. Once Adol wakes up, I talk to Benoa, who asks if Adol should still be walking around with such fresh wounds. Well, it worked at the start of the last video. Actually, how long is it between the start of Ys 1 and Ys 2? Adol's had 2 life-threatening crashes so close together. I can ask Benoa about a few subjects, starting with Ys itself. Benoa wonders why Adol would even need to ask about the only place they've ever lived, leading to her considering that he may not even be from here. She adds a bit more detail by saying that Adol was found near the ruins of Moondoria. Asking about Moondoria has her tell me that it once flourished under the 6 priests, but is now in shambles. With it overrun by demons, almost no one visits it anymore. She especially warns me of the dangers in Rastini Mine. This allows me to ask about said mine. She says that there are some old ruins mixed in with the mine, talking about the divine areas. It's also filled with iron ore and herbs, but considering the mine entrance is in Moondoria and that's filled with demons, they're not getting much of that lately. Only Dr. Flair still goes down, despite everyone telling him not to because he'll get himself fucking killed or trapped in a cave-in. Asking Benoa about herself gets me told that it's just been her and Lilia for a while, as Lilia's father died when she was very young. She says that her daughter is the only thing that is helping her cope in the current dark times. Asking about Lilia has her tell me that she left a little while ago with a basket, so she's probably picking apples. When I go to leave, she gives me the letter that I'm supposed to deliver to Dr. Flair. That's when she lets me know of Lilia's illness. She's aware that Flair had been gone for a while and wants me to find him, fearing that the worst could happen at any time. She first suggests a clinic to see if he's back yet. As I step out, Lilia's illness can wait, as I have a whole new game's worth of characters to add to my notes. A few characters from Ys 1 are already in my notes, namely the 6 priests and the descendants I met, along with Fina, Rhea, Darkfact and Dogi. The clinic is behind Benoa's house and so I go in. Leonor is in a panic, and when the nurse, Sarina, asks what's wrong, that's when we get the knowledge about the carrier pigeon, the letter, and Dr. Flair being stuck in a cave-in. Neither Sarina nor Leonor have any idea what to do. Neither of them have any combat experience. But then Leonor realises that there's a swordsman who's been eavesdropping the entire time. He asks Adol to save his brother, and I agree. When Adol tells him that Benoa gave him a letter to give to Flair, Leonor is thankful that Adol is now being pressured from 2 people at once. All he can do to help is give me 300 gold for some starting equipment. Sarina fills me in on a style guarding the entrance to the ruins and how I'll need the Elder's permission to enter. I talk to the 2 of them individually to ensure that they get added to my notes. Outside the clinic and to the west a little is Tita, who is fascinated by the books of Ys Adol is carrying. Right next to her is Colt, who doesn't believe Adol can be from far away, since as far as he knows, Ys is the entire world. I enter the item shop and talk to Jade, the shopkeeper. He complains about the loss of mining harming his stock. Then to the equipment shop next door to speak to Guido. Like in Ys 1, I could buy a sword now, but I can get a free one. Except I buy one and have to restart the game. In the clinic, I knock over the apples on the counter, getting my first achievement, keep the doctor away. After talking to Guido without buying the sword, settling for the wooden shield instead, I talk to Laszlo outside the shop. He's the one who forges armour for Guido's shop, but without any ore, there's no work for him. South of him is Kate, who just talks about the mine some more. All the way south and then west of Benoa's house is Astal's house. Astal isn't in, just his maid Caesaria. She also says that Old Man Legs lives here, but he isn't in either. Further west is Eska, who tells Adol about how worried for him Lilia was. She then tries to set the 2 of them up. I enter the house behind her and talk to Beth. She asks what Adol is doing on Ys, and Adol says he can't remember. I assume he's lying to not have to explain everything because I don't remember any other hints towards him having amnesia. There's Brody, who is depressed over all the demons, and Marina, who talks about the mine in case you ignored everyone else who brings it up. West some more to another house, and outside is Boats, who feels guilty over being unable to mine thanks to those demons, and can't face Laszlo or Flair for not being able to get the items they need for their jobs. But since he has a wife and 2 kids, he can't risk getting killed in there. The house behind him is his. Inside are his kids, Chris and Ceres, who are twins so identical even they forget which one of them is which, and his wife, Sheila. West some more is a Pickard farm being watched over by Lucy. Out of place Sesame Street reference. There's a few random pop culture references in this version, I just can't be asked to draw attention to them all. The house behind her is from the original game. It's Jiras, or Gila as he's known now. He's a lot ruder than he was on the Turbo CD. East of his house is Lucille, who can sense the evil presence in Gila's basement. Are you sure you're not sensing his bad attitude? Further east is Polo, who is miserable because he found a Rhoda fruit in Mundoria and adored it, but has been unable to find another. East again is Mason Torch, who tells me of rumours of the ancient slate, now ancient tablet. North from her is Saffron, who asks if I can keep a secret. When she goes to bed, she can hear terrible screaming coming from beneath the village. She's been unable to sleep for weeks because of it. The house behind her is Laszlo's, and inside is his wife Tess, who hates seeing her husband's depression. His son, Tran, is slightly less sympathetic. Going west again, and there is Theo, the one who actually runs the Pickard farm. But he's too miserable to do his job properly, leading to Lucy, who is his sister, to start looking after them. Behind Theo is the Elder's house. This time Elder Cornell is outside to start with. He's the one who tells Adol about seeing 2 girls in the ruins instead of a Stahl. He then fills me in on the books of Ease as normal and gives me permission to enter Rastini Mine. Inside his house is a large painting of the 2 goddesses. Also in here is the Elder's wife, Natasha. South of his house is Osham, who says that there are 6 magic spells, 1 for each of the priests. I also get confirmation that the Legs, who lives with Astal, is the old man in the ruins of Mundoria. West of the Elder's house near the town gate is Lilia. She also worries over whether Adol is well enough to be moving forward. She gives me an apple, which I can recover a bit of health with. Then in front of the town gate is Larson, who I tell about Dr. Flair being trapped in the mine. Jade also sells apples for 10 gold each, and I am going to need a lot of these over the game. I can only hold 3 at a time though. If I equip an apple and go talk with an NPC, I can give them it. I start with Brody. After the second one, he tells me he has no intention of giving me anything in return. After the 4th apple, he's still refusing, saying he's not like other NPCs. But on the 5th apple, he gives in and lets me know a secret. He says that the ducklings that wander around town will eat anything, even gold coins. I am going to have to give every NPC I can talk to between 2 and 5 gifts, as they all have a collectible mascot to obtain when you max out their affection. Andy is found next to Lilia, talking about the bell ringing sound beneath the village rumored to summon demons. I find a duck and its ducklings behind the clinic. By talking to one of the ducklings, it will cough up 500 gold for me. It also unlocks the achievement, Bill the Duck. I use that money to buy myself the chainmail. I buy myself some more apples and start giving them to Theo. First time he says he can't give me anything. Second time he tries setting up an arranged marriage with his kid's sister. Third time he gives me some smoked meat he made. That must be some really good meat if he'd rather sell off his sister to a stranger. Despite saying that, he'll only give it to me on receiving a 4th gift. There are 4 of these unique foods held only by a single NPC to get in the game. Once they are eaten, you can get another by giving them more gifts. I eat it right then despite being at full health. It's for a later achievement. I give my remaining 2 apples to Lucy, who says she'll give me something in return next time. On giving her a 3rd gift, she made me my 2nd unique food item, a meat pie. I eat that too. Speaking of achievements spanning most of the game, if I keep running against Lilia's bed, I can make Adol get inside and smell it. It's for the 100%. And there's another 2 I'll have to do this with later. Benoa doesn't seem to care, although I have probably distracted her with the news that Dr. Flair is trapped in Rastini Mine. That's everything I can do in here right now, so I leave town, still without a sword. The cave to Mundoria has been replaced with the Mundoria Field. The ruins of Mundoria are off to the north, but there's a side area to the west. It leads to the spot where Lilia first found Adol. I can make Camp Minia and the Bag You Are Dead crater from here. I can gather 3 apples here along with marl flowers which restore 10 HP and also make for good gifts. There are a few of these around the area and they take a few minutes to respawn. Keep moving north up several sets of stairs to reach another screen where I can get a good look at this temple on the top of the mountain. Lilia finds Adol here, saying that this area is her favourite place to be. She changes subject and starts to wonder where the demons all came from. She can't imagine them being from Ease because from where she's standing it looks so peaceful. She tells me that the frozen cliffs I'm looking at are the Ice Ridge of Nolshia, and the building on the top is the Solomon Shrine I heard about a few times in Ease 1, not to be confused with the unnamed shrine I found Fina in during the first game. I made that mistake a few times while I was first writing. No one from Lance has actually gone there, only seen it from here. Lilia then goes off to pick flowers. With all that done, I can finally enter the ruins of Moondoria. The game reminds me how the bump system works. Bumping is definitely more effective in Chronicles than in Book's version of these two. I suppose to make up for Magic getting a slight nerf, but I'll get to that when we get Magic. The crash landing on Ys also reduced Adol to level 1, but it also raised his level cap to 55 instead of the very low 10 it was in Ys 1. Moondoria's layout is mostly the same, just with me entering from the southwest instead of the centre-west. I talked to Astal to let him know that Dr. Flare is trapped and that I have permission to go in, so he unlocks the entrance for me. I find Legs in his usual spot, who is also aware of Adol by now. He thinks I'm mad for coming here without a weapon, but that's only because I know he's going to give me one for free. Getting this specific short sword gets me the Revenge of Sordid Details achievement. Of course, with this being Nightmare difficulty, I have to be very careful with the angle I run at the enemies with. Before doing anything, I take out a few Crace and Corction to get myself to level 2. Around the centre-west of the area I find the ancient tablet, now in the wall instead of a chest. Health regeneration is much slower on Nightmare, so it's best to return to Benoa's house to rest. I grab the Rhoda fruit in the north of the ruins. These restore all MP when eaten, but I need one for plot reasons too. The next enemy I kill gets me to level 3. At least now bumping an enemy slightly wrong won't almost kill me. While leveling I find a chest in the southwest corner, but it's surrounded by walls on all sides. I reach level 4 and leave to rest again. I go through the entrance to the Sanctuary of Toll to kill the Warrizor in there to reach level 5, along with the Nometh to reach level 6. After resting again I get a look at my mascots, little charms of the character sprites that hang from the corner of the screen. I start with a few Ys 1 characters: Sarah, Lisa, Rhea, Thena, Dogi, Darkfact, Duckling, a Picard. Thena and Rhea dress as priestesses, Thena and Rhea in Chinese style clothes, Prisoner Rhea from Rado's Annex, and I also have Brody and Theo for maxing out their affection. This is why I need to max out every character's affection to collect all the mascots. I don't even use them, I find they're hanging in the corner distracting. On the way back to Moondoria I start giving gifts to Lilia. By the third one she's already telling Adol how special he makes her feel and how she'll always treasure their closeness. Dude, it's just an apple. I picked them a few feet from where you're sitting. By gift 5 she's telling him how much better her life is with him in it. He's only properly been introduced to her this morning. All this was just to get her mascot. I'm only after one thing with these people. I'm now at a good enough level that I can safely kill those Gordargos and get the Rod of Divinity. I let Legs know I have it and touch it to the statue to get my MP. When I return to rest I decide to start giving gifts to Benoa. A common theme with the older women is most of them being surprised Adol will even do something kind for them. By the third gift Benoa asks Adol how he feels about Lilia. Well, I know that Lilia has no chance because I've played later games and Adol never settles down with anyone, and also because I looked her up and her only later appearance has been overwritten in canon by a remake she doesn't appear in. The fourth gift and she's really dropping the hints. But that was the gift that got me her mascot, so she's not going to get the chance to drop any more. With that I enter the Sanctuary of Toll properly this time. That was a lot compared to the Turbo CD, but we're finally getting back to it now. The first floor of the Sanctuary of Toll is a simple west, north and east to some stairs. My first Warrizor and Nometh are here, as pointed out when I needed those levels in Chronicles. Along the southern path to the west is a door I can't open yet. There's a big door on the northern path to the east, and I foolishly walk past it to go down the stairs into Rastini Mine. This place is a bit of a maze. First down the stairs to the east and then the ones to the west, then east again, then west again. This drops me in a room with 2 exits and my first Riplets, who kill me. And they kill me the next time. Third time I get very close. Fourth time I just take the stairs on the west. They take me to one of the Sanctuary of Toll's divine areas. To the south where I take on my first Zolgel, then east to go through the big door. I approach the statue of Priest Tova and watch as the volume Tova floats up and dissolves. The spirit of Tova tells me that each of the priests has power over a magical spell and that to reach the evil core I would do best to get them all. I'm also given a free heal. Realising I skipped one earlier, I return to the first floor of the sanctuary and go through that door to return Volume Hadal to the statue of Hadal. It tells me that Doom is about to come to Ys again. The demons on Ys have been dormant for a long time and have been awakened by the Master back on the ground, referring to Darkfact. While Fact may be dead, the evil core responsible for the demons in the first place is in the Solomon Shrine. Returning all 6 books of Ys will open the way there. It also tells me that I will not be damaging any bosses without fire magic. Returning to the room in the mine I kept dying in, I take the eastern door, then a western one. With a choice of west or southeast, I take the latter. In this room with a pond between the middle and eastern doors, I go east. Next I go west into a room containing my first Tolpi. I just barely kill it, but it was a dead end. I return to the screen with the pond and take the middle door to a room with a chest and my first Puroid. The chest contains a pickaxe. I go back to the room before the pond room and take the western door. 2 more choices and I go east, then north to the next door to find a room with a suspicious wall with a bit of rubble in front of it. I use the pickaxe to break it down. I go through and there is Dr. Flare. He's very thankful that he's not going to suffocate to death. He also doesn't need escorting, he can get out by himself. I take the chance to give him Benoa's letter. He needs 2 ingredients for Lilia's antidote. First is a Cassetta flower, or Salsetta flower as it's relocalised, once again named after Ys 4's setting. It only grows on the end of dark ponds. The other ingredient is the Rhoda fruit I already have. I gain XP for saving Flare, but not enough to level up. I backtrack 2 rooms to the one with 3 doors and take the western one. There's another set of stairs to a divine area here, so I take them first. The big door is to the west of here, where I enter and I return Volume Dabby to the statue. It says that the power that lifted Ys into the sky was the result of an evil being born in the country, the cause being Ys's own magic. It says that while magic can be used for both good and evil, this evil can never be gotten rid of as long as magic still exists. Before going back to the mine, I go east and all the way north to find a chest containing a Cleria ring. It gives me the random chance to parry an enemy's attack. Back to the mine and I take the door to the south. Another east or west choice and I go east. West, southwest or southeast, I go southwest. I keep going south through another door. The chest at the south end of this room contains the magic of fire, finally giving me something better to fight with. This spell lets me shoot fireballs at knocking an enemy back. It can be spammed as the MP drainage seems to be 1 point over a specific time, so no matter how many you manage to throw out in that time, it's all worth 1 point. The big downside to fire is that the enemy is always sent flying in the opposite direction to where they're facing, no matter where you shot them from. So an enemy turns around before your fireball hits them, they'll go careening towards you at high speed. This causes me a few deaths throughout the game. The Puroid I first killed with this spell got me to level 37. The direction issue aside though, enemies are now much easier to deal with. I go back to the room with the 4 doors and take the southeastern one, but it just leads to a dead end. I go through the northwestern door instead and then east through another, but it's another dead end. I return to the room with 3 doors with a little pond to the west and take the middle door. That's the correct one. Another east or west choice and I start with west. It leads to the stairs to another divine area. Here I get my first demonstration of that direction problem with fire, as I send a Nometh flying arse first into my face, killing me. When I get back, I start by moving east and then north to the door to the next statue. This time it's Volume Gemma that is returned. This one just wonders what the demons would say to the humans if they could talk. But that's not all, as this divine area has 2 statues. West of the entrance is the door where I return Volume Mesa. This one says that the Solomon Shrine is at the summit of Ys and that to get past it I have to cross through the ice-covered mountain and a land of lava. Out of the divine area and back to the previous room, I take the eastern door and go north down to the next floor. I move west, south and west again to find another door, and from there I go west again to find a door leading to the first boss of Ys 2, Velagunda. It will move along the back of the room firing out a spread of blue fireballs. It's only vulnerable when opening its mouth to do so. Trying to dodge the fireballs while aiming well enough to shoot its mouth only has me taking half of its health before it kills me. I try several times but I just can't get it down. I eventually work something out. Velagunda's vulnerability actually starts a second before it opens its mouth. So the safe but long way of doing this is to lure it all the way to one end of the screen, throw out a load of fireballs and then get running to the other side before it opens its mouth. There's a good chance at least one of your fireballs should hit. It takes about 2 minutes but it eventually dies. The XP gain gets me to level 38. The door behind it leads to even more mine. I take the western path south, taking on my first Kali. After turning east I go south through the wall to reveal another room with a chest inside. This has an iron ore, so I can give it to Guido and get some better stuff in stock. Back out and I go all the way east and then north to another fork. But only the middle path leads anywhere, taking me to the pond where I can find the Salsetta flower next to it. Heading back south all the way and there's another doorway hidden in the right wall. But first I have to shoot a million fireballs into it because all the enemies decided to hang out inside. My first Canucks is in this room as I go north, ignoring the western paths that lead to dead ends. To the east is a door to the north and a slightly hidden one to the south. I take the southern one and lose most of my health to a dick move where an enemy spawned in behind me as I entered. I followed the eastern path around and south to reach a chest and get killed by a Canucks in front of it. The chest contains an evil bell, I'll get to using that soon. I take the northern door instead to get ambushed and killed by this dungeon's final new enemy, the Orichalcus. I'm ready for them next time, but they have very high defense right now. I follow this room all the way north until I can turn east and then keep taking the northern forks until I reach this place's final treasure, the Orichalcus in front, getting me to level 39. The chest contains the Magic of Light. This spell will reveal secret exits when using the correct spots. That's everything in here now and I can leave, though I still have one more Book of Ys to return. Back to Lance Village, and I go all the way to the corner where Leonor was to see Flare next to him. He doesn't have a clinic on the Turbo CD, so I guess this is the best he can do. I give him the Rhoda fruit and Salsetta flower, and he gets to work on the antidote, telling me not to let Lilia know that she's dying. He finishes it in seconds and tells me to give it to Benoa. I do so, and she asks how she can ever repay me. It turns out with experience. She says that Legs, referred to as Regs on the Turbo CD, came by earlier with a magic spell for me. She has no idea why it's so important, but both Legs and her late husband were adamant it was. She gives me the Magic of Return, which allows me to teleport to any town or village on Ys that I've visited before. Well, right now that's just Lance. Lilia is waiting for me outside, having listened in on us.
I was about to die of a disease I knew nothing about.
At least you could be so casual about it right after learning. She has no idea how she could ever thank Adolf for what he did for her. Since that scene on the cliff in Chronicles doesn't exist here, this is where Lilia starts developing feelings for Adol in this version. I take the iron ore to Guido and he buys it off me for 3,000 gold. I like how I can refuse when there's no other use for it. With that, the full list of equipment at the shop is available to buy. I buy the long sword for 1,000, the small shield for 1,500, but I'm only 29 gold short of affording the breastplate. I return to Gila's house and agree to inspect his basement for him. Seems normal enough, but I equip the evil bell and ring it in front of this wall. The wall bursts open and an infinite amount of monsters start piling out. Stand to the left above this barrel and you have a perfect grinding spot. The enemies are endless, and in that spot you can keep them all away. Then when you get low on MP, just visit Benoa's house to recover and start again. I reached level 40 doing this, but the hard part is going through that hole. I almost die trying it first time. After resting, I try again and get through, but there's so many of them in the next room that I get overwhelmed and destroyed. After failing again, I buy that breastplate using the money I built up down there. The extra defense allows me to make it through that room. It turns out it led to the final divine area. To the northeast is the room where I return Volume Fact. It sums up what I already know. I need to reach the Solomon Shrine and destroy the evil core. It then reminds me of the magical metal Cleria mentioned in Ys 1 and what I have a ring made of now. The core can only be destroyed by a sword made of Cleria. The goddesses also asked the spirit of Priest Fact to give Adol the Scroll of Guidance. If I find any goddess statues, the scroll will allow me to get advice from them. He then says he will open the way to the Solomon Shrine for me. Before I set off, I decide to have another grinding session in Gila's basement, reaching level 41 in no time. You can't ever empty the basement for him, by the way. It was unnerving for him before, but now his basement is permanently crawling with monsters. I hope he can sleep through that. 4 minutes later I reach level 42. Another 5 minutes and it's level 43. With 10,000 gold I can now buy the plate armour, the strongest available from Guido. 10 minutes after that I hit level 44. With 8,000 gold I can buy the large shield from Guido. I build up another 5,000 to buy the katana/talwar and return to the Sanctuary of Tol. The previously closed door on the first floor is now open, leading to the Ice Ridge of Nolshia. But first we're going back to Chronicles to cover its versions of the Sanctuary of Tol and Rastini Mine. I run to the Hadal statue room and return the volume to it. Into Rastini Mine, and it turns out Riplets on Nightmare difficulty at level 6 are much easier than on the Turbo CD in the late level 30s. One still kills me at the last second though, that's what I get for being cocky. But I kill them next time and reach level 7. I kill my first Zolgel and return volume Tova. The layout of the mine is the same, so forgive me for not explaining my exact route again. I take out my first Puroi to reach level 8, in the same room I find the pickaxe, now referred to as Matok. Thanks to this channel, reading the word Matok gives me flashbacks to the beginning of Final Fantasy Adventure. Well, this one is infinite use and doesn't require farming random enemy drops if I try using it in the wrong place. There is one more use for the Matok in Chronicles though. Back out in the ruins of Mundoria, I can break down this cracked wall in the southwest to reach that chest I couldn't earlier. It contains the Bestiary potion for Ys 2. I drink it but forget how to activate the display for a while. I decide to hang out in Mundoria to complete its free enemy listings. After a few minutes, Krace and Korkshan have their entries completed. An extra reward for completing an enemy's entry is that you'll gain a mascot for them too. The Godargos are next, which takes longer as I keep getting distracted. I take a break by giving some gifts to Astal. He mainly responds with tips for Rastini Mine. 3 gifts is all I need for Astal's mascot. I start gifting legs next. The 3 Marl flowers I have left aren't enough for his mascot, so I have to return to the Moondoria fields to pick more. Just assume I'm always doing this or buying more when waiting for them to grow back, so I'm not repeating it too much. Guess who forgot he was supposed to be gifting legs and went back to Larson in Lance instead? 2 gifts to Larson is enough for his mascot. Since I built up over £1,000, I can buy myself a long sword. I give legs a 4th gift for Toll and Rastini Mine lore I already know, and that gets me his mascot too. Not long after, I reach level 9 working on those Gordagos. Every time I have to rest, I take the time to pick more gifts and give them to villagers. Next is Andy. He just gives me basic life advice like, save often, and don't set people on fire. 3 gifts gets his mascot. My last remaining gift goes to Elder Cornell. He's the one who actually explains to me how the affection and gift giving system works. Lilia is by the well now, showing signs of her illness but saying that she's fine, it just happens a lot. More apples for Cornell, 3 total getting me his mascot. I start working on his wife next. She talks like her husband, encouraging me to keep giving people stuff. On her 3rd gift she starts telling me about the twin goddesses and how they have names, but then she gets distracted, starts rambling and just gives me the basic description I already know. It takes 4 gifts for Natasha's mascot. OSEAM next, 3 gifts for his mascot. Then Mason Torch, who thinks I'm bribing her for gossip. Apparently, demons have been kidnapping people for ritualistic sacrifice is just gossip these days. She also drops that they've been taken to the Solomon Shrine. Normally you wouldn't find this out until much later. Mason Torch is another whose mascot requires 3 gifts. I finally get back to grinding the Gordago's bestiary entry. I reach level 10 doing this, and soon enough its entry is completed. While back in Lance to rest, I buy apples and flowers from Jade only to gift them back to him. 2 gifts is all it takes for his mascot. Since Guido is just next door, I go for him too. Another that takes just 2 gifts. My next love bombing target is Saffron. She seems not that bothered at first, but the 3rd apple has her change of mind, loving the idea of Adol admiring her from afar. The 4th one has her assume that Adol thinks she's the prettiest girl he's ever seen. But that 4th one got him the mascot, which is all he's ever after. Before her very eyes, I run away from her and start gifting to Laszlo instead, never to think of her again. He really wants me to just get that ore in the mine. Somehow he also knows that Cleria is required to defeat the big evil threat. 4 gifts to his mascot. Now for Kate. By the 3rd gift she's smitten. With the 4th, she's so flattered that Adol is paying attention to an older woman that she genuinely thinks there's a chance of the future for them together. Sadly for her, I have her mascot, so that's not happening. Isn't there an urgent task I should be taking care of? Colty's next. 4 gifts in, he gives me hints on finding the bestiary potion if I didn't have it yet. That 4th one also got me his mascot. Tita next, and the kids just think being given an apple is the coolest thing that's ever happened to them. I have never exclaimed, "Oh yeah," from being given an apple. But she can wait for the rest as I'm finally going back to the Sanctuary of Toll. On the 1st floor I have the Warrizor and Nomuth to complete the entries of. But that 1st floor is just too slow for me, so instead I use the Divine area for Priest Tova, since it also has a Zolgel to work on too. Not long before Warrizor is complete. A few minutes of this, I have to return to Lance to heal. I also take the chance to give Tita more gifts. Despite saying she doesn't need more after the 2nd gift, it takes 4 gifts to get her mascot. So I move on to Tess next. 3 gifts to her mascot. And then Tran. 3 like his mother. Then into the clinic for Serena. She's another one who tells me more about gift giving, adding the fact that while some offer information, others give you nothing in return. Well, that's not true. I get the mascots, that's all I'm doing this for. By the 3rd gift, she easily works out that Adol is giving gifts to every single woman and tells him not to push his luck. But by the 4th gift, even she is starting to be intrigued by him. She asks how, if Adol is interested in her, he's going to break the news to Lilia. Once again, he just met her this morning and everyone is assuming she's claimed him. That one got me her mascot, so I move on to Leonor. He rewards me with the information of Lilia's favourite flower. 4 gifts to his mascot. That's the entire northern side of the village adoring me, now for the southern half. Caesaria is next, and she needs another 4 gifts to hers. Beth next, another older woman appreciating the kindness, but at least she has the sense to know it won't be leading anywhere. 3 gifts to her mascot. I learn to turn on the display off screen. Then Marina to finish off this house. 3 gifts has her call Adol creepy in a good way. What does that even mean? By 5 gifts she's flattered but already married to Brody. This gets me her mascot. So next is Eska right outside. Another one who thinks Lilia has claim to Adol. With the 4th gift she's struggling to decide whether she choose between her already existing friendship with Lilia and the love of the man who gave her 4 apples. She says to give her some time. She has all the time in the world, as with her mascot I'm never going to talk to her again. When will these people learn? I just want pointless collectibles I'm not going to make use of. Boat's next. Free gifts are his mascot. It may sound like I'm giving disproportionate attention to the reactions of the women, but that's only because whoever wrote all of these clearly did too. A lot of the men just have generic gameplay tips. Now for Sheila. With the third gift, it seems she isn't as taken in by Adol's gifts the way the others are, more like, what a kind young man. But the fourth gift has her drop all that and admit, I'm shallow, giving me random shit is enough. Nice thing to say right in front of your kids. They got me a mascot at least. Chris is the first kid to point out that accepting gifts from strangers is a bad idea. She still takes it though. And Chris and Ceres are so similar, even I mix them up trying to give one of them a gift. I get Ceres' mascot first, then Chris's. Now for Gila, even if he's a dick in this version. The second gift has him assume Adol is taking pity on him and makes a swipe at Adol's lack of a wife like his own. Third gift has him assume Adol is trying to convince Gila to let him move in. He's the only guy to assume Adol may be attracted to him, and he does a terrible job convincing Adol he wouldn't be interested. The fifth gift has him give in and tell Adol he can live here. But that one got me the mascot, so I'm satisfied. I'll be back later to blow a hole in his basement. Back to the sanctuary and mine. A big improvement to the bestiary potion is that when the display is on, it shows all 6 of the monster's stats. This means I no longer have to keep checking in my notes to see if they're all filled in. Back to work on the Zolgel and Nometh. Dr. Flare is probably dead by now. What makes the bump system require a bit more thought in Ys 2 is the fact that enemies have their own little swiping or slashing attacks that come out a little bit in front of them. In Ys 1 they could only bump like you. Don't know why I'm only bringing this up now, but whatever. Working on the Nometh and Zolgel is still slow, and I even have to use my wing to return to town to heal, as I don't want to get stuck dying on the way back. Apparently I bought a wing from Jade. I must have missed it in all the footage of me button mashing through buying apples. I always make sure to buy a replacement wing. When I get back, I finally complete the Nometh sentry. While working on Zolgel, I reach level 11. It takes just over a minute after finishing Nometh to complete Zolgel's entry. I next get to work on those 2 riplets outside the Divine area. It only takes a couple minutes to complete theirs. Now to actually go deeper into the mine, if only to get to work on the Puroids entry in the room I found the Mattock. During this I reached level 12. Thanks to there being just the one in this room and all the dying and reloading, it takes me 6 minutes to complete its entry. Further down into the mine I find the rubble leading to Dr. Flare. Somehow he hasn't starved to death while I was getting all my distractions. You can actually hear him shouting from the other side, and you can have him and Adol introduce themselves. I break down the rubble and get the XP to reach level 13. I give him Benoa's letter and he needs the same 2 ingredients he did on the Turbo CD. Next I reach the Divine area of Priest Dabby and return his volume. I also grab the Cleria ring here. The next enemy to be added to my bestiary is the Tolpi on my way to get the fire magic. Fire is no longer spammable like it was on the Turbo CD, your MP now drains faster. And I have a meter that drains alongside it that needs recharging to prevent further spamming. And that meter is based on your current MP, not total, so using your MP up means you'll need to recharge more often. So it's worse in that way, but it's better in that I can charge a larger, stronger fireball for more MP and the knockback quirk no longer exists, so shooting a monster in the back isn't going to get me killed. Now I can get to work on that Tolpi's entries. It takes a few minutes to get them all. When I leave to heal, I had the money for a small shield. Talking to Benoa after saving Dr. Flare but before getting the ingredients will have her thank me for saving him. Back in the mine, this pond has a herb growing by it that I can take, a minor healing item. Into the next Divine area to return Volume Gemma and Volume Mesa. My next task is defeating Vela Gunda. Bosses in Ys 2 Chronicles now have fancy name text on the screen so you know who they are. They also have a new boss theme, Protectors, whereas on the Turbo CD they still used Holders of Power from Ys 1. Vela Gunda's spread is larger than on the Turbo CD and has some homing properties. This time it has its arms blocking its face, and only waiting for the arms to move will give me the chance to damage it. It takes me 4 attempts to defeat it. All you can do is get the timing right to dodge the middle fireball and take that chance to shoot as many fireballs as you can. Once you get the dodging down, it isn't that bad. The XP gained from killing it bumps me 2 levels to level 15. Into the depths of the mine now, and I get to work on Carly's bestiary. Nearly 5 minutes to log all 6 stats. Then through that doorway in the southeast to avoid Canucks and Orihalcus until I can grab the iron ore, the Celceta flower, and the light magic. I then flee to heal. I somehow forget I can give Guido the iron ore and get some better equipment and just run off right back down there. I get the evil bell and start working on Canucks and Orihalcus' bestiary entries, reaching level 16 from the very next enemy I kill. It takes 5 minutes to complete Canucks, then 4 minutes of throwing fireballs into this doorway later, Orihalcus is complete too. I finally sell Guido the iron ore for 3,000 gold. Since I have so much, I spent 5,000 on a Talwar. With Dr. Flare back in the clinic, Lilia's illness can wait as I have some gifts to give him. With the first gift, he also tells me about the bestiary potion. The second time he gives me new information about Ruse, a sacred animal beloved by the priests and goddesses. They're another mascot-like creature and we'll get to them later. The third gift also gives me hints of a later spell that lets me interact with them. 4 gifts has him tell me that Celceta flowers once grew all over the world before Ys went into the sky, and he wonders if they still grow anywhere else now. Well, Celceta still exists, so... That 4th gift gets me his mascot. Now Lilia can be cured, as I give Flair the items. He gives me Lilia's medicine, and I take it to Benoa. I also had the talk with the eavesdropping Lilia. The scene is extended when Benoa comes out and calls Lilia in to take the medicine. We see her drink it, and this would be when she realises how used to being ill she was, when she feels actually healthy for once. But that's when Lilia drops that she knew she was deathly ill the entire time, so instead of worrying about when it might happen, she just focused on things she enjoyed in her life. If she just moped, it would make Benoa miserable and she would feel guilty. That's when Benoa gives me the return magic. In this version it's a family heirloom instead of being handed over by legs, and Benoa and Lilia know exactly what it is. The XP gained from giving them the medicine gets me to level 17. I can now ask Lilia about some of the same subjects I could ask Benoa about. She repeats a few known things, the demons appearing recently, the elder seeing 2 girls in the ruins who look like the goddesses, and the sounds coming from Gila's basement. She also explains how the evil bell works. The sound it makes is specially made to attract demons, which is why they never bother to break through the basement wall until you ring it. Asking Lilia about herself has a talk about how much she wants to help Adol and how she doesn't want him to come to any harm. Asking about Benoa has Lilia tell me what I already know about her father's death and Benoa failing to keep Lilia's illness a secret. I learned that while Benoa didn't know that Lilia knew, Lilia also didn't know that Benoa knew. Back into the mine. In Chronicles I can grab a second chunk of iron ore and sell it to Guido for another 3 grand. I use some of it to buy myself the breastplate. It takes until now for Gila to finally let me down in his basement. I ring the evil bell to call the demons and have them break open the wall. The amount of demons isn't as overwhelming as on the Turbo CD, and also isn't endless. There are a finite number of monsters down here to take care of, and once they're all gone, they're gone for good. So I can help out the version of Gila that's a dick, but the generally polite one on the Turbo CD just has to deal? Near the end of this I reach level 18. Killing every demon in Gila's basement plus the connected divine area unlocks the achievement Gila's Monsters. The experience from doing so bumps me up to level 19. I can now return Volume Fact, receive the Scroll of Guidance, and have the door to the Ice Ridge of Nulcia open. Gila's finally started to appreciate my efforts too. I try out the Scroll of Guidance on the goddess statue in Moondoria. All the statue tells me is to go to the Solomon Shrine. I go through the newly opened door in the Sanctuary of Toll, where Chronicles added an extra connecting corridor between it and the Ice Ridge of Nulcia. As I go through the exit, I get a new cutscene with the robed figure from the opening, who has just seen Adol gain the guidance of the priests, noting his endless courage. He then asks the nearby demon how preparations for the ceremony are going. He then tells him to take the offerings to the bell tower. He will ring the bell, and the demons are to keep supplying him with a constant flow of sacrifices. He asks the other mysterious being he was talking to whether or not it is convinced that Adol may be a threat. And now, back to the Turbo CD for the Ice Ridge of Nulcia. This place can be a bit confusing, so I hope you can follow my descriptions well enough. To start with, I go north up 3 sets of stairs, facing my first Nile on the way. I take the next stairs north and head west to fight my first Gurkhard. At the end I take 5 sets of stairs south and turn west again. South down 2 more sets to find a chest containing some misty ice drops. I backtrack all the way north and east and down the top set of stairs there, or the 4th when I was going up. I turn east at the bottom of them, north up 2 more sets and then west to find a cave entrance. Inside I keep moving west past this exit to this little ice tip. I use the misty ice drops to freeze the air and create a bridge that I can cross to another exit. I go south down 2 sets of stairs, then west, past the first set and up the second set going north. I meet my first Egnid here as I go up 2 more sets and into another cave entrance. Into the next screen and a new enemy, Galgata, kills me in seconds. And I hadn't saved since Lance, again. I get back to where I died, and don't this time. From the bottom of that first set of stairs I came down, I go south down 2 more and west. The first Guarters are here, the trolls with clubs. I turn back and go south down 3 more sets of stairs and north up 3 more, then west a little and south down 3 more, and west some more up another. It leads to another cave I enter. There's a big pile of snow I have to melt to make it across the other side of this bridge and back outside where I find a chest containing the transform magic, which allows me to transform into a Rue. Not needed in this place, but for the next area. South down the stairs is Swath, the last new enemy for this area. West a little and north up 6 sets of stairs to reach another cave. I go east and back outside to find another chest. This one has the stone shoes, which allow me to run up the icy slopes that are dotted all over this place. As soon as I go back through the cave to get here, there's a slope leading to a boss door, but I don't want it just yet. Backtracking through the cave with the snow, I get moving north up more stairs to find some icy slopes to run up. There's a chest here containing the Idol of Hawk, which when equipped will make the fire magic a homing attack. Just west of where I was killed by my first Galgata, there's a slope to a goddess statue. It tells me to go through the boss door, but the door I can see is an illusion and I need a way to reveal the true door. Back to where I found the ice drop, to the west is more slopes to run up. At the top is a chest containing the illusion mirror. On my way back I reach level 44. I go back to Benoa's house in Lance to rest, only for her to tell me that Lilia has gone missing, and asks me to bring her back if I find her. I return to the boss door to use the illusion mirror to break the illusion on the wall. The fake door disappears and you'll never guess where the real one was. Right next to the fake one. I go through and a monster walks out from the next door. He suddenly mutates into the next boss, Tialmath. He kills me in no time. Tialmath jumps around and on landing sends out fireballs in 8 directions. I died the first time because I stayed right in front of him, then the second getting used to his pattern. But he's actually very easy, easier than Velagunda. The fireballs move slow enough that you can easily move around them while getting a fireball of your own in at the same time. I kill him on my third try, the XP gain getting me to level 45. I go through the door to a screen with another doorway leading to the lava-filled moat of Burned Bless. But now for Chronicles and its version of the Ice Ridge. Directions are the same, so I just need to point out my accomplishments. I take out my first Neely and first Gur card on the way to grab the newly named Blizzard Bulb, no longer in a chest but floating above the ground. I then run around this screen killing Neelys for the bestiary. I reach level 20 during this and it takes just 2 minutes to fill out the Neely entry. I next get to work on Gur card, taking 3 minutes. I then walk back to Lance to heal. I now have the 6,000 gold needed to buy a large shield from Guido. Back to the Ice Ridge and into the first cave. The spot where you need to use the Blizzard Bulb is made more obvious, with a similar effect as the spot I found it. I make the bridge and continue to the other side of the mountain. South down a couple sets of stairs, there's a hidden entrance in the wall leading to a chest containing an item I missed first time on the Turbo CD, the Spirit Cape. This allows me to recover HP in dungeons while standing still. This is very useful if I can find a quiet spot where enemies won't attack me. I next kill my first Egnid on my way to kill my first Galgata. I move east and west, alternating killing a Galgata and a Guarta until I reach level 21. While grinding them, I slide down the icy slope to grab the Hawk Idol earlier than I did last time. Rather than run back to kill more, I move on and go through the cave requiring me to melt the ice. It takes charge shots to really get through efficiently, and each chunk of ice is kind enough to give me a single experience point. On the other side, I grab the now named Altar Magic and kill my first Swath. As I head north, I reach level 22. The homing from the Hawk Idol doesn't make a massive difference when enemies are almost always in your face, but it's nice to have. In the next cave, there's a free herb that respawns over time. I grab the stone shoes and get to grinding the Swath on the previous screen for their bestiary entries. During it, I reach level 23. In total, it takes about 4 minutes. Then back some more to work on the Galgata and Guarta together. Guarta takes about a minute and a half, I reach level 24, and Galgata takes a further minute and a half, although that did include a visit to the goddess statue for the fake door tip. That just leaves Egnid, who take 2.5 minutes to fill in. Returning to Lance to rest, Benoa tells Adol that Lilia is missing in this version too. The thing that always bothered me about these floating islands above the clouds is that if someone just fell off and no one was around to see it, no one would ever know. They'd only have to speculate for the rest of their lives what happened to their loved one. Obviously that's not what happened to Lilia, but it's always on my mind in these kinds of settings. It's time to work on another achievement, one for burning 50 villagers with fire. It doesn't specify whether that means 50 unique or not, but it doesn't. It just means hit a villager with fire 50 times. They all have something to say, most of it trying to be humorous or just generic, please don't set me on fire. But Benoa says, sweet death has come for me and knows of my sins. What have you done, Benoa? Since Steam achievements don't show up in the game window to be recorded, I can't show you the exact moment I unlocked what the legends don't tell you. But I always remember doing it because at the same time I was setting pretend people on fire, some dickhead set the field around the corner from my house on fire. Pretty big one compared to anything you'd ever see around here. It was the most interesting thing that had happened here in years. There's another achievement to get back in Rastini Mine now I can transform into a Roo. This spell allows me to talk with monsters. Let's just say, I'm glad that I also don't have to log every individual enemy by name either. In the room where I found the evil bell, there's a Canucks named Aldo who claims to have been hiding here. We get the CSI Miami meme, this localization was released in 2011, and I unlock the achievement Where's Aldo. Back to the Ice Ridge and I get the Illusion Mirror, now called Anti-Illusion Mirror. With it I can open the boss door once again. Tialmath is made much harder even without me being on Nightmare, in theory anyway. Instead of fireballs being shot out 8 ways, 8 rows of icicles shoot up from the ground, giving me even less space to dodge with. And it's not always in that same pattern either. Sometimes all rows of icicles will shoot up towards one side. Those ones are actually easier to avoid though, since they don't take up almost the entire arena. But sometimes he'll even bring up 2 sets at once or leave debris that takes up space for you to get caught on. The reason I say in theory is because I kill him first try, somehow. I gain enough XP from him to reach level 25. There's a hidden path west of the door that takes me up to where Tialmath dropped from. It leads to a chest containing 1000 gold. I run through the door and have a slightly longer cavern to run through with a free herb to pick up before I enter the moat of Burned Bless. But that is where we're leaving it this episode. The Ys 1 video wound up twice the length I was expecting, and Ys 2 is longer than Ys 1, so this felt like a good place to leave it with half of the game areas explored. I'm still enjoying myself a lot. Rastini Mine could get annoying with all the multiple paths, but having it accidentally merged with an abandoned temple was cool. And the Ice Ridge was a perfectly fine area, with great music, so at least getting lost would be less frustrating. There's still plenty more that needs doing. Reaching the Solomon Shrine, finding Lilia, bribing even more people for mascots, look forward to it. Back to Ys Book 1 and 2 and Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus to finish it off. Last time I made it halfway to the Solomon Shrine by getting through the Ice Ridge of Nulshire. Now I have to make it through the moat of Burned Bless. One of the volumes back in Ys 1 did say that Ys got covered in lava. Turns out it never left over the last 700 years. As I take a few steps west, Adol gets the feeling that something is watching him. Advance further and he can tell it's a demon, though he doesn't feel any evil. I step through the entrance to the next screen and fight my first new enemy, the Preligard. I get heading north and meet another new enemy, Onuman, the sort of ape thing. Continuing north I take the first exit I see on the east. I move east and then north to find another exit in the northeast corner. On this next screen I get moving north some more, sticking to the east as the west leads to a dead end. At the north end is the exit to the next screen. Skolan is the next new enemy I meet on this screen as a short walk northwest takes me to the next screen. This screen is a simple walk west to the next. On the next one I have to go west to the wall, then north up the narrow path, then east to the next screen. It leads to another horizontal screen where I just walk east to the next. This takes me to the second town of these two, the Colony of Lava. The first guy I speak to says that animals called keys used to live around here. That's a localization thing, like how they called Dogi Colin. He's actually talking about Ruse. Something I neglected to mention last episode is that half the time the demons are referred to as goons on the Turbo CD, which makes a few sentences seem a bit sillier than they should be. The guy next to him says that the guard at the east end of town, Kudo, or Ruba as he'll be known in Chronicles, has been acting strange ever since the goons came into the village and roughed it up a bit. I'm also not the only one who sensed a presence on the screen leading back to the Ice Ridge. I talk to Ruba, guarding the bridge leading towards the Solomon Shrine. He says the demons broke the winch that lowers the bridge so no one can cross now. I use my ultimagic to transform into a Rue and talk to him like that. He thinks I'm one of the demons and reveals that he agreed to not let Adol cross the bridge in exchange for knowing where his son is. Everyone has different lines when you talk to them in Rue form. I can also find another road of fruit by the town's west entrance. I talk to Ruba again as a human and let him know that I know what he's doing. He tells Adol not to tell anyone what he's telling him. When the demons last came to town, they kidnapped Ruba's son, Tarth, and held him hostage in exchange for him not letting Adol cross the bridge. Ruba blames Adol for this mess, as Ruba and Tarth have nothing to do with this, and yet they're being made to suffer because the demons fear Adol. He wants Adol to bring Tarth back. He gives Adol a pair of earrings that will let him clearly hear the faintest sounds, the Whisper Earrings. With these in my possession, I return to the first screen of this location from the Ice Ridge. Just before I get back, from the entrance to the second screen, just south is a Rhoda Tree Leaf. On that first screen, transforming into a Rue and ringing the evil bell will have them appear. They claim to be peaceful animals who were driven into hiding by demons. The next one says he saw a kid being carried towards a passage of toxic gas. The next one tells me that the Rhoda Tree Leaf I picked up will allow me to pass through the gas, as it contains a property that neutralises it. Well, that's all the info I need, time to look for Tarth. Make sure to turn back after you've left the screen because once you're human, the Ruse can damage you. Back in the second screen I get moving north again, but this time I pass the exit I used last time and go all the way north to find another one in the western corner. This screen is empty, just a walk southwest to the next one. That's not a waddling bunch of bananas, that's my newest enemy, Magnute. Another walk west to the next screen. I move north and find another new foe, the Shelbanoth. Keep heading north to find another screen to the northwest. This is the toxic gas passage and I had the leaf equipped ready, so I harmlessly pass through. and on the next screen it's a short walk northwest for the next. This is where I meet Gene, the guys on fire who are still harmed by fire. These horizontal screens are so easy to take down enemies with since they can't walk out of the way of my fireballs. At the western end of the screen is a Gene guarding a chest. For whatever reason, this one is immune to fire, so he just stands there and lets me nudge him to death. The chest contains a blue orb, which I'll need soon. I reach level 47 on the way back to the previous screen. Back on that screen I get moving north to find the next exit in the northeast corner. This one is a long walk north to a doorway on the eastern side. Another horizontal screen, but at the east end is a wall with a crack in it. Adol can barely hear into the crack, so I equip the whisper earrings. Adol shouts into the crack and gets a response. It's Tarth, trapped behind the wall, saying that even cracked, the wall is too solid to break, so that's a pickaxe out of the question. He says he's locked in there with a demon, but said demon has never attacked him and can speak to humans. His name is Keith. Keith says that if he has a blue orb, he can get the both of them out. I slip the blue orb through the crack and hand it to Tarth. A light fills the prison and it opens on the other end. Tarth thanks Adol and tells him to meet up with him back in town. I get some XP and have the long trek back to the colony of lava. Or I would, but it's a village and so I finally have a second location for my return magic. I head back to the west end and speak to Tarth. Emulator glitches strike again as Tarth's voice lines cut off after a few seconds. This is gonna start being a thing from now on. Basically, Keith took the blue orb and gained the strength to break them out and he took off. Ruber begs for forgiveness, saying that he was only acting to ensure the safety of his son. The winch was never broken, he just lied and hoped Adol would accept it and give up. I gain some XP as he lowers the bridge to me so I can take Vise and exit. Another new enemy here, Durga, these sort of turtles. I move along the edge of the screen clockwise, going east, south and west, meeting the Topus near the exit. Another horizontal screen moving west to the other side. The next screen has me moving north through a series of Topus until I reach the boss door at the north end. Through a door, a big green face emerges from the floor, Galaldi. He is immune to bump, as I learn when he slides against me and I die. Galaldi opens up his big gob to let out a sort of worm thing that moves around the arena. It's while his mouth is open that I can get my fireballs in and damage him, and also when he opens it again to retrieve his worm. The worm is long, but I found Galaldi himself harder to dodge. Thanks to his height, it's easier for him to make contact with me when I'm trying to dodge around the top or bottom. I die several times, but all this time I was at half health, so I finally give in and use my herb to heal. And what a surprise, when I choose to actually heal my wounds, I take him down first try. The XP gain gets me to level 48. Through the door and there's another to the east to another horizontal screen leading to the summit of ease. And now for Chronicles. This place looks different in a few places as some of those horizontal screens like this one have been completely redesigned. Some of the enemy locations have been shuffled around too. It's only when I step north a little that Adol feels himself being watched. There's a new goddess statue in this version. It tells Adol how the lava actually got there. The priest did it to ward the demons off. Considering the place is still crawling with them, it didn't work, did it? I hope the lava is walled in and confined to ease. Don't want little bits flowing off the edge and some poor bastard down in Asteria minding their own business gets melted out of nowhere. The Rhodaleaf has been moved from the second screen, and so I get to work on the Preligard's bestiary entry, the Onoman too. Some of the Mortar Burnblessed now has low visibility, and so any enemies not illuminated by the lava are almost invisible in the shadows. 3 minutes into this grind, Adol reaches level 26. It takes me 8 total minutes working on both at once for the Onoman to have the completed entry. About 20 seconds later, the Preligard is completed too. Onto the second screen, and a lot more holes have been made in the ground on Chronicles, even screens that are mostly the same. On the first screen with Skolan, if I talk to one as a Roo, it will wonder if Ruber is doing as he was told, then tells me to check because it can't be asked. I then get to work on grinding for the Skolan's entry. But not long in, I run low on MP and have to walk back to Lance to rest. Since I have well over the 8,000 gold required, I buy some plate mail from Guido. One run back through the ice ridge and I'm back. 3 minutes is all it takes to complete the Skolan's entry. Not long after, I also reach level 27. There are still some of these horizontal screens, just not as many. Onto the next screen to take on the first Durga. There's not many on this screen and a lot of space is taken up by Skolans, so they take a while to work on. Since this screen is the 1-2 screens before the colony of lava, I run into it to get it marked down as a warp location, walk back to Lance to rest, then come back. Takes over 10 minutes to get Durga filled in. With that completed, I can now tackle the colony of lava and get logging all of its NPCs. First at the entrance is Carson, who is the one who sensed the Roos near the ice ridge. Behind him is Noit, the one who tells me that the Roos were driven away by demons. His house is behind him, and inside I talk with his wife Rafa. She takes note of Adol's red hair and demands he leave. Who would have thought prejudice against redheads even made it up here? Of course it's not that. A lot of people feel unsafe around Adol, as Flon behind Noit's house shows. Next to her is Nash, who pretends to not be there. The house behind him is Taft's, but of course it's empty right now. East of Nash is Icht, who also doesn't like me. Further east is El and Favre, then Dari to the north. She asks Adol whether his hair is naturally red or if it's the blood of his enemies. Behind her is a house belonging to Rex. First I talk to his granddaughter, Chelney, who complains about not being let out because it's dangerous. She just wants to find Taft to play. Rex recognises Adol from Ruba's description of him. The house behind El and Favre belongs to a Fred. I log his wife Natalie, and then Fred himself. Behind Fred's house is Kasim, also terrified of me, and next to him is Meryl. Finally, I talk to Ruba. He still comes out with the same lie about the winch being broken, so I talk to him as a Rue. In this version, he assumes Rue Adol is a slave to the demons and is being forced to check on him. An added line is him telling me to report to the man in the black cloak that he did as he was told. Then I tell him that it was me. We get a flashback to 2 days earlier when Taft was taken, and the man Ruba was talking about is the same one from the opening and the cutscene before the ice ridge. While on the Turbo CD, Ruba kept Taft's abduction a secret. Here, everyone knows, which is why they treat Adol the way they do. I promised to save Taft and get given those Whisper earrings, but Taft can wait. Now that I promised to save him, the villagers are kinder to me and I can give them gifts, so I get started now with Meryl. She's appreciative, but since she's already married, she thinks Adol may have an ulterior motive. He does, the mascot. It takes just 2 gifts to get hers. Kasim next, who feels awkward. He says that people around here generally don't take to outsiders quickly. He's another one that takes 2. Gathering the gifts for the colony of lava citizens is a bit of a pain since I also have to walk to Lance Village and back to get them. I decide to put the rest of the gift giving on hold though, until I save Taft. Back to the first screen of the moat, and by wearing the Whisper earrings and ringing the evil bell, a Rue can just barely be seen off the edge of the screen. So I follow it and discover the entrance to the Rue's nest. All of these Rues have an entry in the notes, so I need to talk to them all. Thankfully I don't have to give them all gifts. The one by the entrance is Rudel, the one who tells me the demons drove them here. To the west is Ruki, the one that saw Taft being carried away. North of him is Ruru, who disapproves of Adol's name lacking a Ru pun, and declares him named Adoru. North of him is Bruce, who has a pair of gauntlets he made himself that he thinks makes him very distinguished. Pruto is next to him, pissed off about humans mistaking Rus for demons when they were once considered sacred animals. There's a tree in here and the Rhoda leaf was moved underneath. The Rhoda fruit from the colony was also moved here for whenever I don't have one. Taurus next to the tree will allow me to rest here for free. There's the sleeping Druzy and the little Tallyru, Bruce's younger brother who complains about Bruce's bad memory. I leave and take on the western half of the moat to save Taft. In the first screen on the way to Taft from the start, in the northwest corner is another iron ore lying around that I can sell. Topaz show up much earlier than usual and there's a lot of them on this screen here. 4 minutes later I reach level 28 just before I fill in its bestiary entry. The toxic passage is a little longer, I assume to prevent someone from trying to run through it with high health and survive without the Rhoda leaf. I reach the screen with the blue orb but have Magnutes to kill first. And they're now immune to fire, so I have to exclusively use the bump against them. This screen is no longer horizontal and the chest is all the way on the northern end. It's now called the Black Pearl and is embedded into the head of the statue. Grabbing it summons a huge group of Magnutes to your location. Since they can also spit fire now, I don't last that long. I die so much against them that I just leave the screen to reset the enemy layout and get working on the Magnutes bestiary entry normally. Even then it still takes me over 10 minutes thanks to all the deaths caused by bumping gone wrong. After that I have to run back to the Rue's nest to rest. Back to the room I found the Black Pearl and there's a herb in the northwest hidden behind this rock. And like that room, the one with Taft is no longer horizontal, with the crack in the centre north. I get introduced to Taft and Keith and I slip the Black Pearl through the crack, but this time the breakout is different. Keith breaks down the wall on Adol's end and goes alone, leaving Taft to Adol. I only get the slightest glimpse of him before he's gone. Taft explains who Keith is now instead of before the escape. He says that while Keith was very kind the entire time they were imprisoned, holding the Black Pearl made him much more vicious and seemed like a regular demon. Taft recognises Adol's name from his kidnappers and was considering blaming him for this mess, but since Adol showed up to save him, he knows he's alright. But now I have to escort Taft home. Like Fina, he starts at level 1 and I have to keep close to him so he doesn't get lost or killed. First, I use 7 healing items on Taft to make him reach level 2. Now he can fight. There's a carving on the wall from Keith. 5 days into his imprisonment, a girl reached out to him in a dream who looked just like one of the twin goddesses, telling him to journey to the Solomon Shrine. Through the prison door and this new hole to end up back 2 screens away from the colony of lava. Before I take Taft back, I want to level him up. Taft fights by throwing rocks at puny damage. So like with Fina, I have to weaken the enemies first and let him have the killing blow. A bit tough on this screen when there's a very aggressive Durga and Skolan coming for us. But one way to do it is to turn into a Rue and talk to one. They stay still while Taft can still throw rocks at them. This specific Durga propositioning Rue Adol. That's not an image I needed. One kill bumps Taff to level 4. Takes about 10 minutes for Taff to reach his cap, level 25. This unlocks the achievement, Personal Trainer. I could take Taff back now, but there's still another achievement I need him for. I have to escort him all the way back to the screen where I found that iron ore, and like with Fina, nudge him into the narrow space. It takes a lot of fireballs to get him up there, and also Adol can take Taff's measurements. Why? That gets me the achievement, Police are on their way. Then came a long, uneventful trip back to the colony of lava. Ruba and Taff are reunited, Taff saying he's fine. Is he really? Ruba apologises to Adol and realises that they can't just keep letting the demons get away with everything. He goes off to lower the bridge, and the XP gained from returning Taff gets me to level 29. Ruba lowers the bridge, with Taff telling me that past the bridge is Ramia village, but I'm not done here yet. I have mascots to obtain. I start with Taff, who will need more than usual because all those fireballs I hit him with lowered his affection. Only the fireballs, not the other thing. I discover a few more mascots I obtained over the course of this area. There's a Roo for talking to all of them in the nest. If I hadn't set him on fire so many times, Taff would have taken 4 gifts for the mascot. Ruba next, 4 gifts are his too. I then begin at the village entrance, starting with Carson, 2 gifts are his mascot. Knowit next, who wonders if peaceful interaction between humans and demons is possible. He at least wants to be friends with Roos though. Then on the second gift he starts getting all existential. 2 gifts was all he needed. Rafa is next, and she says she'll make sure the other villagers are nicer to me. It's too late now, it's already sorted. And you were an arsehole to me first, before anyone else here. On the second gift, Rafa comments that Knowit usually doesn't give her presents like this. Adol the Homewrecker strikes again. I'm glad for all these 2 gift mascots I'm getting, saves me the time gathering gifts. I move on to Dari. Her memory's bad, so with the second gift she can't remember if Adol was the one to give her first. Another 2 gift mascot. Into Rex's house for Chelney next, 3 gifts are hers. Then for Rex, who requires 2 gifts. Elle is immediately suspicious on receiving the first gift. She says she saw the man in black, who was actually wearing blue, and he creeped her out. On the third gift she's won over and asks Adol to come in close, but then proceeds to tell Adol that Flonn is her cousin and starts rattling off her height and such. Don't go telling randos all this stuff about your cousin. 4 gifts are her mascot. Favre is next and only needs 2 gifts to get his mascot. Natalie's next, excited over the idea of making her husband jealous. Just 2 for her. Then for Fred, who also needs just 2. Isht apologises for calling me an outsider and thanks me for saving Taff. He wants to grow up to be like Adol. By 4 gifts, this kid is giving me recommendations on which woman to make a move on next, saying Elle is a safer choice over Flonn. Well, Elle just bigged up Flonn, so I have no idea what he's talking about. That 4th one got me his mascot. Next target is Nash. On the 3rd gift he tells Adol that an older woman would be perfect for him. Did he fucking ask? Although given how this game pans out. With the 4th, he's really set on Adol ending up with a woman with no purpose in life other than to look after him. Then on the 5th, he's telling Adol that he's so faithful and that he imagines even women who look like the goddesses couldn't resist him. I get what you're foreshadowing, but I'd hope this guy is just badly trying to hide a crush on Adol, because otherwise he's going too into weird fanfiction about a random man he's just met's success with women. Then he gives me his raw meat, the 3rd unique food item. I eat it, so I just need 1 more. That got me his mascot, but I forgot to look at it. Then I move on to Flonn, who tells me about the Rhodaleaf in case I did this before getting it. A bit of info I wouldn't learn until later is that the black pearl I found earlier is the source of the demon's power. She says that if the demons get it, they will become far more powerful. Good thing I gave it to the only demon who isn't evil then. I remember to check out Nash's mascot. I also unlocked Tailed Taff for levelling him up once, and In Situ Taff for levelling him to 25. There are these big pumpkins all over town that can be destroyed with a fully charged fire spell. Smashing 20 of them gets me the Exploding Pumpkin mascot. Now for more special mascots I missed, I return to the Sanctuary of Toll. Getting healed 5 times by a single priest statue will get me a mascot for each of them. From Priest Hadal it gets me the Safety Charm, the Luck Charm from Priest Tova, the Study Charm from Priest Gemma, the Health Charm from Priest Mesa, the Success Charm from Priest Dabby, finally the Prosperity Charm from Priest Fact. Back to the Colony of Lava to finally cross that bridge and continue. They really changed up the order of the enemies here, as I'm only just meeting the Shelbanoff now. Gina on this screen too, also immune to fire now like the Magnute. 5 minutes to reach level 30, and 4 kills later, the Shelbanoff entry is completed. Jean however are so powerful at this level on Nightmare difficulty that even focusing on just them, it takes me 13 minutes to fill in their entries. That just leaves Galaldi, who has had a big glow up and looks far more disturbing than just being a big green face like he used to. Honestly, what bothered me more about Galaldi here is that when you enter his room, he's just there, already out, like he's waiting for you. Before, he'd grow out from the ground, which made him feel like a magical construct made just for this fight. But when he's been there for a while already before you get there, it gets me thinking about Galaldi as a living creature that does things separately from this fight. Then it gets me thinking what it must be like being Galaldi. Like, how does it feel being a giant disembodied head that wriggles along the ground like that? And I creep myself out. Galaldi is much harder in Chronicles than on the Turbo CD. For one, he's much bigger and takes up more of the arena, and he's faster. His worm things are also bigger and faster and can easily circle you to leave you trapped. He takes many attempts to bring down. Now Galaldi can only be damaged when there's nothing in the way of his mouth, so you want to lure the worm as far away as possible, mainly by sticking to the corners, then when he opens up to retrieve it, start throwing everything in it. The Hawk Idol is a must to this one, as it's too easy to panic and miss, so the homing helps. The XP gain gets me to level 31, but most importantly, I just killed this boss without taking damage. Doing this with any boss wins me the photogenic Lilia mascot. I move on to the last screen, another connecting cave added in for Chronicles, and on to Ramia village. Back to the Turbo CD, and the first person I speak to tells me that the demons attacked the village lately and kidnapped her daughter, Maria. She fears they're going to sacrifice her. Right after she says that, a bell rings, which she says is the signal to start a sacrificial ritual. One of the villagers has just been sacrificed and she is afraid her daughter could be the next one. An important note for later, someone talks about an old water well in Evan's house, or Reg as he's known in Chronicles, with amazingly good water. One person wants to sneak into the Solomon Shrine to save the villagers, but can't get in, wishing he could look like a demon to trick the guards. The house in the southwest of town belongs to Hadat, who says that his son Sada has been missing for 3 days, along with the family sword. The house in the southeast is an equipment shop belonging to Zalem, who sells the 4th sword and suit of armour, but not shield. They're both 20 grand and I can't afford that yet. So I walk back to Lance village and start throwing fire around in Gila's basement. A few minutes into this amazing money-making enterprise, I reach level 49. Now I'm a much higher level than last time, I can just hang out in front of the hole, throwing fireballs in and killing a couple monsters at a time. I usually make 50 to 200 gold per fireball. In no time at all I had the 40,000 gold I need, so I walk back to Ramia village and buy the hypercutter and reflex armour. Up the stairs on the west of town next, and an old guy says that Reg has been depressed since the demons took over the Solomon Shrine, since exploring the halls is his favourite hobby. His house is nearby, so I go in and prove it for myself. Yep, he's given up. At the top of the steps is Decker, or Gorto as I'll refer to him from now on. We know he's important as he has voice acting. He's already aware of Adol as his reputation has spread quickly. He says he had a strain and then the emulator cut him off. What he's actually saying is that he had a strange dream about Adol that included a young girl telling him that he must help Adol. He already knows that Adol needs to get into the Solomon Shrine, but he thinks it's too dangerous even for Adol, so he tells me to go ask Hadat for help. He doesn't know that Sada went into the shrine and tells me to let him know. So I go tell him, and Hadat assumes he must be trying to save Maria. It's not said outright until later, but Maria is Sada's fiancée. He asks me if I'll bring his son back if I go into the shrine too, and I say I will. He then gives me an item that will allow me to talk to him from a huge distance, the Voka Shell. Back to Gorto, and seeing that I had the Voka Shell, he unlocks the door to let me onto the bridge leading to the Solomon Shrine. But the front gate is guarded by 2 Zerots. They'll ignore me until I transform into a Roo and claim that I killed Adol. They see Adol's sword and hair and assume I took them as trophies. They tell me to report this to Yatai, or Zava as she'll be called from now. They tell me she's on the 3rd floor of the eastern half of the shrine and open the gate so I can finally enter the Solomon Shrine. But before that, there's a lot extra to get done in Ramia Village in Chronicles, so let's talk about it now. Ramia was covered in snow on the Turbo CD, not anymore here. Down the stairs and to the west, I can see that they've added ghosts to this place. I'll get to those in a bit. Near them is Frith, who tells me about Reg's depression. In this version he adds that maybe Adol telling him stories of his adventures should cheer him up a bit. Southwest from him is Maria's house, which is where her mother, Karen, was moved. Next to the house is Jill, who feels terrible for Karen over Maria's kidnapping. Around town are another small healing item I can use for gifts, crewberries. Like the apples and marl flowers in Lance, these grow back over time. West from Jill is the house where Gorto lives, and west from that is Hadat and Sada's house. Hadat doesn't tell me about Sada yet, and there's a locked chest in here next to an open one, presumably the one that had the family sword inside. Between Hadat and Gorto's houses is Rimara, who doesn't understand why her father is missing. Next to her is Race, who is the one to tell me about the well in Reg's basement this time. I go in the house behind her and talk to Paulie, suffering constant anxiety of the demons. This is where we learn earliest that Maria and Sada are engaged. Next is Paulie's husband, Blitz. He adds that they haven't just been taking people from Ramia, but all the villagers. Their daughter Tanya is also here. Zalem's shop was moved to behind Maria and Karen's house. I wonder if all the snow in Ramia was removed just to justify Zalem's redesign. She's also been rewritten to be a lot more flirty, with nearly every line being an innuendo. She's also much more generous with her pricing, as the Hypercutter costs half of what it did on the Turbo CD, only 10 grand. The Reflex had a price cut too, but not as much at 16,000 gold. With all the grinding I did for bestiary entries, I already had the money for both of them. I also get to gifting to her for her mascot right away, since I'll get to unlock another achievement. As you'd expect, her response is suggestive, like saying next time she'll give Adol something of hers in return. Not a discount though, never a discount. By the 4th, she asks if Adol has a thing for older women or if he's just giving random gifts to everyone. It's that second one, although I am certain the first one applies to the writer. I don't get how Zalem is supposed to be older though. Everyone who isn't a child or past middle age all look exactly the same age. By the 5th gift, she assumes that Adol is giving gifts to her as practice for someone he actually has feelings for. She's fine with that, and lets Adol have one of her crewberry pies. I eat the pie, and since that's the 4th unique food item, I get the achievement No Reservations. I get feeding crewberries to the ghosts to make them like me. It's hard because I accidentally hit them with fire too. This takes a few visits waiting for the crewberries to grow back. To the southwest of Hadat's house, they added a cemetery in this version. Down here is Mutor, saying that these graves are for those who were sacrificed. None of their bodies were ever recovered from the Solomon Shrine though. He says they've lost so many in the last 6 months. Hey, you know what was a really big deal on the internet in 2011? Here Lies Why So, the favourite customer. Chronicles is far more up to date and modern than the Turbo CD version, but there are times where its localisation can feel far more dated. And unintended because it's a few years before Ys 8, but seeing the name Dana on a grave was a surprise. Is Ike the Ageless a nod to Shadow of Memories, or Destiny if you're American? But an interesting one at the end is Keith, and we already know the Keith, the demon. Northwest from Hadat's house is an abandoned house with claw marks on the walls. Up the stairs towards the Solomon Shrine is Faye. He's very enthusiastic about Adol's adventures. There's Frau, a friend of Maria's, and the guardhouse where I can talk to Neil. He's aware that should the demons come again, he's the first line of defence. Up more stairs to meet Gorto again. On the Turbo CD it was one girl telling him to help Adol in his dreams. Here it's two like everyone else is seeing. Since Hadat doesn't tell you about Sada right away here, Gorto is the one to tell Adol about him. We even get a flashback where we can see Sada tell Gorto to open the gate for him. Gorto tries to get him to calm down first and think things through before rushing in without thinking and getting himself killed. But Sada isn't just going to wait for Maria to be sacrificed. Gorto tries talking him down some more, but Sada knocks him aside and goes through the gate. Gorto expects that someone like Sada is giving the demons a lot of trouble, but the Solomon Shrine is massive and confusing. That's where his doubts in letting Adol through come in, and he tells me to go to Hadat. But first I go into Gorto's house to talk to his granddad, Lloyd, who lets me know that Ramia was thriving before the demons showed up. This is also when I remember to show off that I have Zalem's mascot. I go to Hadat and tell him that Gorto sent me for help. That's when Hadat tells me that he hasn't seen his son in 3 days. In this version he already knows from Gorto that Sada has gone into the Solomon Shrine. I agree to find Sada for him and he gives me the now named Lila shell. Like Benoa and Lilia before him, I can ask Hadat for information on a few subjects. Asking about himself has him say that it's just been him and Sada living here, waiting for the time to complete their duty. Asking about Sada has nothing new, but asking about Maria has him tell me that Sada wasn't in town to fight off the demons when they took Maria. That guilt probably made him feel even more determined to get her back. Asking about Ramia village, and he says that the demons poured out of the Solomon Shrine 6 months ago, the same time the storm wall appeared around Asteria. Asking about the empty house has me learn that 2 innocent people lived there and died 6 months back when the demons first appeared. East of Frau is Reg's house. He's just as miserable as on the Turbo CD, but I can check out his well and drink from it for a free heal. Now it's time to get giving gifts to mascots. It's not like anyone's gonna die soon. First is Frau, who says she's been depressed and being given a gift helps cheer her up a little. From the 3rd gift I'm told that a bracelet Maria always wears once belonged to a priest. 3 gifts is what it takes for her mascot. Faye next, who wants Adol to teach him how to fight so he can help me out. With a 2nd gift he tells you about Zalem's crewberry pie, saying that she's a good chef but you wouldn't know it looking at her. How does one reach a conclusion on the person's cooking skills just by their appearance? 3 gifts to Faye's mascot. Then Neil, who spends most of the time trying to think of something to repay Adol with, which has him offer Zalem's measurements but deciding against it, which then leads to him being distracted by thoughts of her physique. He says she's always on her guard around him whenever he tries to measure her. Wonder why. Thankfully, after that fourth one, I no longer have to listen to his molestation confessions. I work on Reg next, who says I can have unrestricted access to his basement. I already gave myself that earlier maid. 4 gifts for his mascot too. Rimmer next, who on the 3rd gift decides she's marrying Adol when she's older. 5 gifts will have her share her favourite things in the world with Adol, giving him a crewberry. Her mascot too. Then for Hadat, who says that Ramia dates back to before Ys was lifted into the sky, and many people's family trees here can be traced back to the 6 priests. From the 2nd gift, he tells me that those from the empty house who were killed were descendants of one of the priests. On the 3rd, he name drops Ys' origin and speculates that there must be a connection between the demons today and those who appeared 700 years ago. Buy Ys' origin to find out. Ys' origin may actually be the next Ys game I cover. The Switch version of the 3rd game's remake still hasn't been localised, and I don't know if the changes or any possible new content are enough that I need to play the Switch version of the Steam version. And if I go in-universe timeline order, Ys 10 is next, which is too new, not yet localised at the time I write this, and I just don't want to jump to the newest game right after the first. 3 gifts for Hadat's mascot. Muto next, who praises Adol's strength of character. On his 2nd gift, he feels guilt that Adol's having to deal with everything himself with no help. On the 3rd, he worries about whether a normal grave for Adol would be enough if he died helping, but says that won't happen. Adol would probably live forever. We've actually known Adol's final fate from the very beginning, from Ys 1's PC-88 manual. Adol died at age 63 after failing to adventure to the North Pole. I'm unsure if that means he died on the expedition or failed an attempt and died of natural causes before he could try again. These games are based on the journals he left behind, which added up to more than 100 volumes. That's 2 NPCs in a row now that set me off on a tangent. Muto takes 4 gifts for you to get his mascot. I move on to Race, who offers to introduce Adol to her daughter if he continues being so mature and considerate. Then she threatens running out of dialogue. 3 gifts to her mascot. Then Paulie, who on the 3rd gift compares Adol to a little dog. 3 gifts to her mascot. Then for Blitz, who just needs 2. That just leaves Tanya for this house, who needs 3. Now for Lloyd, who needs 2 gifts. While revisiting Lance for more apples, I get another smoked meat from Theo and give it to Lloyd's cat, getting me the achievement, the hand that feeds them, for making all animals in Ramia Village love me. Well, it actually takes a couple, but since Steam achievements don't appear on the recording, it doesn't look any different. Jill is next, taking another 3 gifts to her mascot. Hey Karen, shame your daughter might be dead. Have an apple. She's glad someone thought of her at least. 3 gifts to her mascot. Now for Frith, who pretends to have helpful information in return under the wrong impression that Adol would turn it down. 3 gifts to his. That just leaves Gorto, who keeps telling me I can ask him for anything except for a list of things that grows with each gift. 4 gifts to his mascot. I finally let Gorto know I got the Lila shell so that he'll open the gate for me. On the Turbo CD, the Zerots would ignore you if you were human, but here they'll attack, and I am nowhere near strong enough to kill them, or even damage them. So I transform into a Roo and trick them into letting me in. And now back to the Turbo CD for the Solomon Shrine, where I start with Ash Veils right in front of me. Like Darm Tower, this place is a beast that takes up the entire back half of the game. Unlike Darm Tower, this dungeon is more vertical than horizontal, with several different sections requiring multiple visits. Each section is dedicated to one of the Priests of Ys, with this starting screen belonging to Priest Hadal. I start by moving east and going north up 2 sets of stairs. My first Bowcar is up here and the fire spell doesn't know we're on different floors, still hitting them on the floor below. I follow the path all the way north and then east to enter another screen, the Priest Mesa section. I follow the path east some more, south and east again to reach Priest Gemma's sector. Down the stairs and then east and north of the next set. All the way north and then at the end turn east again. Then when I can, south all the way and down more stairs. Follow the path around to the west to reach this door inside. It's a short corridor going northeast and leading back outside. I go south down the stairs and continue south between these 2 buildings. From there I turn west to reach another door going back inside. I go north through another doorway to meet my first Nashzar, but this one I can't fight. I talk to him as a Roo. He gets Zava's gender wrong in this localization and says she is currently in a meeting in the North Conference Room. He gives me a pass so I can enter the area containing it. Returning to the southwest corner of Gemma's sector, where I first entered, I go north between the 2 sets of stairs there and under this arch to another Nashzar guarding this gate. As a Roo, I show him my pass so he'll let me through. Moving north some more has me reach Fact's sector. Moving east, facing my first scythe-wielding El Endez, then turning north again at the first chance. West of the end and down some stairs find a pair of Berets guarding the conference room. But even with my pass, they won't let me in as the meeting is in progress, so I kill them instead and get in that way. The door is locked, so I use my whisper earrings to listen in. Some of the villagers taken for sacrifice have managed to escape, swiping the shrine's master key in the process, and if they manage to get it to Adol, it will cause them big trouble. The place is on high security, with only those who know a certain password being able to get through certain gates. And I know it now. While Zava is in her meeting, I have to take the chance to go looking for those escapees. Back up the stairs and west to meet the moving statue enemy, Nostal. I go all the way north and then west to find another door leading inside. North through a couple more doors and then east and south through another, west and south some more to find a chest containing the Peace of Mind ring, which slows the draining of my MP when using magic. I backtrack all the way to the entrance of a shrine in Hadal's sector and this time take the stairs on the west to the north. All the way north and then west to move on to Tova's sector. Moving west some more, I go down some stairs and give the password to the Nashzar guarding this gate, Adol getting one of his own rare dialogue boxes. While he opens it, he lets me in on the gossip that the escaped sacrifices have all fled to the nearby water canal under the shrine. Continuing west is where the first clawed Malokius can be fought. I turn south, killing a Malokius getting me to level 49. I go down the first set of stairs on the east to find this little room and enter it. Inside is the caped figure I've been seeing and hearing about since the intro, Dalez. He gives me one chance to leave before he'll curse me. I ignore his warning and step forward to the doorway in the back, so in response he does as he says. I've been turned into a Zolgel. I can cast spells, but I can't bump enemies. All I can do is keep going north and down the stairs into the subterranean canal. This place is a huge maze with 3 big sections. To start with, south to the bridges. Across the other side is a locked door, so I go to the ground beneath the second and third bridges from the west and move south. My next choice is between a doorway to the south or a bridge to the east. I take the bridge and follow the path all the way east, taking on the first squid-like Delpus. At the north or south fork, I turn south and follow the path south, west, north, south at the fork again, west all the way across the bridge, north, then west at the first turn and south, then west and north again to reach this door. I can hear a voice on the other side and they all mistake Adol for a real demon. They pile up against the door to stop me from getting in. Adol tries to tell them that he's really human, but they don't believe it. They want him to prove it by regaining his true form and coming back. One says to go look in the most northwestern room of the shrine to find the sacred cup that once belonged to Priest Dabby. I must then take the sacred cup to Reg, who'll show me what to do with it. So now I have to go all the way back through the canal the way I came. Back out into Tova's sector and up the stairs leading to the canal. I take the stairs on the west and continue west into Dabby's sector. I take the first fork north and go down the stairs it leads to. I get attacked by the speediest Tonberry lookalike, from the side anyway, the Trover. On this floor I go northeast to more stairs and up them. I then go all the way west and enter the room there. I can see a blinking chest that disappears when I get close. I now finally have a use for the light magic. Casting that spell makes the chest appear and gets me the sacred cup. Now to get out of here. I walk back to Ramia where no one wants to be near me. So I go to Reg's house. He recognises the sacred cup and this is when I can finally go to his well in this version. The water is so good from that well that when it's poured into the sacred cup it becomes holy water that removes any curse. He fills the cup with water and sends me outside with it. I equip the cup and use it to regain my true form. Well, that first attempt to storm the shrine didn't go so well for me, but I did find the survivors and can teleport to their hideout. So after I heal at Benoa's house, I teleport there. But like Darm Tower, the Solomon Shrine is so big that I'm splitting it into multiple segments. Now for the first stab at the Solomon Shrine in Chronicles. To start with, I run back and forth dealing with these Ash Veils for their bestiary entries. I really love the Solomon Shrine's music by the way, just really sells that feeling of single-handedly taking on an enemy base so huge it makes you feel tiny. It takes just under 3 minutes to complete the Ash Veil's entries, and since Reg's house is just outside, I can nip out and use his well to recover my MP. Right after entering Gemma's sector for the first time, I reached level 32. West from the gatekeeper there to a section of Mesa's sector I didn't visit on the Turbo CD. I kill my first Baukar here and find a door that the Nashzar guard says is Zava's bedroom. Inside is a Zavanite, a monster that mainly serves her. These are strong right now and immune to magic, but I do need to do every enemy and this one is alone so I can deal with her without other threats. Also grants me quite a lot of XP at this level. Then when I leave the room to respawn her, I can also take out a Baukar and Nashzar before I go back in. I get a good groove pinning the Zavanite into corners, and 7 minutes into this grind I reach level 33. Bear in mind a lot of time is spent waiting for my HP to refill with the Spirit Cape. 14 minutes into the grind I reach level 34. 21 minutes into the grind I reach level 35. 28 minutes into the grind the Baukar's bestiary entry is complete. The next Zavanite I kill gets me to level 36, the one after completes her entry. Then the next Nashzar I kill completes that entry. That's 29 minutes of running in and out of the same room over and over. Down the stairs from Zava's room, there's a door I go into. I go west and down the stairs, then south to end up on the bottom floor of Mesa's sector in the southwest. Going east from there leads to another room containing a chest with 2,000 gold inside. After leaving to heal at Regs again, I repeat more steps from the Turbo CD, the Nashzar that gave me the pass being replaced with a Zavanite. Use the pass to get through the gate into Fact Sector and get to work on the Elendes and catching a few Berets on the lower floor in the Crossfire, and even sometimes a Nustal. It takes 3 minutes of running east and west to complete the Elendes, so I head north to deal with the Nustal too, swapping between them and the 2 Berets guarding the conference hall. 4 minutes to complete the Berets entry and another minute for the Nustal. This time when I listen in on Zava's meeting, I actually get to watch it instead of just looking at the door. This means we also get to see what Zava looks like earlier than on the Turbo CD. I learn the password and get the now named Ring of Ease. Ease as in the actual word ease, not this game or the fictional country inside it. After taking another chance to heal in Ramia, I see there's another mascot I can get in there. Enter Zalem's shop, talk to her and leave 5 separate times to get the I Heart Zalem mascot where her back is facing you. If you really just cannot play this game without 3 pixels of arse cheek in the corner of your eye at all times. Now I have the password, I can head on over to Tova's sector and use it to get the gate open. But first, the guard is a new enemy, the Godrub, and he just stands there while I set him on fire. Instead of taking the easiest bestiary grind in a while, I have him open the gate so I can start with the Malokius on the other side. Not long after I start working on them, I reach level 37. Godrubs are also hanging around the southern part of this sector, so I alternate killing both monsters. But that's not all. Southwest from that room, up the stairs and west into Dabby's sector, I have the Centaur Alamods to deal with too. 5 minutes in for Malokius to be completed. Southeast of the last set of stairs I mentioned is a room with another chest containing 3,000 gold. A minute into working on the Godrubs I reach level 38. Then 2 minutes later, their entry is filled in too. Alamods next, with me accidentally attracting Trovers when I run down these stairs trying to respawn them. 5 minutes later, Alamods is complete, followed by Trovers less than a minute later. Since I'm already in Dabby's sector, I decide to get the Sacred Cup early. This time it appears on a plinth instead of inside a chest. Up the stairs leading down towards that corner of Dabby's sector, I take that floor all the way to the southwest to go inside, then northwest some stairs going down, then follow the next one south and northwest to end up on the bottom floor. West into another door, then west some more to end up outside where there's a chest containing a Rhoda fruit. Now to finally go back to Tova's sector and meet Dales in this version. He must have been bored out of his mind waiting for me. This time rather than a Zolgel, he traps Adol in the form of the Grey Rue. I can still fight though, so when I go down into the subterranean canal, I get straight to work on killing the Delpus. I make sure to try getting into the Runaways hideout to mark it down as a teleporting location. 2 minutes in, I reach level 39 and it takes me 4 minutes total. I walk back to Ramia to get help from Reg. He says that the well is something he's been researching for years. Even after 700 years of being in the sky, the well has never once run dry. I get my holy water and turn back to normal, though Reg did find some charm in the Dark Rue form. Now to walk back to the Runaways hideout, where we'll be checking back in on the Turbo CD. Now that I'm human again, I'm allowed inside. The first guy I speak to tells me that he met Keith, who told him that the road leading to the goddess's castle is being blocked by a pair of statues. If I find the goddess's pendant and touch a statue, I'll be warped to the centre of the shrine. Another says that while they escaped, Maria couldn't escape with them. The third says that Lilia is in the back room and has been waiting for Adol. So I go down there and talk to her. I like how she asks if Adol recognises her and reminds him of who she is. It hasn't been that long. It seems the demons managed to sneak in a group capturing people from Lance without being seen, but only came back with Lilia. But she was saved by Keith, who gave her the shrine key, which would allow her to open many locked doors in here, and she gives it to me. But then Adol hears a laugh coming from outside. The laugh has to wait though, as the game replayed Lilia's lines for some reason. After politely waiting for her to finish repeating herself, Dales starts talking. All he gets to tell me before the emulator cuts off his lines is that I've led him straight to the escapees, and so he petrifies them all. I looked up why I was missing, and he says that they knew too much about the shrine, and because he's such a nice guy, he's going to let Adol watch them turn to stone. Well, at least Lilia gave me that key first. I leave the canal back out into Tova's sector. I go back west to Dabby's sector and go down the same stairs leading to the Sacred Cup. But this time, instead of going up the stairs to the northeast, I go into the door just west of it and on the bottom floor. I go all the way west and then north to find the first door I can unlock. Behind it is a chest containing the magic of Time Stop, basically the mirror item from Ys 1 in the form of the spell. Then right after, I get killed by an Alamod because my fire decided it just didn't want to acknowledge it. I last saved before I spoke to Lilia, so I have to do all that again. Back outside and onto the second floor, I get going towards that southwest door I already explored by now in Chronicles. Down the stairs and in the northeast of this room is another door to unlock, leading to a chest getting me the game's 4th shield, the Iron Shield. I grabbed the Rhoda fruit down here that I also got earlier in Chronicles. Back towards Tova's sector, west from the entrance to the canal and upper floor is this door next to some stairs. Inside is another locked door, but the chest behind it has been opened. The Nashzar I talked to as Aru says that they've hidden the goddess's pendant from Adol in the far east of the canal. Back to Hadal's sector in the middle, and in the northwest near the path to Tova's sector is another door to go through. Following the path southeast takes me to the centre interior where there is another locked door. But first I go south to get back outside and do a bit of grinding on the bow cars. Eventually I reach level 50. But before I check out that locked door, I go back to Fact sector in the northeast. There's a door on the 2nd floor in the northeast corner that I go through. Inside I go downstairs, which leads to a locked door to open, which leads to stairs down to the east of the subterranean canal. Straight away is a new enemy in the Dipthaloid. From the entrance I take the doorway to the southeast, then east across the bridge, walking around the north end all the way east and south. Of the 2 southern paths, I take the one on the east and cross the bridge. I then take the northern fork against the wall all the way to reach the chest containing the goddess's silver pendant. Now back to the entrance and I go west and south through the furthest doorway and across the bridge. West and south through a few doorways until I reach a bridge, which I also cross to the south. Then east a little, south all the way, west across a bridge, and then north to find another petrified man. This one is holding a sword. We can safely assume that this is Hadat's son and Maria's fiancée, Sada. I then leave the canal the way I came. I walk back to Lance to heal, and I don't tell Benoa what has happened to Lilia or even hint that I've seen her. I finally return to the middle of Hadal sector's interior to open that locked door. Inside is the game's 4th boss, Drugar. It floats slowly around the screen, firing off 6 projectiles at once. I make contact with it once and drop dead. Next time I actually try it at full health. Only a direct hit to the face will damage it, and standing still to try and win a damage race doesn't work as I only take about half of its health before it kills me. After 5 minutes of constant quick deaths, I grind on the Nashzars outside. After a minute I reach level 51. It takes 5 more attempts, but the initial failed damage race idea wins in the end, just barely. I just end up in the right spot and mash just right to throw out fireballs faster than it can damage me. I go through the door in the back to find 2 statues. I equip the silver pendant and take the left statue, teleporting me to a small room with just a door to go through. In this room I go all the way northwest to go up some stairs and then take the northern door in here to a corridor that takes me back outside. Next new enemy here is the Forkless, the red beasts. I follow the path east, also meeting my first 4-armed Ruilven. Then north to go inside this building and north to the end of the corridor. But at the doorway back outside I can hear 2 demons talking, so I turn into a Ru and go out to talk with them. One of them had found Keith but tried to chase him, but he got away. The other one says that the key to the canal's water control is missing and assumes Keith must have it. From here I go all the way west and through the door at the end. To the northwest and there's a Geralt that's claiming to have trapped Keith in the area behind him. I go down the stairs and it leads into a 3rd section of the subterranean canal. I go south from the stairs and meet the last new enemy of the canal, the Kabith. Killing my first one gets me to level 52, and I follow the route west until I can turn south across a bridge and then another to the west. From there I go all the way north and across another bridge, then north some more and east across another. I go south, east, take the first north until I find another bridge going east, then south all the way, east a tiny bit and north all the way to finally meet this Keith I've been hearing about. But just before I can talk to him, Hadat calls me on the Lila Shell. He says that Tarth has come to Ramia village from the colony of lava looking to find Adol. I talk to Keith, who remembers Adol's voice from the prison in the moat of Burnbless. After he was caught and chased around here, he decided the canal was the safest place he could hide. He says that I need to get to the shrine's inner courtyard, so I need to go through this canal. He tells me to use the water controls to dam the canal so that I can get around on the lower levels, and he gives me the key of the water canal so that I can get to those controls. With that in my possession, I walk back out to Ramia village to find Tarth outside of Hadat's house. After Adol moved on from the colony of lava, a man in a dark robe who fits Dallas's description came asking questions about him, so Tarth followed him all the way here, seeing him go into the shrine. "You called me out for that. I already know about Dallas." After healing, I get going back in. But I suppose now is a good time to check back in with Chronicles. I enter the runaways' hideout to meet up with Boss, who was captured while in Rastini Mine. He tells Adol that Lilia's here too and won't shut up about Adol. Some escapees are new people for my notes. First is Kyle, the one who tells me that Maria was caught during the escape attempt. I start giving him gifts, just 2 gifts for his mascot. Noitch from the colony of lava was also captured. He's the one who Keith told about the silver pendant. I go into the other room, but Lilia is so easy to accidentally talk to being right next to it that I lock in the shrine key in petrification events. A big change to the scene is that Dalles actually teleports in for this scene instead of just being an echoey voice. In this version, Dalles words the petrification as a suitable replacement for the escapees since they don't want to be sacrificed. Adal is spared thanks to leading Dalles to them, and to see how he deals with his actions causing suffering to someone other than himself. I reload the save, and the only way to not trigger that scene is to walk in as a Rue, so that Lilia doesn't recognise Adal. That way I can talk to Boris, who says that Keith reminded him so much of the friend who died, and Ed, who knows that they can't hide here forever. Ed is the final entry I need in my character notes, getting me the Notorious AC achievement. I genuinely forgot they were Adal's initials at first, so my brain automatically assumed it stood for air conditioning. Giving Boris a gift has him say that Keith shares a name with said dead friend, the Keith who has a grave with no body back in Ramia. This Keith lived in the now abandoned house with his sister Marl, who also has a grave next to his, before they were killed when the demons appeared. He has a theory that the two were descended from one of these 6 priests of Ys. 3 gifts are his mascot, then Ed, who takes 4 gifts. I never understood the order these mascots are listed in. They don't seem to follow any pattern, not sorted by area or anything like that. There's still one more mascot I can only get for a limited time in this room. Shoot Lilia with fireballs 300 times. 3.5 minutes later I get those 300 in and gain the Chun-Lilia mascot. Now I can get them all stoned properly. If you talk to Benoa now, the game adds a line about Adal being unable to tell Benoa the truth. On the Turbo CD he doesn't give a shit and never thinks about it when he's using her spare bed. For whatever reason, at this point in the game, in the southeast corner of the ruins of Mundoria, some mosquitoes appear. If I lure them over to me, it gets me the achievement, Mosquitoes! Back into the shrine, first to collect the time magic, then to grab the iron shield. Where the pendant used to be before being moved, I can demonstrate the time magic, which makes killing nightmare mode enemies with the bump so much easier. Now for the second section of the canal from Fact Sector. I get right to work on the Dipthaloids using the 2 that appear here to start with. 2 minutes into this I reach level 40. Overall it takes me 5 minutes, but that was with a lot of standing still outside waiting for the Spirit Cape to heal me. Using the same route as before, I find the Silver Pendant. I also find the Petrified Sada. Something I never considered while playing the Turbo CD version, I call Hadat on the Lila Shell. Based on the description, Hadat can tell that it's his son, and asks Adal to find a way to break the curse. North of Sada, there is a hidden path behind the wall that takes me to a chest containing a second Salsetta flower. Next step is taking on Drugar in the middle of Hadal's sector. This time it breaks out of the stone wall. It's much bigger and much more spide-like than it was on the Turbo CD. Standing still spamming fireballs is certainly not working this time. But thanks to the homing from the Hawk Idol, I can hit its face from the side as long as I'm at least slightly to the south of it. Along with projectiles, it lays several eggs at once and I want to break them before they hatch. It's that part that keeps me close to Drugar unless it makes contact with me for damage. On my next try I lure it away from the eggs first before I go break them. It's not like they hatch right away. Turns out when I do it that way, getting normal uncharged shots in when I can, this is actually much easier than on the Turbo CD. I reach level 41 from killing it. I use the statue in the back room to be teleported to the west wing. This time, instead of inches from Keith, Hadat calls me to tell me about Tarth just as I get outside here. I start killing the Forkless on this screen along with the odd Rewilvan. Not long in, I get 99,999 gold for the first time in Ys 2, unlocking the Spendthrift achievement. After only a minute of grinding them, I reach level 42. It takes 3 minutes to complete the Forkless's Bestiary entry. A minute later, still working on the Rewilvan, I reach level 43. 3 minutes after completing the Forkless, I complete the Rewilvan's entries, all of them without being near them, shot at from the floor above. Not many enemies left now. Those 2 enemies talking about chasing Keith are Gerrars, so I start on them next. Not long in, I reach level 44. But taking the first set of stairs west of them down and going into the door next to them, there's a locked door containing the battle shield, something I missed first time through on the Turbo CD. It takes me about 4 minutes to complete their entry. Now down into the third section of the canal. Right away I get to work on the Kabith. 3 minutes into this grind I reach level 45, their entries being filled in about a minute later. I find Keith again, this time telling me he hid here because he lost control of his emotions. He gives me the same instructions along with the Floodgate key. He says he's going to wait here until he calms down a bit. Since he's here, I start giving him gifts. He comments on Adal's kindness, thinking to himself that if his sister were still alive, she'd be Adal's age. It takes 3 gifts to get Keith's mascot. With all this money, I walk back to Lance and buy the 60,000 gold elixir from Jade. This will revive me on death when equipped and is the only one of its kind in the game. You can't get another. Now back to Ramia to talk to Tarth, who is inside Hadat's house now instead of outside. He still doesn't have anything useful to say, so it's back into the shrine. And back to the Turbo CD. Back to the start of where I first entered the canal, going all the way across the bridges. I can now unlock this door and press the button inside to shut off the water. I get some XP, and at this point I really wish I had the map so I could just draw my route on it, because there are so many moments of me getting lost I'm going to be skimming over. But first I go back to the west wing to get the battle shield I missed. Okay, so starting from between the first two bridges from the west, I go south, west, south, east and down the steps into where the water used to be. I go east and then north all the way, under the middle bridge, then south under the eastern bridge. Go east when I can and up the stairs to reach a chest containing battle armour. East and all the way north through the arch into the third screen where I met Keith. From here I go all the way south, then west a little, south and up some stairs to the east, following the path all the way to a chest containing the Falcon Idol. It's just a straight better version of the Hawk Idol. And here is where I fix a mistake I made in the previous video. The idols only grant homing to the fire magic in Chronicles. On the Turbo CD it makes your fireballs pass through enemies instead of disappearing on contact. Just one of the mistakes caused by me juggling writing about the two versions. South of that chest is a doorway leading to some stairs back into the shrine. South down this corridor to run into Keith again. He says that the bell tower where the sacrifices are being held is close. After the bell rings 5 times, Maria will die. Maria can wait though, because I go back into the canal to get lost looking for another chest. After a lot of pissing about and misreading instructions, like about 10 to 15 minutes of it, from the stairs leading to the Falcon Idol chest, I go north a little, west, south, north and up the stairs, follow the path south and go through the door I see to find the battle sword. That was so close to where I started and I still made a meal of it. Back to Keith and out the door in front of him. I finally reached the innermost part of the Solomon Shrine, the Goddess's Palace. Up the nearby stairs and I face a group of my first Charont. These reflect fireballs, so only the bump can deal with them. I can go north, but instead I go west instead, discovering the Valkyria, the final new enemy in the game. At the end of the path I can turn north to enter the palace itself. Adol hears the voices of the goddesses who beckon him forward. I get in front of the statues and the goddesses tell Adol they need his help. The silver pendant allowed Adol to get this far, but he also needs a golden pendant to be able to reach the core of Ys. The golden pendant is owned by one of the unlucky runaways who were turned to stone by Dales. They say that the bell tower has the Dreaming Stone idol that can reverse the petrification. If Adol brings it back here, they will show him how to use it. They fully heal me and I now have the best grinding spot in the game, this narrow floor just south of the palace. Within seconds I reach level 53. The enemies are cramped in here and easily get destroyed when I walk into them, and when I do run low on health I can just run back into the palace for another free heal. You do have to listen to all their instructions every time. 14 minutes of grinding has had me jump several levels to level 59, with my HP and MP hitting the stat cap of 255. I've also hit the gold cap again, so I take the chance to walk back to Jade's shop to buy the elixir called a life drop in this version. The Goddess's Palace is another warp location so I can zip straight back there. I finally take the northern fork outside to reach the doorway to the bell tower, but first I spy a boss door. No dialogue to identify her, but this is Zava. She has these 4 blue bats surrounding her that turn red after I hit them with enough fire. Killing a bat deals damage to her and is the only way to damage her, her actual body is invincible. At level 59, my defense is so much higher than intended to this boss that I'm only taking a single point of damage at a time. Kill enough bats and it somehow makes her die too. I go through the door behind her to enter the bell tower proper. As I walk north and approach this first doorway, the first bell rings, signalling the start of the sacrificial ritual. Through the door I finally meet this Maria I've been trying to save. There's a barrier in front of her so I can't reach her. She yells at Adol to run or else he'll be killed like the others. Instead I go east and up the stairs. This is all a one-way path, through the next door to the room with all these balconies. Then another normal corridor before the next set of stairs. I reach the next set of balconies as the second bell rings. At the end of this room and into the next corridor, there's another doorway leading to a chest behind the same barrier keeping me from Maria. Continuing up the next set of stairs and following the rooms to end up outside. As I cross to the west, the third bell rings. At the end I go back inside into another tower. I run up some more stairs to end up outside again to hear the fourth bell. I go up the stairs here to reach the bell and find Dales. Dales is genuinely impressed at Adol for making it this far, but tells him it is too late. Should he ring the bell once more, Maria will die. And to taunt Adol, he drags it out by explaining the purpose of these rituals. The 6 priests of Ys all still have living descendants to this day. The meaning of the 5 bells ringing is to slowly break their spirits before killing them. That's when Dales rings the bell for the 5th and final time before he teleports out of my grasp again. I loved how this was done. There's no, what about Maria down below, or you worry about Maria. The game just leaves you with the bell ringing, knowing exactly what it means, and leaves you to walk all the way back down in your failure. You know what you're going to see down at the bottom, and the game lets you think about it yourself. On the way back down, the barrier in front of the chest is gone and I can get the Dreaming Stone Idol. And sure enough, when you get back down to the bottom floor, yep, there she is. No time to really take it in, just, you fucked it. It's so cruel and well done for a game from 1988 that it really took me by surprise when it happened. And it makes you really want to kill this Dales guy. That's 3 times since you've entered this shrine that he's got one over on you, while mocking you every step of the way and taking off before you have the chance to do anything about it. He might be the most memorable villain for me of these first 2 games, possibly more than Dark Fact, definitely more than Zava and this evil core I'm going after. On my way back to the palace I hit 90,000 XP, getting me to level 60. The only notification now is the sound, since my HP and MP can't increase anymore to show it visually. I show the goddesses the Dreaming Stone Idol, but one of its eyes is missing. I need to get back the blue orb / black pearl and put it in the idol's eye, otherwise it won't work. So I walk back to Ramia village. I talk to Tarth, who had the black pearl in his pocket, but there's a hole in his pocket, so it was lost at some point. He had it when he entered the village, so he assumes he lost it while talking to Gorto. I check with Gorto, but all he can remember is a man in a black cape picking something up off the ground. Fucking Dales again. While Gorto has my attention, he lets me know of his concerns, because he can feel the air warming. He thinks Ys may be lowering back to the earth, but can't comprehend it actually happening. Well, now to search for Shrine to find where Dales put that pearl. It's in the conference hall in Fact Sector. Now that the meetings are over, and with Zava's death they're not having another, I can walk right in and open the chest to get it back. I return to the goddesses and put the black pearl into the idol, making it creepily glow. To use it I have to go all the way back up to the top of the bell tower and hold the idol up to the skies. They say that the final battle nears, and they have told the descendants of the 6 priests to gather at Ysa's core, and that I must join them as soon as I can. When I return to the bell tower, I see that Maria's body is gone. At this point we can only assume it was moved to get ready for the next sacrifice. I reach the bell at the top and hold out the Dreaming Stone Idol. The eyes glow and I gain 2000 XP. With the curse undone, I walk back to the runaways' hideout. One of the cured runaways tells me that when they were locked in the bell tower, a dove flew in with a pendant and a letter around its leg. The letter was to Adol from Dr. Flare. He found the pendant in one of the divine areas and wanted to give it to me. And so I obtained the golden pendant. Another tells me that the core of Ys can be reached in the canal, while another could also see mountains from his cell and also thinks Ys may be falling. Lilia is long gone however, taking off before the others woke up. I then spend a few minutes getting lost trying to find Sada again, who is also cured. In this version, Maria is only his girlfriend, not fiancée. He tried to find her, but was found by Dales and turned to stone like the others. Adol has to tell him that Maria was sacrificed. He doesn't hold Adol's failure against him though, certain Adol did everything he could. Since he has no need to be in the shrine anymore, he lets Adol have his family sword to show appreciation for everything he's done. He says I should also check in with his father, as they found some great armour in the shrine a while ago that they keep in their house. He gives me the Cleria sword the priest told me I needed all the way back in the Sanctuary of Toll. So I walk back to Ramia and go back to Hadat's house. Seeing me wielding his family sword, he knows I've met Sada and now knows that he is safe. In return he lets Adol have the Cleria armour. For the next step I have to return to where I fought Drugar in Hadal's sector and go back to the goddess statues. With the golden pendant equipped, I can touch the right statue to be sent to some more stairs back into the subterranean canal. Not a new screen, this is the one where I found the silver pendant. This gives me a mostly straightforward journey south until I reach this door, and behind it is more stairs going down. They lead to another boss door. And behind it is the room we saw Dales in during the game's opening, with the crystal on the wall in the back. And now I finally get to take on Dales. He has 4 flames circle him that all shoot off in different directions when he teleports. I just have to avoid the flames and walk into him. Hell, I don't even have to avoid the flames, my defense is so high they're of no real threat. My health goes down at such a slow rate while his plummets whenever he appears. It feels very good to finally make this arsehole go down. I hit 95,000 XP from killing him, getting me to level 61. My defense is now capped with strength just 4 points away. The crystal on the back wall starts glowing with Dales' death. Touching it teleports me to a chest containing the magic of shield, a spell that drains MP over time in exchange for making me invulnerable to any damage. I then go through the door here to reach the core of Ys. But first we have to catch up to here in Chronicles. First to dam the water in the canal, the water control room being so much more over the top than before. Knowing my way around a little better this time, I find myself the battle armour, the battle sword, reach level 46 and get the Falcon Idol. Now charged homing shots will also break apart into a large spread on contact. I meet up with Keith outside the goddess's palace and learn that the bell tower in Chronicles is called the Campanile of Lane. He also warns me that Zava is there waiting, but he isn't strong enough to fight her. Now outside the palace I can start on the Caront and Valkyria. They're still strong though, and the Valkyria are absurdly fast, almost adult speed. I die once on the way to the palace to heal. But you know what a good spell is that I never once used on the Turbo CD? Time Stop. When an enemy freezes in place, it doesn't matter where I bump them from. The constant usage on every enemy does burn through my MP, but I'm right next to a free heal so it's fine. The palace interior just kept the Solomon Shrines music on the Turbo CD, but here they added a nice new arrangement of the Ys 1 title screen music. We even get a small look at the goddesses blinking in and out, and if you hadn't figured it out by now, you should from this. They have nothing new to say, other than that the Dreaming Idol dropped the stone from its name between versions. Now it's time to work on those bestiary entries. 3 minutes in I reach level 47. A minute later the Caront is completed with the Valkyria joining it not long after. Just one enemy left to fill in the entries for now. And it's those Zerats at the shrine's front gates. But even at level 47 with the second best weapon in the game, I still can't damage them. I reach level 48 then on my way to the Campanile of Lane. This time Zava actually speaks to me. She doesn't say much, just complains about me messing with their plans and throws out a few threats. She turns her 2 Zava Knights into the bats I need to shoot. Only 2 bats to start with, but they have better mobility and can shoot a projectile spread of their own. Plus they're a lot more durable, so I die without taking out a single one of them. A charged shot sends a bat back, so it's best to try and pin them in the corners so they can't fly around you and you can keep unloading on them. After I kill the first 2 bats, she sends out 3 next. Kill those 3 and she sends out her usual 4 from the Turbo CD. It's these hectic fights with shit flying everywhere where Protectors works so well as a boss theme. Take out the 4 and Zava gets involved herself. She actually starts moving while firing a bullet hell's worth of projectiles out from her arse. It gets very close because dodging them all is so hard, but I just keep shooting and win the damage race. Her death gets me to level 49. I enter the bell tower and meet Maria. This time, instead of the barrier, there's a pit between me and her. If I don't want to run out of time, how about the spell that lets me stop time? Maria does not find my attempt at being clever funny, getting me the achievement, Time Stop Understanding. One tiny thing that improves this section so much and adds even more urgency for me is that the game no longer stops you to tell you the bell has rung again, just showing a text box while you keep running. That and Adol's increased speed in Chronicles really sell that race to the top. I get to the top and find Dalez again. He adds a bit more detail here in that the sacrifices weren't designed just to be used on the priest's descendants. Apparently those from the bloodlines of the priests are genetically predisposed to heroism, making them more likely to come rushing to the rescue so the demons can kill them. And if they're lucky, they might execute a descendant out of all those random people they sacrifice. So how diluted did the bloodline need to be for Dark Fact to be such a dick? And blue. He rings the bell the 5th time, the sky briefly turning red, then he calls Adol inadequate and pisses off, leaving me to the sprint of shame back down. But up here we can see more of Asteria below than we could back in Lance at the start. I grab the Dreaming Idol on the way back down. I see Maria's lifeless body over that pit and have to leave. When I go back out into the Goddess's Palace area, the music has changed to a new track. It's a more actiony theme than what the shrine had before. This could either be to signal that we're nearing the final battle, or it could be Adol's anger at what happened to Maria, considering it starts playing right after her death. Either explanation works for me. While I do prefer the shrine's normal theme, this works really well when you're time-stop massacring demons. I show the idol to the goddesses to have them tell me to find the Black Pearl. I then spend a few minutes grinding my way to level 50. I check in with Tarth and have him realise he lost the Black Pearl, then talk to Gorto to find out that Dallas the Dickhead found it. Even at level 50, I still can't damage the Zerats. They will tell me that Dallas put something in the conference room though. So I go recover the Black Pearl, also on a plinth instead of in a chest. I have the goddesses tell me what to do with it, go back to the Campanile to find Maria's body missing, then run back to the top to use the Dreaming Idol to undo the petrification. The XP gained from this gets me to level 51. Back to the Runaways' hideout to find everyone having just woken up. Kyle is considering that Ys may be returning to the surface. Gorto didn't bring it up unless I have to talk to him again for it. After talking to everyone, Keith shows up. He throws them a wink so that they can all escape from the shrine and goes off ahead. As everyone thanks Adol, Adol promises to find Lilia and bring her home. Instead of the awkward Dr. Flare sent you a letter by bird but it went to some rando at the bell tower instead part, Boats found the gold pendant himself in Rastini Mine just before he was captured. Everyone teleports out and I go find Sada. I let him know that Maria died, and with his will to fight gone, he gives me the Cleria sword. He then tells me about his dad's armour. So I walk back to Ramia and tell Hadat Sarah is alive to have him open that locked chest and give me the Cleria armour. He says that the sword and armour were entrusted to his family for the purpose of giving it to the goddess's chosen hero. He regrets that he doesn't have the Cleria shield for me too. Now at level 51 and with the Cleria sword, I can finally damage those Zerats. When you kill a pair of them, checking their names as a rule will show the new ones to be the next in line from the same family. Wiping out 10 generations of these Zerats will get me the achievement, and your children's children. While I work on their entries, I also max out my money again. Eventually I complete their bestiary entry and get the achievement Demon Duster for completing all the non-boss bestiary entries. Going to Zalem with the Cleria sword and armour has her recognise them. She's so fascinated she wants to touch them. Remember that achievement for getting into other women's beds? Talking to Zalem when I did allows me to climb into hers. I thought sniffing Lilia's was weird, but Adol calls Zalem sinful, which I think may be worse. Turns out Rimera's dad is Kyle, and she's very happy to have him back. I can check in on Karen, who heard the bells and knows that her daughter was killed. Back to grinding at the palace, it gets harder the more I level, as the amount of XP I get per kill drops while the amount I need to the next level increases. 15 minutes later, I reach level 54, the penultimate level. I now use the gold pendant to warp to the section of the canal that leads me to Dalez's room. I think this is the earliest point in the series Adol is given his nickname, Adol the Red. So Dalez is much tougher in this version. He's surrounded by his 4 flaming rocks, but he's also shooting a million projectiles everywhere to make it almost impossible to get in to hit him without taking damage. He also gets a new boss theme just for him. He's important enough to deserve it, I think. I die first time, and the next few times. The solution is to not run face first into every projectile hoping I can get through and hit him. I stay away and try to avoid them while waiting for him to stop. That gives me a split second to run into him before he teleports away and starts again. His flames will also try to fly into you after he teleports as well, so watch out for that. Even at such a high level, he takes 200 HP from me before I kill him again. He gives me enough XP to get me to level 55, the level cap in Chronicles. I use the crystal to teleport, grab the shield magic from the chest, and head on into the core of Ys. Back to the Turbo CD to finish this version off. Tarth is in the first room of the core. He says he doesn't have time to explain and they need to get further into the core as everyone is waiting for them. Through the door and I follow the path to find a very much alive Maria. After Adol thought she died, Keith took her from the Campanile and brought her here. He said that there were fragments of the broken bracelet near her body. The bracelet, which I know from Chronicles to be passed down from a priest, was magic of some kind and absorbed the energy that would have killed her. Into the next room and I find a dead end. I go back the way I came for a wall to break open, Keith shouting me through. I go in and talk to him. He says going down this passage will take me to the goddesses and that Gorto is further ahead to help me. I do as he says and move into the next room where Gorto is stood next to a barrier. He thinks the goddesses must be behind that barrier but doesn't know how to get past it. I go look and Adol spots something run around the corner. I follow the path to the end to find Lilia. From her point of view, at the time of the petrification and undoing, Adol just disappeared in front of her, so she went to go look for him. But on her way she ran into a pair of girls who gave her a ring to give to Adol. She gives me the goddess's ring, which increases strength and defense a little more and will weaken the evil core. I touch the ring to the barrier to get rid of it and keep moving forward. The next room has the twin goddesses inside, trapped under some kind of spell. But this room looks a little familiar. I go through the door to the south and this is the room at the bottom of the Rastin mine in Esteria where I fought Vagoulion. Gorto was right, Ys has returned to the surface. I inspect one of the goddesses for a sinister voice to tell me that the goddesses are sealed, and without their power backing me up, I cannot defeat him. He almost gained control of Ys 700 years ago, but the goddesses sealed him away down here. He intends to make them pay when he is free and show Ys how truly terrifying demons can be. But while he talks, Adol hears a familiar voice behind the walls. The voice says that I cannot allow that and confirms that Ys has returned to where it once was. The voice belongs to Goban, with Luta Gemma accompanying him. Goban has Reyes steal the harmonica and throws it to Adol, telling him to play it. First I talk to Luta. He has the Cleria shield and has brought it to me, saying I need it to fight Darm, the name of the evil core and the one Darm Tower is named for. But before I lock myself into anything, I still have a level to gain. 7 minutes spent outside the palace, but it's too slow. So I start throwing fireballs into Gila's basement again. It's only 1 to 4 XP per fireball, but it's much faster at this point. 5 minutes later I hit 99,999 XP to reach this game's level cap, level 62, maxing out all my stats as well. and while I was doing that, I maxed out my money at 65,535. I also finally get that spirit cape I missed in the Ice Ridge of Nulshire. That would have come in handy so many times before now. And back to the core. I have Adol play the Silver Harmonica, the song Rhea played for him back in Minia to free the goddesses. I talk to the goddess on the left, and sure enough, she's Rhea. She thanks me for everything I did, mainly killing Dark Fact, who she recaps the entire story of. She says that when Ys was lifted into the sky, they sealed the magic metal Cleria beneath the earth, but it would be excavated centuries later, mistaken by the rest of the world for silver. That's why Dark Fact could only be hurt by silver equipment. Cleria is silver, and he wore a cape made of Cleria which protected him from everything except Cleria. She tells Adol that Dam is all that remains, and she wants Adol to use her ring against him, the one Lilia gave me, as it weakens evil beings. She blesses the Cleria sword, making it glow. I next talk to the goddess on the right, and of course, it's Fina. Last time they met, she didn't want to reveal her true identity to Adol, but now she has no choice. She says Adol has done amazingly well against the demons, but they will keep on reviving themselves as long as Dam remains. The power of the demons comes from the giant black pearl that granted Ys its magic in the first place. If Adol can destroy the pearl, magic will no longer exist and the demons will die with it. She gives Adol her love, and I go through that back door, making sure I have all the Cleria equipment, the shield magic, and the goddess's ring equipped. I go through one last door to cross a bridge that collapses behind me. The black pearl appears and transforms into Dam. We get a nice big close-up of his ugly mug. He refers to himself as pure evil, him and his followers born from the black pearl's dark magic. He says he'll crush me, and the final battle starts. Dam teleports around the arena, turning into the black pearl when he takes damage. The whole time I have these orbs raining down from the top of the screen on me. The shield magic drains all my MP in no time. So I'm stuck having to avoid the orbs and trying to make sure Dam runs out of health first. But I die before even taking half of his. You know how I said I made sure I had the goddess's ring equipped? Well, I forgot about that made sure part, so I try it again wearing it. This time my MP drains at a more steady pace so that by the time it runs out, Dam has already lost around 3/5 of his HP. When I actually do as the game says, Dam is no Dark Fact, and he goes down easily. The black pearl shatters completely, and Adol's maximum MP is reduced to 0 with the loss of all magic. I am dropped off in front of a door to a room where the goddesses and everyone who helped Adol through the core are waiting, them all being confirmed to be descendants of the 6 priests. Well, we already know with Goban and Luta, but not the others. Everyone has praise for Adol. Taft tells me that his surname is Hadal. For him, it was a privilege getting to see Adol fight, especially against Dam. He knew when he heard the Black Pearl shatter that he and everyone on Ys has been granted their freedom. He says he should be smiling, but he can't hold back the tears of joy. Maria asks Taft not to cry because she will too. Maria is a descendant of Priest Mesa. She says Dallas chose her to sacrifice specifically because he thought her screams of anguish would reach the other descendants and trigger them to try and save her. The bracelet that saved her life once belonged to Priest Mesa. While Maria is glad to have peace return, she still thinks of all those others that were killed by the demons. She plans to have a memorial built on top of the Campanile of Lane to commemorate them. Gorto knew that Adol was just the best when he first laid eyes on him. He wants Adol to come back to Rammi as soon as everyone wants to see their hero. Reg especially is starting to heal from his depression now that he can explore the Solomon Shrine again. He doesn't say it, but he's a descendant of Priest Dabby. Then there's this guy I've never seen before. It's Keith, returned to his true human form. He reflects on the horrible experience this has been for him. His sister, Marl, killed, being turned into a demon, thinking he was going to die in the Burn Blessed prison. But what kept him going was the memory of a sunset he watched with his sister, who believed that not all demons could be evil. She was really tempting fate there, as she was ambushed and murdered by them moments later. He apologises for bringing down the mood of what should be a joyous occasion. He also doesn't say, but he's a descendant of Priest Fact, making him related to Dark Fact. The descendants of Priest Fact really got screwed. One killed, one turned into a demon, one being the only descendant to turn out to be a prick when apparently that's not even genetically possible. Luta is next. He got to witness Adol's blasting off to Ys from the top of Dam Tower from the ground. He never considered that what he saw was Adol. He thinks Adol is just the greatest and thinks that Asteria needs someone as great as him to help rebuild the devastated country and inspire its people. He asks Adol to stay for a while and be that person. Garben says that he also had the goddesses come to him in a dream and tell him to go to the Solomon Shrine, that Ys was coming down from the sky. Then when he woke up and looked outside, Ys was right there in front of him. His house is right next to the Bag Ubaded crater after all. Actually, I hope no one was messing around in that crater for any reason, any kids playing or something. If they did, they're dead. But imagine if he woke up while Ys was falling right above his house. That would be terrifying. He makes a comment about humans being terrorised by our own innovations, as it was humans that created the magic that was corrupted and forced Ys to be hidden in the sky out of its reach. He also says that Dogi was wanting to meet Adol later. I never would have expected that Adol's best friend, travelling companion, and series' second recurring character actually had such a minor role that he hasn't even appeared in Ys 2 yet. Lilia was worried for Adol when the final battle started. Now that he made it through alive, she can't talk as she starts crying. Goban tells Lilia it's fine, as even this guy who just met her 2 minutes ago can tell that Lilia is in love with Adol. Adol moves on to Rhea, who says that they haven't seen any of their relatives since Ys was torn from the Earth 700 years ago. When she says relatives, I think she just means her and Fina hadn't seen each other. Though with magic removed from the world, the twin goddess's presence here is no longer needed. She thinks it's time that the people of Ys and Asteria begin to believe in themselves instead of relying on them. She says that before they seal themselves away, they will make sure that only the goddesses will be capable of controlling any magic that remains. Even as they go on for eternity, they will never forget Adol. That just leaves Fina, and everyone else gets the hint and lets them have their moment alone. Everyone else leaves, and all that talk of emulator glitches and how I put up with them to avoid having to buy a turbo CD and this game finally came to a head, as Fina's final words to Adol never load. The game just gets stuck on her staring at him. It wasn't a one-off. I beat Dam twice and this happened again exactly the same way. So I had to YouTube the ending. Fina has no idea how she can thank Adol for saving her from the shrine. She got to spend time in Zepik Village learning about many different people and their lives, but for her, the best part was meeting Adol. Thanks to him, she was able to just talk to someone as if she was a normal person. Before she seals herself away, she asks Adol to always remember her as the woman and not the goddess. And that is why, despite the many people who fall for Adol over the course of this series, he never returns their affections. Fina was the only one whose feelings Adol returned. She was the first one and it ended like this, so he just never did again. Although Adol would never be able to settle down with someone in a single place, he lives for the adventure too much for that. We then fade out and get the final ending cutscene. We see Ys where it should be, placed next to Dam Tower, with Lilia getting to see how it looks from a distance. Adol stands on a cliff with a Cleria sword embedded in the ground and looks to the sky solemnly. Fina and Rhea start the process of sealing themselves away. Lilia gets to watch Goban and Dogi tease Adol as he's welcomed back to Earth by the people he met in Asteria. The guys from the bar, the mayor of Zepik, Jebba, Lisa. Fina and Rhea finish sealing themselves away, turning to stone and locking the entrance to Ys's core forever. Everyone stands in front of the Rhoda tree as I think Lilia is giving Adol a kiss. We then get a nice pan over what the combined countries of Ys and Asteria now look like. Ys Book 1 and 2 is, I think, the best RPG I've played from the 80s so far, and probably the best action-adventure game I've played from that time too. There is a bit of jank, especially in Ys 2 with the fireball knockback thing, but the rest of it all works so well. It's not too slow for someone who didn't grow up with the 80s games. It tells a decent enough story that's neither too simple it's barely there, nor too complex that it either can't be localised effectively or just can't be fitting at all. And the Solomon Shrine was a blast. Having the final dungeon be this huge compound that you're constantly having to make your way around, gaining minor victories to make up for the constant losses you're facing there, needing to get yourself out and take it back on numerous times, I really liked it. If this is how I felt playing this game 3.5 decades after its release, I wish I could have played it as a kid, because it probably would have been a very formative game for me. But we're not done yet, we have to finish the game on Chronicles first. The core of Ys starts with a big menacing lift taking me even further down. I make my way through the same rooms, passing by Tarth and Maria. With Maria I have to talk to her 4 times as she tells me to hurry. She gets a bit exasperated, giving me the mascot Imprisoned Maria. I also start giving her gifts. 3 gifts to her mascot. I have Keith break the wall, Gorto point me in Lilia's direction, find Lilia and receive the goddess ring to undo the barrier. Things change slightly here as there's a teleporter that sends me to Vergulian's boss room first before I move on to the goddess's room. I inspect the goddesses and try to run through the door to trigger Dam's threats. Goban and Luta show up to throw at Adol the silver harmonica. I play it to undo Dam's seal on the goddesses and get the Cleria shield from Luta. With the Cleria shield equipped, I'll have all stats capped. Then I give Luta a few gifts to get his mascot. The same with Goban, they both just take 2 each. I talk to Rhea first, who says the same thing she did before. I then give her gifts too. She allows Adol to keep her silver harmonica to remember her by. 2 gifts to her mascot. I don't have any gifts to Fina though, so I have to quickly escape back to Lance to get some. It's sunset now on Ys, and when I go back to the cliff in Moondoria Fields, you can see Ys now joined to the ground again. I can also let Benoa know that Lilia is found and safe, just leaving out all that petrification stuff. She's aware of Ys rejoining the world and knows that nothing will be the same for them again. I warp to Ramia. When Muto learns that Maria is alive, he laughs at the fact that Sada is crying while making a grave for her because he doesn't know yet. What an asshole. Sada is down in the cemetery and I let him know, be rude not to. I let Karen know too, also rude not to. Then I help myself to Maria's bed. That's the third bed I can be a creep in, getting the achievement just right. Now back to the court to talk to Fina. Feels even more wrong considering what I just did right before talking to her. Talking to both of them has Rhea blessed my sword. I can then start giving gifts to Fina. She begs for Adol's forgiveness for creating this situation and having to rely on him to sort it out. She tells him that the best gift he could give her is for him to never change. 3 gifts gets me Fina's mascot, and now it's time to take on Dam, making absolute certain that I have all the right stuff equipped. Dam starts off as just a face in the Black Pearl, but then he transforms into a winged demon with no legs but a huge sword. The falling orbs are swapped with more projectiles coming from himself. The orbs now come from him too and explode on contact with the ground. I just keep ramming myself against him until that body breaks away and leaves just the pearl. It gains 6 wings and starts again with the orbs and a more predictable pattern of projectiles. Once my MP runs out from shield, I use my Celceta flower to regain it. Dam also has a huge energy beam it can fire, but this is also his easiest attack to avoid. Sadly, I get Dam close to death, but die on my first try. Not much to say about my second try, I just dodge better and this time I kill him and destroy the Black Pearl again. This time you get to see the magic leave Adol as his MP count decreases, a really nice touch. The final room is also much better, swapping the sterile blue room for a balcony overlooking Asteria and Dam Tower at sunset. I wish I could say more about this ending, but dialogue wise much of it's pretty much the same as it was on the Turbo CD, just more wordy. Those who didn't tell me which priest they were descended from do this time at least. Keith talks more about his sister, in this version her last words being that she pitied the demons. Keith knows what she means from when he held the Black Pearl in Burnbless. Mal loved to create, and demons are powered by an unending urge to destroy. Gerben's also a lot less blunt when encouraging Lilia to come clean about her feelings for Adol. For a little extra touch, when everyone leaves to give Adol and Fina privacy, Lilia is always looking at Adol and is the last to leave before Rhea does. Rhea also gives Adol a quick wink before leaving him with Fina, that's the completing nightmare. Well, at least I don't have to worry about any voice acting not loading here. And with Fina, I still wish I could add something here, but it's still pretty much the same. Except for the extra touches of Fina's facial expressions, ending with her crying as she says her final goodbye to Adol. And as she leaves, we get to see Adol think her name, one of the even rarer times in this version that he gets dialogue. And then this version's ending, once again starting with Adol and Fina's final moments together. We see Gorto bring Maria back to Ramia village so she and Sada can be reunited. Gorto goes off alone to tell Reg that he's free to explore the Solomon Shrine again, causing him to charge off there. Keith stands silent at his sister's grave. Tarf returns to Ruba so fast that he knocks him over, then tells him he's hungry. Gerben and Luta escort Lilia home to Benoa. Doug is here too. Lilia breaks off from the group as Adol catches up to them. We then get remade versions of the screens where he's teased by Gerben and Dogi. Over the credits we get to see the Ruse enjoying their new freedom, the sleeping one finally waking up. They take control of the Ice Ridge of Nulshia. Adol and Lilia return to the cliff where they looked at the Solomon Shrine together, Adol still looking rather down. The last shot being these sealed twin goddesses clutching the Black Pearl together as its magic flickers out. Completing the game on any difficulty gets me the achievement Damn It, with A Legend is Born being for completing it on Nightmare. But I'm far from done. Completing the game on Nightmare gets me another mascot, Swooned Fina. Mascots are shared between every save, and there is a mascot for completing the game on each difficulty. So I have 3 more playthroughs to do. I did most of these off camera, and went down in difficulty each time. This made for quicker and quicker playthroughs as I was memorising the layout of the game more as the game was getting easier. So hard difficulty was next. On a second playthrough they added a scene of Fina and Rhea at their own statue in Moondoria worrying for Adol's safety before they disappear in front of Cornell. Like with Ys 1, I used the Ys Complete artwork for my second playthrough. It's not bad, but I do feel Chronicles had superior artwork. The Complete artwork just screams budget early 2000s RPG art. This time I get an extra cutscene when I go to fight Dam, where the demons approach the core and Keith is stuck having to defend Tarf and Maria before Gorto and then Gerben show up to back him up. and everyone gives out what they're fighting for while they keep the demons away from Adol. Here's a fun fact: Darm on Nightmare took me 2 attempts. On the next difficulty down, he somehow took me 5. There's a few bits of artwork added to the ending with the complete artwork, just of scenes we've already seen. Nice touches though, a shame Chronicles couldn't keep them. Completing hard difficulty gets me the Maid Lilia mascot. Now to take out Darm again at the end of a normal playthrough. This gets me the Priestess Lilia mascot. By the time I beat the game a 4th time on easy, I knew the game's layout like the back of my hand, even that canal, and I blitzed through. It's been over half a year since at the time of me writing this, and I doubt I could do it all again from memory now. I get the Gussied Up Lilia mascot. Like in the Ease 1 part, this game also has a time attack for the bosses, and here it is. This one I do first try. Completing Time Attack got me the Fireball Wizard achievement, and then Set Sail for New Adventure for getting every achievement. And I thought I was done. But while writing, I realised I missed a few mascots. Lucy was a surprising one, considering I gave her enough gifts for her to give me food. Then 3 more that I just missed. First is Lucille, who takes more than usual because she's still mad I set her on fire for that achievement. That was half a year ago, get over it! I get hers in the end. When I visited Sada to tell him Maria was alive, I forgot to give him any gifts, so I get his mascot now. Then finally, Polo in Lance Village, another one I just missed. Getting his mascot finally has this game complete. This might be the longest 3-parter I've ever done, and to think all of Ys 2 was meant to be just one video. When talking about just Ys 2, it is an upgrade over Ys 1. It adds just the right amount of complexity with its magic system and combined it with even more memorable locations. But I still struggle to think of the two as separate games, it's so obvious that they were meant to be one. As a whole, all of my praise for Ys Book 1 and 2 applies even more for Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus. It takes a game that was already good and makes it even better. Adol's movement and speed, the jank being gone, that updated soundtrack, all the extras you can do if you're a 100% weirdo like me but don't have to. It has been a very long time since I liked a game I played for the first time on this channel this much. So much I didn't mind having to play Ys 2 4 times in the end. In fact, while the Turbo CD version was good, Chronicles is now going to be the current highest ranked of the games I played for the first time for this channel, beating Bastion, which held that record for the last 4 years. I've really fallen in love with this series over the last 3.5 years since I played Ys 8, and I definitely want to continue it on this channel and fill in the gaps I'm missing. And I'm eagerly awaiting for that Western release date for Ys 10. Maybe it'll have one by the time this video goes up, I'm making it 2 months in advance, but I want it.